He lived a basic life until past memories flooded back the tyrant Demon King, who once crushed armies and bathed the world in terror. Most people would have panicked, but he just shrugged it off. Back to the grind and leveling up. The guy is impossible to rattle. Now he's speedrunning dungeons fusing hellish mana with elite martial arts. But what happens if his forbidden power suddenly snaps out of control? The nightmare kicked off in 21st Century Seoul when a massive tower pierced the skyline, triggering the first cataclysmic shift in human history. Dimensional gates tore open, unleashing monsters that plunged Earth into pure anarchy. Yet, from the ashes, humanity's first awakened stepped forward to fight. Hunters organized into guilds, finally bringing a sense of order. But just as the world breathed easy, the second cataclysm struck with a vengeance. Total war erupted between the celestial realm of Elysium and the hellish depths of Pandemonium, turning our world into their personal supernatural playground. The demon sovereign Deimos unleashed his hell hordes upon Earth only for the divine beings of Elysium to descend and join the fray. Earth became a literal meat grinder. This brutal stalemate only ended when a wild card appeared, someone who was neither angel nor demon. Enter humanity's ultimate savior, a legend among awakened, who wielded power so overwhelming it defied all logic and human reason. He decimated the Demon King, forcing the war to a violent halt. Peace finally returned, shielding the world for nearly 30 golden years. Decades later in Seoul, a kid at the National Museum of Art points excitedly at a towering monument, calling out to his mother. "Is today the anniversary?" a voice asks. Meanwhile, our main character, Min Chul, scrolls through his phone, absolutely dreading his upcoming group project. Standing in the shadow of the hero's statue, Min Chul checks his notifications, wishing he could skip this useless university group assignment. His professor clearly has no clue how soul-crushing these projects are. Is this really how he's spending his rare day off? He watches a nearby family and smirks. The place is crawling with people. It feels more like a chaotic field trip than a museum. Kids stare at the statue, dreaming of becoming legends themselves. Min Chul just sighs, thinking about how some things never truly change. He's known this spot since he was a kid. He remembers a field trip 20 years ago, hearing his classmates gasp in awe. Was the hero a literal giant? One kid asked back then. Min Chul had just rolled his eyes, questioning if that was even possible. Their guide gathered them, explaining that even among elite hunters, the hero's raw physical strength was in a league of its own. He was humanity's shield. Without his intervention, the world would still be a burning wasteland of eternal demonic warfare. But victory came at a price. He perished after slaying the Demon King. This monument stands as a permanent reminder of his sacrifice. The guide urged them never to forget the man who gave everything. "We should live every day with gratitude," she preached. Young Min Chul was hooked. The strongest man in the world, huh? He vowed right then to reach those same legendary heights. Suddenly, the kids started grilling the teacher, asking if hard work alone was enough to join the prestigious ranks of the hunters. "Do we have to get straight A's to be hunters?" they chirped. The teacher looked visibly stressed, unable to give a straight answer. Back in the present, Min Chul recalls that awkward silence. He finally understands why his teacher hesitated so much in that moment. Breaking into the hunter industry isn't just about the grind. It requires a disgusting amount of natural talent and pure dumb luck. They were too naive to realize the odds were stacked against them. That realization hit his younger self like a freight train. His group meeting was about to start when his teammates suddenly sprinted toward him, shocked that he'd actually arrived early. "You guys barely made the cut," he deadpanned. He was seconds away from ghosting them and crossing their names off the list. They shuffled into line to gather data for their project. One girl whispered to her friend, eyeing Min Chul with hidden suspicion. Rumor has it Min Chul is a total tyrant in group projects. Last semester, he ruthlessly flunked a guy, leaving another girl crying. "He's a visual god, but his soul is basically a void," she whispered. Min Chul deadpanned. "I'm literally standing right here." He decided to ignore them, staring at the massive queue. Everyone was here for one thing, the grand unveiling of a relic. The hero's blade was on display, drawing massive crowds. It's been decades since the man who saved the entire world finally perished. In a world caught in the crossfire of gods and demons, the hero threw away his life to end the nightmare. He drove his blade straight into the Demon King's heart. Today marked the public debut of that weapon, the divine sword Calith. "Next, visitors, please step forward," the staff announced. Min Chul and his teammates filed in, finally getting a close-up of history. This was definitely enough content to ace the report. Then they saw it, the divine sword Calith, radiating an eerie ancient power. Min Chul squinted, a weird feeling washing over him. Is this really his sword? It felt bizarrely familiar, yet completely brand new. As he stepped closer, the sword suddenly vibrated and shot into the air. He blinked, wondering if his eyes were playing tricks. Did that thing just twitch? He looked around, trying to figure out if this was some high-tech museum effect or a performance. Suddenly, the divine blade lunged forward, skewering his chest. The phantom image of the hero materialized right before his very eyes. A chilling smirk spread across Min Chul's face as Deimos' voice rumbled. "Excellent. The Demon Lord returns. Who would have guessed?" Imagine meeting a peerless warrior in this remote dimension. His swordplay was absolutely divine. He demanded a name, but panic seized Min Chul. This was Deimos, the legendary Demon Lord. The hero responded with a lethal thrust. Deimos just chuckled, unfazed by the icy silence. "Stay vigilant, human. We'll meet again." Suddenly, Min Chul collapsed as his head literally exploded. He woke to his classmates, screaming his name. The museum air felt cold and suffocating. Disoriented, Min Chul sat up. Had he just blacked out? His skull throbbed like a drum. Bro, you okay? You just fainted. He ignored them, eyes locked on the ancient relic. The sword. It rose up and pierced me. They just stared back, completely confused. He'd passed out while standing. Total shock set in. Was it all just a hallucination? No, that divine sword felt too visceral. Strange, haunting visions began flooding his mind. 23 years ago, hell arrived on Earth. A dimensional ruler had come to destroy everything. Deimos Supreme, commander of Pandemonium. Why that name? That was his title before reincarnation. Time passed. The group aced their project. Everyone was hyped, celebrating their hard-earned victory. An A+ from that brutal teacher. Incredible. Yet Minchio looked like a total ghost. You've been weird since the museum trip, dude. You sure you don't need a hospital? He brushed it off. No hospital could fix a soul trapped between two different worlds. He tried to leave, but a friend stopped him. Where to? The party's just starting. He declined the drinks. His friends were baffled. A celebration, that was the last thing on his mind. He was supposed to be a nobody, an average guy. But his head was total chaos. The truth was a nightmare. He was the reincarnation of the world-ending Demon King. He spent his life loathing that monster. Now he was that monster, trapped in a weakling's body. No powers, just cursed memories. Why now? And how did the Demon King even die? That body on Earth was just a vessel. His spirit should have returned to hell. Instead, both he and the hero perished together. It made no sense. Why dwell on it? Overthinking was a waste of time. He needed a plan for his current pathetic state. The gap between Deimos and Minchiel was mana. For gods breathing, it is easier than walking. Mortals rarely sense it. But he knew the secret. Deep breaths. Focus your soul. He followed the ancient rhythm. Suddenly, a system screen flickered. Mana sensed. Conditions met. Was his power finally returning? More windows appeared. The awakening had officially begun. Entering the Akashic records. The system searched for a skill worthy of a king's soul. Unique player ability, granted. Minchiel stood there, stunned. Was it really this easy to level up? He slumped onto a bench, exhausted. Past life trauma plus an awakening. This was pure insanity. Laugh or cry, he didn't know. Then status window unlocked. Time to check the stats. He whispered the command. A holographic screen burned into the air, revealing his hidden potential. Rank S. But there was a catch, a limitation. His karma was powerful enough to rewrite reality. Defeat monsters, earn points, and change the laws of nature. Is this a literal game? He realized the truth. Dimensions are divided by karma. Higher beings are simply built different. Their massive power creates a chasm. To enter lower worlds, they need a temporary host. It's a cosmic safety lock for balance. But Deimos, he had the power to break it. He could shatter the laws of the universe. His limits were about to be erased. Is power just a game of numbers? High karma means god-tier strength. Low karma, pure weakness. That's why dimensional travel requires an avatar. The universe demands balance through strict cosmic laws. These are the rules of existence. But if he can change them, he can transcend everything. It's a cosmic safety lock for balance. These are the dimensional laws. Deimos used a vessel, but can he rewrite the rules? He's about to exceed every limit. Stripped of his throne, Minchul is just a regular human with zero influence. The realms of Pandemonium and Elysium have already signed a truce. Reparations were paid. If a world still reeling from the cataclysm hears whispers of the Demon King's return, total anarchy will erupt once more. He must maintain his cover as an average Joe named Min Chul. That is the new reality. He will exploit his past life knowledge to level up. Once he regains his power, he intends to lead humanity to prosperity. Isn't that a solid plan? His old goal was just pure strength, so this hits two birds with one stone. Now, step 1 involves mastering magic. The memories of Deimos are packed with forbidden methods to skyrocket his mana reserves. He dives into the research. Under the cover of night, Minchul reaches a clearing and carves a massive mana gathering array. A system alert pings circle technique rank S completion, 100%. He realizes this is the legendary array passed down through generations of Demon Kings. It funnels raw mana by sucking it from the very air itself. Without a proper catalyst, the circle remains dormant for now. But what if he supplies a power source? As soon as he places a magic item within the array, glowing runes ignite. A notification confirms that an E-rank mana stone has successfully activated the mana circle. Sensing the fuel, the circle roars to life. His magical output surges by 450%, with a 5-minute duration. He enters a meditation stance, noting that the mana density is becoming insanely thick, enough to be seen clearly. This is the ultimate setup for pranayama. He must inhale the ambient mana through deep breaths, and lock it deep within his core. While basic pranayama is common knowledge, he is targeting a legendary breathing style that manifests a mini cosmos within his soul by devouring starlight. In his past life, as Deimos, he forged a pact with a celestial demon and crossed into the Murim dimension. There, he mastered a primordial spiritual art, a secret forbidden to all but the absolute masters of the demonic cult, the star system technique. Remaining there, for years he refined countless martial arts, eventually evolving them into a singular devastating power that eclipsed the standard demonic combat style. He conquered the demon realm's peak specifically through these martial arts. The path forward is clear. He floods his being with the celestial river. Moments later, the magic circle radiates blinding light. Minchul braces himself, knowing that a single lapse in focus would result in the starlight shredding his physical form. Suddenly, a violent torrent of mana erupts around him. He wonders if stopping now means instant death or insanity. A fragile human shell shouldn't be able to hold the star's fury, but his soul is that of a demon king. He can endure any agony. Eventually, a system notification alerts him that the mana circle's timer has run out. His star system technique has reached 1 star. Under this celestial influence, his physical vessel evolves. Strength boosted by 5, dexterity increased by 5, constitution up by 4, stamina up by 4, and magic skyrocketed by 20. Star system technique type, pranayama rank EX, no limits. This god-tier breathing art constructs a microcosmos within his mind. It channels cosmic waves from nebulae of both light and shadow directly into his consciousness, giving him total control over their power. Stretching his stiff limbs, he feels completely numb. He wonders if these techniques count as skills. A new system window flickers to life, announcing that the twin powers of light and shadow are currently merging. These rival forces collide to birth an entirely new energy. Magic is the universe's engine, while mana is its lifeblood. He stares at the screen, baffled by this cryptic cosmic jargon. Later, Minchul heads back home. Reviewing his status window, he realizes this isn't just magic, but pure universal authority. He's never encountered anything like it. The star system technique harnesses both the radiance of light and the void of darkness. However, as a former demon, he was previously limited to the power of the abyss. If this perfected version lets him breathe in both nebulae, through simple respiration, he is destined to become the apex predator across every dimension. Soon our hero arrives at the Hunter Registration Center. He knows that becoming an official hunter requires a mandatory permit from the association. Around him, some newbies are celebrating their newfound powers, while others are in total denial about their weak ranks, but he just finds the whole thing depressing. Once he gets his results, he spots a straight line of E ranks across his stat sheet and asks if there's an F rank below that. The clerk looks awkward, mumbles that E is the absolute bottom tier. Minchul just tilts his head, wondering why she's so embarrassed for him. Did she glimpse his secret? He scanned the document, eyes narrowing at his unique ability. It was completely undefined. Was the association's tech too primitive to measure universal power? He spoke up, needing an answer to one question. What were those parenthetical letters? The girl noted. They represented his true ceiling, his hidden, untapped potential. In the tower, slayers grow by harvesting monsters. Those brackets, that's the absolute peak their bodies can reach. Ordinary hunters are trapped by these predetermined limits. But for him, those rules simply didn't exist anymore. She whispered about Legends hunters who shattered the association's measurements to obtain godlike strength. He's currently too weak for the tower's floors, yet his skills are still valuable in the lower zones. She told him not to despair. He blinked, stunned. Was this girl actually trying to cheer him up? He wasn't bothered at all. Stepping outside, he saw guild scouts hungrily hunting for fresh meat among the crowd. They were desperate, tirelessly trying to bait newly awakened souls into their corporate guild traps. 2 scouts approached but instantly recoiled. He smirked. Had the news of his pathetic rank reached them already? A measly E rank. Gossip travels like wildfire here. Fine by him, it saves him the headache of declining them. To them, he's just trashed here with 0 magic. A weakling no top-tier guild would ever waste a glance on. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A formal notification from the association. Congratulations on becoming a registered hunter. The automated message blasted to every rookie. To officially hunt, you must survive the association's grueling licensing exam. The test determines your fitness for the Tower Gate. Location Mapogu District, Seoul, 240 Wildcap Road. Schedule the 2nd Monday of every month. He wondered, was this just another hurdle to prove his worth? 10 days left. He'd have to pause his level up grind and focus solely on passing this trial. The exam pulls random challenges to test survival and combat. With his current stats, failure was practically guaranteed. He needed raw physical power to survive. He hit the pavement, heart racing as system alerts began to flood in. His muscles screamed as stats climbed. He realized he could boost his power just by mastering his breathing patterns. His past life's memories were a cheat code. If he pushed his physical vessel now, the exam would be cake. By day, he grinded until his body broke. By night, he cultivated his star technique to reach perfection. 10 days was plenty. Give him a week, and he'd be a completely different monster. He checked his status. Strength 21, Agility 20. He was finally starting to look like a real fighter. Constitution 16, Endurance 18. Universal power surged to 49 while energy peaked at 637. Those glowing numbers were beautiful. Every point was paid for in blood, sweat, and absolute agonizing effort. Worth it. Time to synchronize the star system. He visualized the eternal collision of blinding light and void darkness, 2 opposites clashing to ignite universal energy. In his past life, reaching the 2nd star took an entire year. Now he did it in 2 weeks. His body was ready. He could finally master the Rogue Fist and Gliding Step. The 7-star Unknown Rogue Fist, a brutal combat style. Plus the Cloud Gliding Step for impossible mobility. The Rogue Fist was a basic 7-stance martial art forged by countless nameless warriors of the past. It required focused internal energy to harden his strikes. Simple, effective, and perfect for chaining lethal combos. Its movements were raw and foundational. After a grueling session, the system chime echoed skill acquired. 7-star Unknown Rogue Fist, rank C, type martial art. A weapon carved from his own spirit. Condition must control universal power. By channeling energy, he can explode his attack power in a single heartbeat. Level 1 star plus 10% limb fortification. It drains 4 units of universal energy every passing second. Physical output jumps by 50%. The cost: a heavy 10 units of universal energy per activation. He grinned, curious how the system would translate his ancient martial techniques into digital skills. Just like his cultivation, the system categorized them as skills. C rank might seem low, but it's a solid start. It's leagues below a star system technique, yet as a combat foundation. This fist was incredibly potent. He craved the high-level techniques, but skipping the basics was a one-way ticket to a shallow grave. Next up, Cloud Gliding Step. He'd never used this specific art before, but it perfectly matched his current build. It wasn't meant for direct clashes. This was for elite positioning, lightning-fast counters, and maintaining a perfect balance. He felt the flow of energy. Another system window flickered to life before his eyes. He's mastering the Cloud Gliding Step, a rank B martial art strictly reserved for those who can manipulate mana. This technique channels cosmic energy, allowing the user to drift like a cloud, while remaining absolutely unshakable. Level 1 alone grants a 50% speed boost, 10% more strength, and 20% damage mitigation. It anchors his stance while burning 2 energy units every second. Time for our hero to start practicing. He triggers the ability, and instantly a system alert flashes, confirming his movement speed is peaking. His velocity has surged by 50% at a steady energy cost. But then he notices something shocking. This isn't the skill he remembers. He's moving way too fast for a basic cloud gliding step. This is only the first stage, yet he's hitting speeds usually reserved for the 4th star. It's not just raw haste either. Despite the blurring speed, his balance remains flawlessly precise. Is cosmic-powered martial arts truly this much more potent than the dark magic he used before? He eyes a massive tree ahead, a playful smirk dancing on his lips as he prepares to strike. One punch. That's all it takes for the trunk to erupt into splinters, leaving him completely stunned. Can a simple strike really be this devastating? Reaching his past peak might be easier than he thought. Looking at his mangled, bloody knuckles, he realizes his current body can't handle this raw power yet. One more hit and he'll literally shatter. He's got to be careful. Fast forward to a bit later. Our MC pulls up to the Interstellar Alliance HQ, flashing his awakened ID to gain entry. A receptionist welcomes him with a bright smile, eager to know what brings a hunter to their doors. She offers help immediately, but he just finds the place as loud and chaotic as he remembers. These guys are intergalactic power players ranking among the top 3 strongest forces in existence. They're a merchant empire dealing in god-tier gear and abilities across every known dimension. Their reach is insane. Seriously, there isn't a single race in the cosmos that hasn't relied on their services at least once. You don't mess with them. They're basically high-stakes hustlers hiding behind a mask of strict neutrality, all for that sweet profit. When he asks for the manager, the receptionist looks totally confused. She asks him to repeat himself, so he drops a single letter, code R. That should do the trick. She bolts to find her boss. Moments later, Marchand, the big shot of the entire Union branch, appears. He's practically sprinting, making nearby adventurers wonder what kind of massive deal is going down right now. He rushes to our MC breathless, asking if he's truly the legendary Code R client. VIPs never come here. He begs for forgiveness, hearing this high-level guest wants access to the restricted interdimensional vault. As the dwarf leads the way, our hero scans him, popping open a detailed system profile. Name Marchand, race dwarf, age 31. Description: a merchant soul with a talent for sniffing out profit. With a strength of 103 and a money sensibility, he can spot a winning investment instantly. Our MC thinks he looks ancient, like a man who's lived through 1,000 rough winters. Life's been tough on him, but he's actually young for a dwarf. Landing this job proves his talent. To pull this off so young, he must be a genius. Though honestly, all dwarves look identical to him. Marchand guides him to the vault. Cross-dimensional trades usually cost a fortune and take forever. But this warehouse, it's a total game changer that makes impossible trades look like a walk in the park. This place is the Union's crowning achievement, packed with their most secret high-end tech. In his past life, he hated their insane rental fees. He never thought he'd actually be back here. Top-tier tech comes with a hefty price tag. To enter, you gotta prove you're a VIP or a legend. Only 24 people have this clearance, and their identities are ghost-level secret. Not even staff know who they are. His cover is ironclad. He presses his palm against the heavy door, triggering a high-security system prompt. It demands the magical fingerprint for Code R. Channeled cosmic energy surges through him as the seal breaks. Access granted. Identity verified. He steps into the silent vault, where a single mysterious item awaits his return. Talk about a missed opportunity. If he knew reincarnation was happening, he would have stashed way more loot. Maybe it was fate. He couldn't take this relic back home, so he hid it here, waiting for today. He snatched up the mystic pebble, a total sleeper hiding in the dirt. Black Star awaken. The rock cracked open, revealing a god-tier relic. A system alert flashed, new master found. Synchronization with the host, complete. Karma reset, rank normal. Type weapon, durability infinite. This thing is absolutely cracked. Forged from a dying star's soul, it's a cosmic tool built to rewrite legends. Shape-shifting enabled. Every new form buffs his stats to a whole new level. It's indestructible, but sealed. Our hero already knew it'd be nerfed for now. This relic scales with the owner's karma. Currently, its power remains dormant. He can't even tap into half its potential yet, but the basics, more than enough. With a thought, he shifted the artifact into a standard low-profile sword. He smirked. This cheat code would make the hunter exam a total walk in the park. As a martial arts master, this was his ultimate edge. Meanwhile, at the office, the merchant spilled the tea to Ellie. She doubted the VIP's lackluster aura. He looked weak, she noted. But the boss saw the truth with his own eyes. A VIP in a low-tier world, that's a high-dimensional being playing undercover. They used a human vessel to hide their godlike power. Something big was brewing. Ellie called out his greedy nature. He just saw a legendary golden opportunity. Money talks, Ellie. Now find me a pro to keep this client happy. She'd keep the intel locked down while monitoring the situation from the shadows. The dwarf nodded. He was betting his entire career on this tower infiltration. Higher species are watching this world. His spot by the tower wasn't enough. With this VIP's help, he was going straight to the top of the food chain. Exam day arrived. The license center was massive, a literal titan of a building. The staff announced their arrival. It was finally time for the main event. The 50th hunter exam was on. He grabbed his ticket and played it cool. He headed to the hall, but a swarm of reporters blocked the way. They were simping over Shin Yumi and Yu Song-woo, the two-star rookies. Are these guys celebrities, he wondered? The crowd was going absolutely feral. Rumor says Yumi is an ambassador's daughter with spirit-bending hacks. And Sung-woo, he already got a bag from the top-ranked Warren Guild. Warren is number 1. Everyone bet one of these two would carry the day. 10 minutes to go. The staff started handing out the hunter watches. Sync your watch and find your gate. The real test was about to begin. They entered a massive artificial jungle. This entire biome was purely man-made. The rookies were shook. A jungle. Why are we testing in a place like this? The announcer dropped the bombshell for the 55th licensing test. The theme, survival. Collect 100 points if you want that license. Your watch tracks everything. Everyone starts with a full energy shield. If your shield breaks, you're out. Total disqualification. No second chances. Smart setup, he thought. They really covered all the bases for this trial. 3 paths: slay, 50 mobs, raid the boss, or hunt your rivals. He looked around at the armed hunters. Every single person was now an enemy. Time to lock in. Most examinees were already sweating the point system. If you can't farm mobs, you have to farm other players. It's brutal. People started teaming up, but he worked alone. He was going straight for the boss. Deep in the emerald abyss, he smirked. No fights. Where's the fun in that? He craved the lethal melody of clashing steel, the perfect way to scout the competition. Suddenly, a massive black panther lunged. Our hero just grinned, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Summoning his black star spear, he prepared to strike. A glowing system window flickered before him. Primal universal energy flooded his body. He was now a vessel for pure celestial power. Stats exploded by 40%. Activating sliding cloud step, he blurred toward the beast. Though just a test illusion, its murderous intent felt bone-chillingly real and incredibly dangerous. Its hide was iron tough. In his current state, evasion was his only path to survival. He lunged, but a heavy spiked mace suddenly whistled toward his head from the shadows. He twisted away, realizing that lethal tail made melee combat a total nightmare. Creating distance, he baited the beast. As it committed, he unleashed the swift spear technique. Crushing strike activated. The system instantly drained 8 units of his precious universal energy. Swift Spear, a B-rank art reserved for those who master cosmic or magic power. Built for pure execution, it possessed blinding speed designed solely to slit an enemy's throat. Level 1 star strength and agility spiked, granting 120% penetration. Energy vanished as the spear blurred. In a heartbeat, the panther's head was severed. A notification chimed. He'd just soloed a named monster, the deadly predator known as Stalker. 10 points earned, bringing his total to 32. He smirked, enjoying the thrill of it. These monsters were tougher than expected. If this was a minion, the boss would be epic. 3 figures emerged. Kim Yong-jin, the youngest, pointed a trembling finger at him. That brat stole our kill, he barked. They'd been stalking that named monster for hours. Kim Yong-chol, the eldest, sneered. Kid, you have a death wish or something. They were the legendary Black 3-star. Our hero just stared completely unimpressed by them. Who are these idiots, he wondered, hearing battle echoes coming from behind them. Were they preying on the weak? He activated Eye of Truth to peel back their secrets. Physically, they were tanks. Their raw stats significantly outweighed his own current power level. They had decent potential. Is this bastard? Laughing Young-jin, hissed, his face reddening. They thought they had him cornered. Instead, he just smiled at their pathetic arrogance. I don't care who you clowns are. Stop talking and show me some real steel. Yunsu growled. We were gonna let you live. Now, we're teaching you some respect. Die, they roared, lunging together. The trio attacked with a coordinated lethal strike. The Black Star morphed into a dagger. He parried every blow with effortless fluid grace. Got you, they screamed. Their teamwork was solid, but they had picked the wrong target. He countered with the branch dagger technique, unleashing a storm of precise, lethal cuts. Flower Dagger ignited a C-rank martial art, exclusive to those with universal mastery. This was a legendary self-defense art created by the ancient masters of Haomen Fortress. It specialized in effortless lethality, turning an enemy's momentum into their own fatal mistake. Level 1-star successful parries slashed enemy power by 30%, leaving them wide open. Consuming 8 energy units, critical hits added a massive 50% damage bonus. Under the relentless pressure, Young-jin screamed, "Someone get this monster off me." He was too close for magic. Suddenly, a spear whistled past, thrown by the eldest brother. Back off, my brother, Yong Chul roared, fire magic swirling around his fists in fury. You're dead, he screamed. Our hero just smirked, manifesting a massive glowing blade. Activating 5 Tiger Blade, he decided it was time to end this pathetic little comedy. 5. Tiger Blade, an A-rank martial art reserved for those who truly master magic. Harnessing the very essence of the cosmos, this is the legendary signature technique of the Hebei Peng clan. Infamous for its raw brutality and efficiency, this style prioritizes absolute crushing force over flashy movements. Lunging forward with explosive speed, our hero soared into the air, mocking Yun Chul with a cold smirk as he closed in. Their desperate cries echoed through the arena, but it was too late. Neutralizing him netted the protagonist 13 points. He realized this guy was a walking jackpot of points. Meanwhile, Yun Su watched the scene in pure paralyzed disbelief. Seeing his brother and his weapon shattered, Yun Jin felt a terrifying heavy aura radiating from their opponent. This was getting serious. Our hero stood puzzled, wondering if only one of these chumps actually held any real points. Given their pathetic skills, he wondered how much loot he could milk from them as he began his menacing approach. He asked if they were ready to meet their end. Suddenly, the commentator announced participant 450 was down. Yun Chul's shield energy hit rock bottom, forcing his immediate disqualification. The crowd of adventurers erupted into chaotic chatter. No one could believe it. One of the legendary Black 3 stars, backed by the nation's second biggest guild, had failed. A girl grinned, certain that Sung Woo was the one behind this massive upset, just as the guild leader predicted. He was the secret weapon personally discovered by Lee Won-taek, the second-ranked hunter in all of Korea. Under that intense tutelage, Sung Woo became the ultimate young prodigy, a monster in human form, destined for greatness. Even the Gamsin Guild's rising stars didn't stand a ghost of a chance against a titan like him. The announcer shouted that Yun Su's shield had been depleted, followed immediately by Yun Jin's total and final collapse. All 3 brothers were erased from the board. The camera panned to our hero, standing over his fallen foes. That girl cheered for her favorite star Sung Woo, but then she paused, squinting at the screen in total confusion. He carved through a few more fodder adventurers, bringing his total count to 20 as he moved on. Worried he'd missed the top-tier players, he began prowling around the boss zone like a hungry, focused predator. They were nowhere to be found, and with only 1 hour left passing, the exam became his top priority. Prioritizing the goal, he headed toward the only path leading straight to the final boss's lair to finish this. The trail narrowed until it could barely fit one person, leading to a mysterious presence waiting at the end. A massive stone golem blocked his way, radiating an aura of insane durability and incredible self-regeneration. A system alert identified it as a blue guard boasting 100 strength and the formidable tough warrior trait. It ignored weak strikes and healed instantly with magic once combat ceased, making it a literal walking mountain fortress. Summoning a spear, he questioned if the examiners actually expected anyone to survive against this rock monstrosity. One direct hit meant game over. He couldn't let up for a second, or the beast would just regenerate. Constant aggression was the only way. He lunged, but his weapon merely scraped against the golem's impenetrable stone hide. His initial strike was too shallow. A notification flashed on his screen, 0 damage dealt. The duel raged on. The giant swung with earth-shattering force, but our hero danced around the impact with effortless grace. As the system logged the failure, he chuckled, wondering if the golem was going to announce every single move. How polite of it. After those pathetic brothers, he was actually starting to enjoy this change of pace. Time to get serious. Saving the 5 Tiger Blade for later, he decided on a more direct, brutal approach. Vaulting into the air, he manifested a heavy axe and unleashed the devastating mountain cleaving technique. The impact was massive spider webbing across the golem's rocky chest. The system identified the B+ rank art. This B+ rank skill was reserved only for those who could master the flow of universal energy. It was the pinnacle of axe mastery, turning simple slashes into ultimate strikes of pure, unadulterated destruction. Each star boosted his raw power by 130%, consuming 15 units of his internal universal energy. A critical hit, but the system warned that a massive counteroffensive from the golem was already being prepared. He rolled away safely, grinning. Even if the damage was minor, he had finally broken through its legendary defense. He didn't need a one-shot kill. He'd strike 100 times if that's what it took to win. Suddenly, Yumi arrived on the scene, realizing someone had already engaged the boss long before her arrival. He felt a surge of annoyance. He was on the verge of victory. Why did she have to show up? If she unleashed her spirit summons now, dealing with both her and the golem would be a complete nightmare. Stuck between a lethal girl and a stone giant, he was playing a dangerous game. If he focused on her, the golem would regenerate. That would be game over. Suddenly, Yumi smirked and offered to help him take down the final boss. Our hero stared blankly, confused by her audacity. He had already sliced and diced that thing into oblivion. Why was she trying to steal his kill now? He joked about her wanting a free meal. The girl grinned, teasingly asking if he was too weak to solo the boss. Our MC realized she was totally looking down on him. Time to flip the script and turn this mess into a win. You really want to catch hands right now, he challenged. With 10 minutes on the clock, he could finish his guard. Yumi laughed, claiming there was no way he could win. Only 20 minutes remained. Why play her game? What was in it for her? Our protagonist smirked and countered. With a bet of 172 points, he wore a devious smile, knowing his hoard was massive. It was more than the boss itself was worth. Splitting the kill would net her way less loot, making this offer too juicy to resist. Yumi hesitated, asking what would happen if he actually succeeded. Suddenly, the golem started knitting itself back together. While they were yapping, the monster was healing. Panicked, the MC yelled at her to shut up and just buy him dinner later if he won. Yumi shrugged, agreeing to step in the second he started catching an L from the boss. Do what you want, but I'm not losing, he grinned. She frowned, wondering why this stranger was being so casual. They were total strangers after all. He just laughed and told her to drop the formalities too if it bothered her. 10 minutes flashed by as the exam concluded, and hunters began warping back to the main lobby. Staff rushed to aid contestant 370 who was in bad shape. Then they spotted our MC and sighed. This guy is trash too. Get him a potion. The MC exhaled, feeling the absolute weight of that battle. His mana and energy were completely bottomed out. That blue guard's regeneration had almost cost him everything. Talking with Yumi had nearly wrecked his bet. Standing nearby, Yumi watched him, her mind totally blown. Looks like she owed him dinner. He had predicted every move, countering the guard with god-tier precision. Could she even beat him? Sungwoo was just a stat check, all power and speed with no real skill. She could take Sungwoo again, but this guy? Suddenly, they announced the winner contestant 511. Min Cheol took the gold in the 55th Hunter exam. The scoreboard flickered to life for all to see. Yumi grabbed silver, while a fuming Sungwoo was stuck with bronze. He was losing his mind in disbelief. Paparazzi swarmed him asking about his third-place finish, but he aggressively swiped the cameras out of his face. He wasn't in the mood for an interview. Suddenly, the focus shifted to the real star of the show. The crowd began whispering, as they realized our MC was the dark horse who snatched the top spot. He needed to ghost them before things got messy. Too late, the media hounds were already sniffing around him. They begged for quotes, while he wondered if he'd ever escape. Finally, he announced he was looking for a guild. 5 billion, that was his price tag. Guild leaders scoffed, confused, why this rookie thought he was worth that much. His combat was fire, but his raw stats were mid at best. If he had A-rank potential, maybe. But who would invest in a hunter who had already hit his ceiling? He was a total dead end. Our MC just smirked. Their loss. He didn't actually want to be a corporate slave for any guild. Beat it, kid. Who would drop 5 billion on a cocky newbie, just as things got quiet? A voice boomed from the shadows, agreeing to the contract price. Our hero's jaw hit the floor. For real, someone was actually ready to dump 5 billion on a nameless rookie in one go. Who were these crazy people? He needed to see this madman's face. It turned out to be Martian. He stepped out and gave a casual wave. Our MC was lost. Who was this short king? Soon they arrived at the Interstellar Union HQ. The MC demanded to know what his game was. He made it clear he wasn't joining any guild. Martian just smiled, acknowledging that he already knew. He just wanted to make life easy for him by registering him with the Interstellar Union. He'd be a high-tier mercenary. The contract was all about equality, no bossing him around, just vibes. The Union wouldn't touch his personal business. Their only job, providing him with his own private gate. They offered a full squad and top dollar for every piece of loot he scavenged. He knew the paperwork was clean, but these terms were suspiciously cracked for a rookie. The Interstellar Union wasn't exactly known for charity. In this world, everything comes with a heavy price tag. That was their golden rule. Only a total clown would believe they were handing out freebies for nothing. He slammed the contract down, ready to walk, but Martian desperately called him back to the table. All they wanted was his loyalty. He smirked, realizing they probably thought some god-tier powerhouse was backing him. He was a VIP who had already played his cards. If they wanted to play games, he was ready. They were clearly trying to buy his favor. Why say no to such a massive bag? He inked the deal. Later, Ellie questioned if locking in this freelance mercenary contract was actually wise. Martian snapped back that he wasn't stupid enough to walk into a trap without a plan. These freelancers carried the same weight as Pandemonium's high-ranking nobles. It was time to roll out the red carpet. A deal this big required a green light from the top brass far above a standard director. A VIP badge wouldn't seal the deal, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime shot. He drafted his pitch immediately. Martian reached out to Knox, one of the Elite 12 directors. It was time to go all in. Knox approved the contract instantly. Martian's jaw hit the floor. Was it really going to be this easy? The director ordered absolute support. Every detail had to be reported directly to him and him alone. Martian collapsed in pure disbelief. This level of interest was absolutely unheard of in the Union. The VIP status was one thing, but that combat footage, that was what turned the director's world upside down. Knox had analyzed the tapes earlier. What he saw changed the entire game for the Interstellar Union. Every strike was perfection. No wasted energy, just cold, calculated precision that left the director breathless. It felt like watching the legend Damo fight again, but that was impossible. Damo was long gone. He rolled out of bed, checking his dead silent phone. Why the hell didn't the alarm wake him up? A sharp knock echoed through the room. Ellie was at the door, introducing herself with perfect timing. A certified baddie had just appeared at his doorstep. He joked that a simple call would have sufficed. He guessed she was the secretary. She insisted that some conversations are better handled face-to-face. She'd already sent a DM, but he admitted he'd completely missed the notification in his sleep. Looking at his disaster of a room, she couldn't blame him for missing a text message. He wondered if he'd just ghosted her calls. More importantly, how did they even track down his private digits? He invited her in, curious about her agenda. Ellie stepped inside, scanning the humble space with sharp eyes. She asked if he was cosplaying as a regular guy. His lifestyle was way too humble for a VIP. He figured they'd already stalked his background. She quickly denied it, claiming they weren't that intrusive. They didn't want to get on his bad side. While tidying up, he asked why they crashed his spot. His hunter ID gave him away. They assumed he was gearing up for the official exam very soon. Good for them. Their hands-off approach to his privacy was perfect for his secret plans. She handed him a burner phone and a black card. It was finally time for the real business. The card was loaded with the full amount they'd negotiated. Even he was shocked at their speed. The balance was insane. 5 billion credits sat right there in the palm of his hand. She mentioned the tax cuts, but he barely heard her. He was staring at the wealth. He asked if this was for real. Ellie just gave him a knowing, confident smile. She didn't expect a VIP to be so shook by cash. He reminded her that he lived simply. His spending was that of a broke college student. But she had another reason for the early visit. They needed to talk about his future squad and the specific rules for gate raids. He told her a simple porter was all he needed. Ellie's face went blank with pure shock. No tanks, no healers, he was a one-man army. He just wanted to know when the raid started. They needed a target gate first. He realized this whole process was going to be a drag. Min Chul was itching to put his brand new hunter credentials to the ultimate test. He'd just unlocked a broken unique ability that allowed him to level up like a pro. However, he hadn't even scratched the surface of that power yet. Ellie hyped herself up, claiming her talent would make the raid a breeze. Fast forward 3 hours later, she guided him straight to the Amsterdam region gates. We're talking a D-rank zone, temperate forests, stretching across 2 to 3 kilometers of pure danger. The local pests included D-rank goblins, thorny boars, wise monkeys, and creature eaters. The clock was ticking with 36 hours and 58 minutes until the rift closed. Our hero couldn't help but wonder how she was this cracked at her job. Ellie just flashed a smirk, basically saying, "I told you I was built different." Taken aback, he finally realized where all that swagger came from. Just then, Jong Young-hyun, the big boss of the support squad, stepped onto the scene. He asked if this was really the legendary rookie who'd absolutely nuked the licensing exam. Ellie gave him a casual wave in response. She introduced the crew as his dedicated backup. The commander reached out for a handshake, and Minchul locked in, introducing himself with a firm grip. He made it clear he'd be the solo carry inside that gate. The support team's only job, just stay back and loot the spoils once he was done. With those words, our protagonist vanished into the portal. Young Hyun scratched his head, wondering if this guy only showed up because Ellie pulled some strings. Why was this a high-priority mission for a total unknown? He'd never even heard of a guy named Min Chul, but a teammate quickly set him straight. Turns out he was the monster who took first place in the exams. Since the result only dropped yesterday, the news hadn't reached the whole squad just yet. Realization hit the team and the salt started flowing. They couldn't believe a fresh-faced rookie seriously thought he could solo clear a whole gate. To them, he was just a babe in the woods, who'd eventually fold and cry for help. But at that exact moment, Minchul one-shotted a massive boar with zero effort. He flashed a grin, warning the team that things were about to get real hectic. He told them to keep their eyes peeled and keep up. As the monsters fell, the sweet sound of experience points began ticking up on his display. The hype was real as he sliced through enemies, savoring every bit of XP that rolled in. After a few more kills, a system alert pinged level up. He pulled up his status window, ready to dump some points and buff his stats. He was stoked to see that level up screen finally pop. After the initial rush, he beamed at the team and decided to take a quick breather. The entire support squad hit the dirt completely gassed. One of them wheezed out that this Hunter Minchul was definitely the real deal. After cooling down, he checked his status again. He had 5 shiny unallocated points burning a hole in his pocket. The system confirmed that every level up granted free points to boost whatever stats he wanted. Time for a major power-up. The move was a no-brainer. He went all in, dumping every single point into the power of the universe. Was he losing his mind? Maybe, but in just 30 minutes of hunting, he'd boosted his universal energy by a massive 10%. At this pace, world dominance was basically inevitable. He went right back to the grind, absolutely deleting the wise monkeys. The XP just kept climbing. Watching from the sidelines, Young Hyun noted that the kid looked like a total combat addict. He felt like a fool for calling him an inexperienced rookie. This wasn't some kid. He was a cold-blooded warrior. He fought like a veteran of 1,000 wars. It was clear now the squad's only job was to back up this unpredictable genius. It was insane to think he'd just gotten his license. Everyone was dying to see just how high this kid's ceiling really was. Fast forward a bit and the field was clear. Minchul hit level 5, standing tall over a mountain of defeated foes. He scanned the area and realized only the big bad was left. He walked up to the crew and casually asked if they were down for a boss rush. Young Hyun kept his cool and gave a supportive nod, telling him to trust his instincts and do what he thought was right. A teammate looked worried, sensing the danger. The commander noticed the hesitation and realized the guy was still a bit green. He didn't get the drill yet. Standard raids usually took days of careful scouting before anyone dared to face the boss. Going in blind was basically a suicide mission without proper intel. Minchul overheard the concern, but he wasn't sweating the risk. Why waste time on trivial details when you can just win? He smirked, telling them that if that was the only issue he was heading in now. A gate isn't truly dead until the core is shattered. By following the flow of energy, he knew he'd find the boss's lair. It didn't take long to find the throne room of Edamon, the D-rank alpha of the wise monkey tribe. Minchul noted that this alpha wasn't just muscle. He could actually sling some high-tier leader spells. Young Hyun warned that Edamon was a beast. One wrong move and it'd be game over. But Minchul didn't wait. He charged in. He told the team to relax. In his mind, the strategy was simple: just don't let the monkey finish his chant. Sensing the threat, the monkey boss slammed down a numbing totem. Suddenly, a nasty debuff curse flashed across Minchul's vision. A numbness curse hit him hard, tanking his agility by 3 points. Thinking fast, our hero unleashed his flower dagger technique. He combined it with a perfect throw, obliterating the totem in a split second. A cold thought crossed his mind as he closed the distance. These monkeys were playing a game they couldn't win. They lost the very second they tried to square up with someone way out of their league. Our hero decapitated the primates in a flash, surging toward the big bad. Out of nowhere, Edmund let out a primal, enraged roar. He shifted into a monstrous peak form. Stunned, the lead asked, "Did the boss just trigger a massive hidden buff?" His power level was off the charts. The squad panicked, shrieking that taking this beast down solo was total suicide. He scoffed at their useless whining. Did they really think he needed backup against such a low-tier trash mob? Unleashing the 5-tiger blade, he sliced through Edmund instantly. A shimmering system notification popped up before his eyes, confirming the gate was officially conquered. Moments later, the team stepped back into the sunlight of the real world. Lugging heavy sacks of rare loot, Ellie flashed a bright grin, praising his performance. The protagonist looked over and asked, "Have you been standing here this whole time?" She nodded, reminding him this was his debut gate-clearing victory. She wondered if he was hooked yet. The protagonist simply shrugged and asked when the next raid was scheduled. "In 3 days," she replied. He sighed in relief. Tomorrow was already packed with his own personal errands. "Book me for a gate every single day starting after tomorrow," he commanded. Ellie's jaw dropped in sheer disbelief, asking if he was for real. Hunters usually need days to recover, but he just shrugged and said it didn't matter. He then requested an introduction to a gear merchant tomorrow. It was time to finally ditch these basic clothes. He reflected that back in the Damos era, his skin was hardened demonic hide, making him practically invulnerable to attacks. Now, his human body was vulnerable and covered in gashes. Ellie noted that meeting their union master was the move. She promised to arrange an audience with their guild leader immediately and would alert him once the meeting was set. "It won't take long," she assured. Heading toward the vehicle, he admitted he was actually hyped for the meeting. Reaching the Interstellar Union, he calculated his gear budget, stunned to find the legendary master was a total short stack. He had his doubts, but the master's blunt attitude actually vibed with his own style of getting things done. Maybe the guy was legit after all. With the deal set, he planned to head home for some serious training. He hopped on the bus, but the ride was cut short by a violent crash. Peering through the glass, a massive gate had torn open right in the center of the asphalt. He stared in awe at the disaster, wondering if this was a black gate in downtown Seoul. Yesterday's was blue. Suddenly, ferocious werewolves poured into the street. Civilians bolted in pure hysteria, screaming about the monsters invading their reality and that they had to run. Amidst the carnage, a weeping child searched for her mother. A werewolf wielding a crossbow loomed over her, claiming she was just a snack. Suddenly, the protagonist snatched the girl away, mocking the monster's disgusting drool. He hurled a spear with lethal precision, muttering that using actual martial arts on such trash was a total waste. He told it to just die and hand over the experience points. Right on cue, a system alert chimed. He'd only gained 2.5% experience. He clicked his tongue, annoyed at his painfully low-level progress. Another window flashed: universal energy detected in the enemy. He could actually harvest and absorb this raw power. His eyes lit up with excitement. "Can I really take this?" Just then, the association's elite warriors arrived. They charged into the werewolf pack. D-rank hunter Omi Jin gritted her teeth, overwhelmed as her mana ran dry. Beside her, Jung Min Soo warned that his protective shield was about to shatter under the relentless beast assault. These wolves were a different hue than the usual E-rank trash. Something about this gate was definitely unusual. Suddenly, the protagonist blurred past them, spear in hand. "Free energy," he yelled, dancing through the chaos with impossible grace. He decimated the pack with effortless strikes. Min-Soo watched in stunned silence, wondering who this mysterious powerhouse was. A notification pinged: Star System equipment readiness has hit 1.5%. His stats ticked up. Grinning, he told the shocked hunters to stop staring and go tend to the wounded. He'd handle this mob himself. After all, every single one of these monsters was just juicy experience for him. With a feral grin, he lunged back into the fray, turning the werewolf pack into a bloody mess. Later, the protagonist met Jo Sun-hee at a cafe. She introduced herself, amazed that he'd halted a full-scale gate breakout. He'd suppressed the threat alone. It was a freak occurrence, a gate manifesting right in the heart of the city. Without his intervention, the death toll would have been astronomical. He had single-handedly saved the entire district. She thanked him on behalf of the association. The young man gave a humble nod, claiming he'd only done his duty. Sun-hee handed him her card, insisting on a massive reward for his bravery. He started calculating exactly how to profit. As a high-tier security chief and elite hunter, his mana-sensing abilities were top-notch, likely placing him in the A or B rank category. He figured activating his Eyes of Truth was unnecessary. They'd never meet again, and he honestly couldn't care less about her situation. His only thought was to give Ellie a quick call and have her handle this mess immediately. 1 week later, fate brought Minchul and Sun-hee face-to-face once more. He never expected their paths would cross again in this location. While observing Sun-hee, the protagonist pondered the life of a hunter and let his mind drift back to the events of 2 days ago. He vividly recalled a monstrous two-headed werewolf let out a blood-curdling roar while terrorizing innocent civilians in the heart of the city. Standing over the fallen beast with his blade drawn, the system flashed a notification he had officially reached level 11. 7 days had passed since his breakthrough, and his relentless non-stop grind had finally resulted in a massive level up. However, the hunger for more points was real. He dropped to the floor for some reps as the system tracked his physical progress. His strength increased by 1, his constitution by 0.4, and his agility by 0.5 as he pushed his limits. Minchul attempted grueling handstand push-ups, knowing he needed better gear to tackle higher-tier gates. Just then, a familiar face interrupted his workout. When asked if he was slacking off, he replied that training, while the adrenaline was still high, was the perfect time to grow. His teammates were completely baffled by his intensity, especially since they were all reaching their absolute breaking point from exhaustion. After requesting a brief moment of silence, the protagonist continued his solitary trek through the thick, overgrown forest. Suddenly, he bumped into Ellie, who greeted him with a knowing smile, claiming she had been expecting him all along. Her role was to support him, yet he wondered if the Union was truly so slow that she could afford to waste time waiting. She explained the squad was simply looking out for them, though Minchul suspected she reported directly to that short leader. Ellie then mentioned that the squad leader was requesting an urgent meeting with him right away. His custom equipment was finally ready. Surprised, he realized he'd need a day off from gate raiding just to test the new gear. He wasn't sure how long the inspection would take, but a sudden sense of unease made him glance toward his surroundings. He turned to see his teammates literally crying tears of joy at the mere mention of getting some actual rest. It was as if God had finally answered their prayers. They had honestly forgotten what a day off even felt like. Entering the gates daily had taken a brutal toll, leaving the protagonist stunned by their incredibly emotional and desperate reaction. The crew joked that some villain was preventing them from sleeping, especially since they usually only did cleanup every few days. Minchul stood there perplexed as the guys continued to vent about their recent non-stop workload and lack of sleep. They were grinding way more than usual, but they knew this was a golden opportunity to stack some serious cash. The money was great, so they kept their complaints quiet, but the physical exhaustion from this endless work was becoming unbearable. Feeling like the odd one out, Minchul apologized, weirded out by how the two were practically speaking in perfect creepy unison. Their synchronized talking was low-key irritating him. Finally, the guy said his goodbyes, promising they would meet again at the office tomorrow. He would eventually see them off at the Interstellar Union headquarters to finalize their upcoming high-stakes mission. The moment the protagonist stepped out of his vehicle, a swarm of aggressive journalists rushed toward him, shocked by his sudden appearance. Minchul was annoyed to be surrounded by reporters again, all shouting questions and demanding he give them a statement. Rumors were spreading that he was the key player who made the most impact during the recent chaotic gate breakout. They badgered him about his secret contract with the Interstellar Union, but Minchul struggled to find the words to respond. He muttered a quick apology and shouldered past the media, leaving the confused reporters staring at his back in total silence. Ellie could only watch the scene unfold, sighing to herself about just how incredibly stubborn he could be sometimes. By then, Minchul had escaped into the room, complaining that he'd almost gotten caught in another massive headache. He was met by the girl and the leader, who rushed toward him with pure excitement glowing on his face. The leader boasted that everything was prepared to perfection. Skeptical Minchul asked to see the results of their hard work. Marchand flashed a confident grin and pressed a remote button, causing a set of high-tier gear to materialize instantly. The system identified the Talos Promise, a rare rank armor with 250 durability and level 20 physical defense. It also included the Talos Faith rare rank leggings with 210 durability and level 13 physical defense plus wind resistance. Wearing these increased agility by 7% and granted a permanent wind path buff for incredible movement speed. He didn't fully trust the leader, so he kept his expectations low until he spotted the Sylph's Tear earring. This rare rank accessory boosted agility by 20%, while the Volcanic Oath ring surged his base strength by 20 points. As Minchul equipped the gear, his jaw dropped at its insane quality. The merchant smirked, asking, "Exceeds your expectations, right?" "It's flawless," Minchul admitted, stunned. The merchant sighed, noting that with a bigger budget, they'd be even deadlier. He felt a pang of regret for the limitations, yet the contract hadn't even required gear this high tier. It was pure bonus. Minchul wanted a solid partnership with the Union. As the leader weighed the offer, Minchul nodded. This was about mutual respect. The leader finally asked, "Anything else you need?" It was clear he finally recognized Minchul's true worth. Brushing the pressure off, Minchul cut to the chase. "Stop the theatrics. Just grant me access to a B-rank gate." The merchant froze, completely blindsided. "A B rank? Are you insane? That's strictly off limits right now." "Why the holdup?" Minchul pressed. The merchant explained that B-rank gates are a whole different beast, lethal and chaotic. The loot is legendary, sparking brutal power struggles over every gate. For anything B-rank or higher, rules are strict. The Union demands proof 40 D ranks and 30 C ranks cleared first. Minchul went silent, calculating his next move. Grinding that many would take months, even at his pace. That was way too slow. But the merchant dropped a hint. "There's a shortcut," he whispered, "but it's a suicide mission." Minchul's interest peaked instantly. "Spill it." To bypass the grind, he'd have to defeat an active A-rank hunter. Minchul's lips curled into a confident, predatory smirk. "Why didn't you start with that?" he laughed. Soon he was standing before the massive, imposing Hunter Union headquarters. Global authority radiated from the building. Minchul turned to a worried-looking Ellie. "Still mad I ditched you with those reporters yesterday," he teased. She rolled her eyes, but her concern ran deeper. Oh, I'm definitely holding that grudge, she smirked, though her playful tone didn't quite hide her nerves. Sensing her lingering annoyance, Minchul stayed quiet. Then Ellie softened, asking, are you actually ready for this? His growth was monstrous, but an A rank was a different league. Relax, Minchul shrugged. It's a duel, not a deathmatch. It wasn't ego talking, it was cold calculation. He factored in his elite gear and the weight of his experience. On paper, his stats were lacking, but with his past life knowledge, the odds started shifting in his favor. Armed with superior gear and veteran instincts, victory was within reach. Moments later, he stepped into the cold waiting room. An official stepped forward. Your fate is decided today in a clash against one of our A-rank elites. So if I knock him out, I pass right, Minchul asked casually. The staffer stared at him in pure disbelief. Knock out an A-rank. You've got jokes, the man scoffed. A panel of judges will determine your worthiness. What's the rubric then? Minchul pressed. Classified, came the blunt reply, leaving Minchul visibly annoyed by the secrecy. Ellie whispered, it's all about raw power, lightning reflexes, and maintaining composure under fire. Survival instincts in a crisis are everything here. Minchul smirked, absorbing the intel. Is that all? The staffer interrupted. The stage is set. It's time to show us what you're made of. As the heavy doors creaked open, Minchul entered a simulated battlefield that perfectly mimicked a deadly gate. The atmosphere was suffocating. Then a booming voice echoed across the arena, welcoming the challenger. I've been expecting you. Minchul froze his eyes, widening as the smoke cleared. It was Sun He. Smirking, Sun He introduced himself as the association's defense chief, a high-tier A-rank powerhouse. The exam proctor was his own rival. Fury flared in Minchul's chest as he realized he'd been played. Sun He mocked him. Just fight like the monster you are, and you might actually survive this. Ready to fail, Sun He taunted. Minchul just grinned, gripping his blade. I'm more than ready. Let's dance. Then let the test begin. The atmosphere turned heavy as the duel officially kicked off. Minchul lunged his blade, a blur of steel. Sun He didn't flinch, his gaze icy and full of arrogance. Power comes at a price, Sun He hissed, swinging his massive spear in a devastating wide arc. Minchul just smirked. Cheap price to pay. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted momentarily, drowning out the arena. Seizing the moment, Sun He leaped forward, closing the distance with terrifying explosive speed. Let's see you parry this, he snarled, unleashing a relentless barrage of strikes. Minchul fought to block every hit. Is this his real power? Minchul wondered. Sun He was far more lethal than the rumors suggested. Ellie watched the screen, her eyes glued to the high-stakes battle unfolding before her. She knew he was strong, but this was different. Clenching her fists, she prayed he'd pull through. Steel screams against steel. Sun He smirks, impressed by his opponent's sheer grit. His blade vanishes into mist. He finally acknowledges how Minchul held the gate solo. Minchul locks eyes with him, demanding he stop holding back immediately. Sun He blinks, totally stunned by the sudden, aggressive demand. Go all out or I'll end you, Minchul growls as dark mana explodes. A heavy silence falls. Sun He tries to claim a simple misunderstanding. He's genuinely lost. Why the rage? Everything was supposed to be fine. Misunderstanding, Minchul scoffs. If you were serious, dodging wouldn't be this easy. Sun He flinches. Minchul sees the truth. Sun He's stats are 4 times higher. It is an impossible gap, yet Minchul's fury burns brighter than his fear. He grits his teeth. He won't let anyone look down on him again. He demands to see Sun He's peak strength. The A-ranker breaks a cold sweat. Realizing talk is cheap, Sun He readies himself. The real fight begins now. He draws his blade, chanting the lethal 7-sword spell. 7 blades hover controlled by his will. The system detects maximum power output. Minchul smirks. Perfect. This is exactly how the battle should begin. A-rankers were always mountains to climb. Today he plans to reach the peak. With a roar, Minchul lunges forward, his sword cutting through the air. Light flares, but Sun He teleports instantly. He's already behind the protagonist. Minchul's instincts scream. He barely dives, clear as blades whistle overhead. Sun He's eyes widen in shock as Minchul pivots to face him instantly. A blade gleams from the jacket. Minchul's true goal, expose that hidden sword. That tiny weapon radiates terrifying pressure. Sun He's true power is no joke. Is sword manipulation all he's got? The dance of death resumes. Sparks fly as they trade blows at sonic speeds. Sun He is visibly impressed. Minchul simply nods, staying completely locked in. The pace is suicidal. Minchul knows he can't sustain this frantic rhythm. Suddenly, Sun He pounces. A blinding flash consumes everything in sight. Metal screams. Minchul realizes the A-ranker is finally playing for keeps. Stay focused, Sun He warns, his gaze piercing like a predator's. A green aura blade manifests behind Minchul. He's completely cornered. No escape. The strike hammers into his chest, sending him flying back. He smashes through the stone wall, vanishing into a cloud of debris. Sun He watches the dust settle. Is it finally over? He mutters. Then the silhouette rises. Sun He's jaw hits the floor in pure disbelief. That hit should have taken an arm. How is he still standing? Sun He can't process it. Who or what is this kid? Minchul is a bloody mess, but his gambit worked. The blast saved him. Heavy armor skill barely held his bones together. That was way too close. It's a costly defensive spell burning mana to keep him in the fight. The plan succeeded, but the stat gap feels like an ocean now. He shuts his eyes, focusing every ounce of mana. Light begins to explode. A system alert flashed before his eyes. He'd just obtained the legendary 7-star demonic sword. He gasped, reeling from the sudden shock. A sinister pitch-black aura began radiating from his pores. Sun's heart sank as he realized things were going south fast. He offered a stiff apology, admitting his full power was capped since he hadn't brought his entire arsenal to the fight. Minchul just smirked, unfazed. Don't sweat it, this is plenty. He leveled his blade straight at his rival's throat. Sun blurred past the strike, roaring that he'd finally reached his absolute peak. Our hero braced himself, ready for the impact. He triggered the 7-star demonic sword's first form, unleashing a wave of pure destruction that sent Sun flying backward. Sun stood there completely shell-shocked. Blinding flashes of steel erupted before him as the exchange reached a fever pitch. A pained scream tore from his throat when his own blade shattered into 1,000 useless shimmering shards. He spun around, jaw-dropping at the scene. Minchul grinned, radiating invincible energy as he stared Sun down with total confidence. Sun scrambled back, but the searing light beams shredded his defenses. He watched in horror as his body began to crumble. Clinging to his final remaining sword, he knew deep down that a single strike wouldn't even dent his opponent's dominance. He tried to tap into his leftover cosmic energy, but words failed him as crimson blood suddenly stained his lips. He began coughing violently, blood spattering the ground as he collapsed. Even his opponent sank to one knee, gasping for air. Trembling with bone-deep fatigue, both warriors groaned as the lethal tension finally snapped and the brutal combat ceased. The door burst open and Ellie rushed in, looking frantic. "Hunter Minchul, are you okay? What on earth happened here?" Flashing a tired smile, our hero claimed the win. Sun scoffed, insisting the outcome would have flipped if he had all his swords. A heavy, awkward silence followed his words, as both men sat there, still vibrating from the sheer physical drainage. They shared a weary laugh, leaving Ellie totally lost. Minchul eventually broke the mood. "So Sunday, what's the final verdict?" Sun grinned back, confirming that he had officially passed the exam. Fast forward, a brilliant new dawn breaks over the city. High atop a skyscraper, 3 days after the grueling exam, our protagonist was already back at it, pushing his limits. He snapped out sharp punches and fluid kicks to maintain his edge, carefully checking his vitals after the intense workout. He'd finally bounced back from his injuries. Now he was ready to tackle a B-rank gate hidden in the frozen tundra. The zone spanned 5 kilometers, crawling with yetis, golems, and trolls. The countdown to a total breakthrough had already begun. With barely 25 hours and 17 minutes left, Ellie's worry spiked. Are you seriously heading into that icy hellscape? He desperately needed medical clearance, yet here he was, bypassing the inspection and charging straight toward the next raid. A B-rank gate is no joke, but our hero just zipped up his parka, completely unfazed by the looming danger. "Relax," he said. "The ancient heavenly art rebuilds my body better than any doctor ever could. It's a total game changer." His stats were skyrocketing. Every injury became a ladder, boosting his strength and agility through constant cycles of pain and recovery. Postponing the raid was the original plan, but the second he felt a bit better, his combat instincts started screaming. Stepping through the swirling portal, a soul-chilling frost hit him instantly. His squad wasn't kidding about these sub-zero temperatures. It was the coldest place on Earth. Around him, the backup team was already shivering and whispering in pure terror. They stared at Minchul, shocked he wasn't a popsicle. "The wind's light," he shrugged. "Actually, it feels pretty refreshing to me." Cosmic energy acted like a built-in heater, making him so resistant, he actually considered ditching his heavy jacket entirely. Since it felt useless, he almost stripped it off, but his team begged him to stop. Things were about to get worse. Minchul paused, scanning the shivering group. "All right, gentlemen, does anyone actually want to lend a hand with the scouting?" They suggested pitching a camp before the frost nerfed their stats. Minchul gave them the green light with a knowing smirk. While the crew settled in, he scouted ahead, trudging through massive snowdrifts despite their warnings to play it safe. The interior was an endless white void, sprawling much further than any typical B-rank gate he had ever encountered before. Where are the mobs? He wondered. Suddenly, the ground erupted as a massive beast lunged from the frozen depths. It let out a blood-curdling roar. Caught off guard, our hero spun around, heart hammering against his ribs in bewilderment. Facing him was a yeti, a powerhouse with 120 strength and 110 agility. This beast was tanky. With 90 stamina and unique camouflage skills, it was the perfect predator. He smirked, finally finding the challenge he craved. The monster suddenly vaulted into the sky, disappearing instantly. "No way a unit that big can actually hide," he muttered. Absolute cap, but suddenly a presence loomed behind him. He whipped around, coiling his muscles like a spring for battle. Knocking a glowing magic arrow, he parried the strike, feeling that familiar B-rank adrenaline kick in as the fight began. It was barely a warm-up. He unleashed the 5 tigers technique, effortlessly cleaving the beast into 2 gory halves. This was a total cakewalk. After obliterating his foe, he pressed forward, venturing deeper into the shadows of the woods. The system pinged, awarding 2.7% experience. He expected a measly 0.5, so this was a massive win. Minchul realized the gains were 10 times higher than usual. His math was spot on. This was a goldmine for leveling. Aiming for a high-rank gate was the right call. He would have to properly thank that hardworking merchant down the line. Back at the Hunter Association, he marched straight to the director's office and slammed down his official resignation letter. "What is this?" the director gasped. Sung-hee bowed deeply, apologizing for leaving after finally becoming a responsible, reliable hunter. After a decade of service and saving lives, he was suddenly quitting. Their 10-year bond deserved more than just a paper. The director demanded a real explanation. Sung-hee sighed, admitting that the full story was complicated and went way back. It all started at the recent exam where he met Minchul. The guy from the gate incident, the director interjected. Precisely him. Minchul was the one who plugged the breach. Initially, everyone thought he was just another low-tier E rank. Despite his E rank label, he neutralized a dimensional rift solo. Yet surprisingly, he still felt inferior to the young prodigy. He was certain Minchul was superior. Their duel proved it, leaving him feeling humbled and isolated in his own weakness. Minchul shattered his ego and showed him the true path. 3 days later, the lesson was still burned into his mind. Sung-hee shook the hero's hand, admitting he'd misjudged him completely. Minchul just brushed it off with a cool smile. Chuckling, Sung-hee confessed he'd gained much from their scrap. He was clearly itching to reach a whole new level. You bet, Minchul replied with absolute fire. Sung-hee vowed to close the gap between them, no matter what it took. Minchul encouraged him, though privately, he wondered exactly what Sung-hee thought he was actually catching up to. Most hunters eventually hit a ceiling, but Minchul was built different. For him, the sky was not even the limit. Right then, Sung-hee looked his boss in the eye and declared his burning need to ascend to greater heights. To get stronger, he had to conquer the tower. The director stared at him, stunned by the intensity in his gaze. Those were the eyes of a madman. The tower, that massive relic from the first cataclysm, was pure, unadulterated danger. Surviving the tower trials guaranteed power, but it was a literal suicide mission. One wrong move, and it was game over. As a veteran near his peak, Sung-hee had no reason to gamble his life on such a reckless endeavor. Frustrated, the director shredded the application. Sung-hee stood there, blinking in total shock as his plans were literally ripped apart. I am pretending I never saw this, the boss barked. Take a damn vacation and clear your head before you do something stupid. Come back when you have cooled off. As the papers hit the trash, Sung-hee's face clouded with a frustrated frown. He gave a sharp bow, promising to return after his break. The director just waved him off with a gruff warning. And do not forget a souvenir, Sung-hee yelled back in agreement, but his mind was already miles away on the hunt. He knew Minchul was grinding non-stop. If he wanted to stay relevant, standing still simply was not an option anymore. Day 3 of the B rank raid. With 40 hours and 30 minutes until the breach, killing the boss was the only priority. Fodder monsters kept spawning, but as long as the number stayed low, the gate would hold. It was the perfect farm. This place was an experienced goldmine. Every kill sent his stats soaring, yielding far more growth than he ever anticipated. After cleaving the final beast in two, a golden glow erupted. Level 15 achieved. He was finally gaining real momentum. Suddenly, the system flared. A hidden power had awakened within him, the ability to track and harvest ancient soul traces. The notification caught him off guard. He had unlocked the authority of charm and hellfire power, but they felt strangely alien. Youngin rushed over, sensing his change. I am fine, he lied, masking the chaos inside. Let's just take 5 and regroup. The power of sin, deep in the Pandemonium realm, sits the Hall of Sins, a legendary fortress of dark energy. Ruled by 72 demonic nobles, this throne room radiates absolute strength. They call it the ultimate authority of sin. It was a source of near infinite power, power he once commanded in his former life as a Lord of Darkness. But he was human now, not some demon. These terrifying powers should not even be accessible to a mere mortal. The authority of hellfire belonged to the demon Grangeo. It was a terrifying flame capable of incinerating the entire world. Grangeo was the rank 11 terror. Beside him sat Seraphine, a rank 55 demoness who wielded the lethal power of charm. Her charm was absolute, a mental boundary that could enslave any soul and strip them of their very will to fight. He had personally slain both demons. Did their stolen powers somehow follow him into this new life? Every soul he reaped in his former life is now a weapon in his arsenal. Choosing between powers, that's a total no-brainer. With a smirk, he wondered where to flex his charm next. Right then, the system pinged with a massive update. Hellish Floating was selected, merging deep into his soul. Now he could wield both pure light and chaotic dark energy simultaneously. That power evolved into the Abyssal Spark, igniting a menacing dark red aura right in the center of his chest. Wait, what's happening? He gasped. But then a grin spread across his face as he gripped his racing heart. Another level up. He was dying to test this fresh skill immediately. Talk about perfect timing. A pack of monsters was closing in, practically begging for a beatdown. He gestured for them to come closer with a wicked smile. He taunted them to bring the heat. To his surprise, the Yetis just stood there, paralyzed by pure dread. Minchul was hyped to field test his new abilities. His old world had crumbled, leaving him reborn in this human vessel. He'd inherited the legendary power of sin. As the monsters lunged, he unleashed hellfire, draining 150 mana instantly. With a casual flick of his wrist, the system began weaving abyss flames, a chaotic blend of light and shadow. The magic shifted and morphed according to his every whim. He knew hellfire, but another skill caught him off guard. What exactly was this? Illumination intrigued. He triggered the skill, obliterating a monster in a flash of blinding light. The demon Granjo's influence made his attacks hit like a truck, with flames that burned until his mana hit 0. It functioned exactly like his memories of the old days. But a second later, the atmosphere shifted completely. The Yeti shriveled into a ghastly skeleton, sending a wave of terror through the pack. It looked like straight-up divine judgment. As the remaining beasts charged, Minchul realized he needed to master this weird synergy fast. Casting the spell turned his hand into a beacon of golden radiance. A former demon king, wielding the power of the heavens. He was officially using the illumination skill. When he fused that holy light with his abyssal spark, things got crazy. A brilliant yellow shockwave erupted from him, saturating the entire battlefield in an intense holy glow. Usually divine power is just for purging evil and doesn't do direct damage. It's meant to be a massive physical buff. He dove back into the fray, tearing through the monster ranks with zero effort. The efficiency was terrifying, but his demon soul was screaming. It literally gave him the creeps to use such holy magic. Suddenly, he stopped dead in his tracks, his jaw dropping as the realization finally hit him like a freight train. This was the Archangel's power. Since he'd slain that celestial being in his past life, he could now mimic its abilities. Talk about a cheat code. He was already a melee god, but now he had a legendary ranged skill called Blessing. He stood there for a moment, just trying to process how absolutely broken his build had become. Once he'd finished farming the mobs, he decided it was time to hunt the boss and shut this gate down. He locked his eyes on the towering peak ahead. Meanwhile, a demon and an ice spirit were stalking his teammates. Gripping their staffs, the support team spun around in a panic, screaming at the monsters to stay back. Sensing the danger, our hero unleashed a burst of mana. Were these creeps really trying to gank his supports? Nice try, but nobody dies on his watch. He went into a frenzy, deleting every monster in his path. Their agonized shrieks echoed through the valley as he carved a path toward the summit. Upon reaching the peak, the mountain itself seemed to tremble. He told his crew to take 5 and catch their breath. Yang Yang looked at him like he was crazy, asking if he seriously planned to solo a rank B gate boss. Min Chiol didn't flinch. He wasn't about to back down now. Yang Yang begged him to stay alive for everyone's sake. Another teammate choked back tears, calling his name. Min Chiol just gave a confident thumbs up and promised to return. He stepped into the icy cavern, coming face to face with a massive beast. "You came here all alone," the monster growled. "Just me, and your impending funeral," Min Chiol retorted. This was Nonan the Yeti chieftain, and he was not impressed. Nonan flexed his slave-summoning magic, calling forth a small army of servants to surround and crush the intruder. The boss ordered his minions to delete the human. Within seconds, Min Chiol was boxed in by a wall of fur and muscle. "You really think these weaklings can stop me?" he laughed. He'd make the boss regret every life choice. He cast Slicing Cloud. The monsters were thrown into total chaos, wondering where the attack came from. Then Min Chiol unleashed his mountain-splitting strike. He decimated the first guardian, painting the cave floor red. Nanan watched his confidence finally starting to crumble. His minions were being slaughtered like sheep, until one beast suddenly gathered a massive surge of mana in its maw. Min Chiol ignited his hellfire, weaving a blazing shield that rendered the enemy's spells absolutely useless. As their powers clashed, a blinding blast rocked the area before plunging the world into eerie silence. With zero effort, Min Chiol ended the beast, burying his axe deep into its monstrous forehead. Surrounded by carnage, the boss snarled in fury, spitting insults and calling our hero a total freak. The creature struggled to its feet. Min Chiol smirked, asking if it was finally ready to submit and join up. Nonan barked back, mocking his height before launching into the air for a lethal personal execution. Min Chiol evaded the impact instantly, counter-leaping to secure a dominant position right on the beast's back. "Is that the best you've got?" Min Chiol roared. The monster froze completely, blindsided by this sudden reversal. Shaking him off, the monster howled in agony. Unfazed Min Chiol locked eyes with his prey, oozing pure confidence. He landed a heavy blow. Infuriated Nonan cursed the short freak and unleashed a devastating freezing ice storm. Staring at the blizzard, Min Chiol realized his hellfire might not be enough to tank this icy onslaught. "Die," Nonan commanded. Instantly, a barrage of lethal ice shards rocketed toward the hero. Min Chiol's blade became a blur, parrying every projectile with god-tier speed and precision. His rapid strikes left trails of glowing light in their wake. Stepping out untouched, he dropped a question. "Is that it?" he mocked. A smirk played on his lips as the system pinged. His wounds were regenerating. The monster's rage peaked. It let out a guttural snarl, vowing to pulverize the little runt once and for all. As the beast lunged forward for round 2, Min Chiol just stood his ground, radiating main character energy. He unleashed a star-hurling blade. Upon impact, the monster's roar turned into a scream as blood sprayed everywhere. Tracking its desperate flailing, Min Chiol smiled coldly. "I told you exactly how this would end," he whispered. "You're going to regret existing." Later, the battle settled, and Ellie offered him water with a grateful smile. He joked about the grind, but Ellie's expression stayed serious. This wasn't just her being polite. Soloing a B-rank gate is straight-up legendary. Min Chiol shrugged, acting like it was just another Tuesday. He mentioned others could do it too, but Ellie was shocked. Even A-rankers never dare to hunt alone. Speedrunning a dungeon like that is suicide. Does he even realize how insane this level of risk is? She started grilling him, her voice rising in frustration. Min Chiol was baffled. Was she genuinely worried, or just mad? Caught off guard, Ellie stammered. "Worried? What on earth are you talking about?" Flustered, she claimed she only cared because the association would be in hot water if he died. It was purely professional, she insisted. Losing him would be a PR nightmare, nothing personal at all. Yang Yun broke the tension, apologizing for the timing. Ellie immediately snapped back into professional mode. "Leader, any updates?" she asked, hiding her blush, while Min Chiol casually hydrated, oblivious to the drama. Looking puzzled, Yang Yun presented a mysterious drop. This weird object had fallen right off the dead boss. A strange crystal sat in his palm. Ellie leaned in curious, while Min Chiol's eyes widened in recognition. Yang Yun admitted he was clueless. It was a complete anomaly that refused to be scanned or analyzed. Minchul hid a smirk. To them, it was junk, but he knew it was a legendary -1 key. This was a piece of myth, one of 5 fragments needed to unlock the legendary Draco trial. It was the literal passport to a hidden stage on the 5th floor of the trial tower itself. Minchul casually asked to keep it. Ellie shrugged, seeing no reason to refuse the man who did the work. Loot priority was his after all. Yang Yun probed for info, but Minchul kept his cards close. Just a hunch, Minchul lied. Yang Yun begged him to share the secret once he figured it out. I'll let you know, Minchul promised. He knew the tower's secrets were strictly off-limits to normal people. No database on Earth held info on this relic. Taking it was the only logical move for his future. He told Ellie to hit him up the second an A rank or even better, another B rank gate spawned. On it, she replied. The team's grinding, so stay on standby and actually get some sleep for once. He told her to do the same, though he doubted he'd actually be getting any downtime today. Sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford. A divine aura flared as he doubled down on his daily training. His power was surging. Since elite gates were incredibly rare, grinding solo was his top strategy. This training regimen far outpaced the rewards of any basic rank D raid. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. It was the manager with an urgent update. A new gate was ready for him. Minchul grinned, noting the flawless timing. But the manager sounded stressed, mentioning a sudden complication. Minchul demanded the details. A massive dungeon had emerged in Korea, but the association demanded a multi-guild coalition. Minchul frowned. So he was expected to play nice with other hunters. The manager confirmed offering him an out since he usually worked alone. No problem, Minchul shrugged. The manager froze, shocked by the easy agreement. Minchul was curious. He wanted to see if these high-rank hunters actually had skills. A rank B gate was the perfect stage to scout his potential competition. There was talk of a competitive raid. Minchul didn't care. He'd just kill the boss first. A race to clear it, he'd prove no one could touch his level. Soon he arrived in Jeonju. The scale of the dungeon entrance was absolutely staggering. The interior was an endless void. Ellie noted it was like a hidden world. It spanned half a city. Minchul couldn't believe a dungeon could swallow 600,000 people. That is why teamwork was mandatory. 10 top-tier guilds had already signed up. Minchul realized the sheer volume of monsters inside would be legendary. Ellie agreed. Guilds were currently struggling just to prevent a massive dungeon break. What is the status, he asked. The situation looked like an impossible mess. The government was desperate for a fast clear before a total catastrophe occurred. A breach meant total annihilation for the surrounding province and its people. Not on my watch, Minchul smirked, radiating absolute confidence in his power. Ellie rolled her eyes at his arrogance. Minchul just told her to relax. Nearby, a group of hunters were whispering and pointing at him. They were gossiping about the rookie who supposedly eclipsed the famous Jeon Yun-soo. Could this kid really be better than the Horong Guild's golden boy? Minchul sighed. People really had nothing better to do than spread rumors. Ellie teased him, saying that is what happens when you crush a famous rival. He looked confused by her excitement. Ellie laughed at his total lack of awareness. He was the center of attention, yet he acted like he had done nothing special. From the exam to stopping a coup, his resume was already legendary. Every major guild and news outlet was obsessed with his every move. Minchul hated the noise. Ellie promised to handle the PR while he fought. Just keep being awesome, she joked. Then a stranger approached and called his name. Hunter Minchul, the man asked with a flashy smile, adjusting his hair perfectly. Ellie beamed. It was the celebrity guild master Jeon Yun-soo of the Demon Guild. The guy was a total narcissist, clearly loving the spotlight and the attention. He immediately started flirting with Ellie. Minchul and Ellie both stood there baffled. Was this guy for real? He didn't even blink while dropping those cringy lines. Yun-soo claimed he wanted to meet the shining star of the hunter world. Usually Minchul would walk away, but something about this guy felt off. There was a strange, familiar vibe coming from him. A scent he recognized. He triggered his truth eyes, reaching out to shake the man's hand. Yun-soo grinned, praising Minchul's aura as the future of the entire nation. Minchul pushed for more, but the stranger played it cool, claiming he was just there for a friendly hello. As their palms met, the system chimed in. Thought transference was live, burning 1 point of universal energy instantly. Right then, our hero dropped a bombshell praising his human disguise. The man froze completely, caught off guard. Confusion clouded the friend's face as he struggled to process the situation. Meanwhile, Minchul smirked internally, knowing the guy was desperate to learn how he'd been exposed despite blocking his thoughts. What a pathetic failure. Yun-soo flashed a grin, making Minchul debate whether to push his buttons even further right then and there. He told Ellie he'd go solo. When she panicked about the support squad, he shrugged. He needed to gauge their power first. Turning to Yun-soo, he teased him about his busy schedule. Yun-soo didn't skip a beat, replying smoothly, asking for forgiveness for the delay and promising a swift reunion. Then our protagonist just walked right past him. Seeing the guy fall for the trap, he whispered that he didn't swing that way. The silence that followed was beyond awkward. The trap was set, and the teasing was top tier. Refusal wasn't an option. Deep inside the gate, he finally faced Minchul, questioning why he was still lingering by the entrance. The response, he was just waiting for a certain someone. Yun-soo acted clueless, asking if they'd met. Minchul told him to cut the act. He could spot a demon from a mile away. Yun-soo's smile twisted into a bone-chilling demonic cackle. His face turned predatory as he admitted he was actually concerned. His cover was blown, but he hadn't expected humans to be this moronic. Minchul yawned. asking if he was done yapping. Yunsu flexed, asking if he wasn't terrified of his raw power. Minchul lied through his teeth, acting completely unimpressed. The system pinged, age 675. Talent, dark magic. Strength, 350. Agility, 333. Endurance, 240. Special skills, black tongue of deceit, mimicry, and soul contract. Thanks to the restraint effect, his stats were surging back. Dark baptism was active, letting him bypass system locks and unleash 80% of his true terrifying potential. Could he survive 10 minutes against this monster? The demon was cocky, convinced no mere mortal could ever touch him. Yunsu played nice, offering a deal, reveal how the secret got out, and maybe he'd let him live. He promised to be merciful. But Minchul just laughed. He'd seen this brand of demonic arrogance 1,000 times before. Having been a demon in his previous life, he knew exactly how to flip that ego against his opponent. He glared at Yunsu, asking if he was some kind of joke or a merciful deity. Yunsu blinked, totally confused. The demon just wanted to end him quickly, using the celestial power sealed deep within his cursed left hand. As dark magic flared, our hero just sighed, complaining about the annoying buzzing sound the demon was making. He told him to shut up already, mocking the demon for having a serious case of high school syndrome. Yunsu's face contorted in rage as he cast a spell. Minchul stood ready, baiting the demon to make the first move. Truth is, tricking a demon is the easiest game on Earth. Suddenly the system flared to life again. Hellfire activated 300 units of universal energy vanished as a sinister, dark aura engulfed the entire area. The demon froze in shock, his body trembling uncontrollably. He couldn't wrap his head around why these flames felt so special. Minchul mocked him. Was he really that slow? Any demon worth their salt should recognize the raw power of sin. Instinct took over. The demon realized he wasn't facing a human, but a high-ranking entity far above his own pay grade. He was the architect of the Age of Fire, the progenitor of sparks and destruction itself. He looked his enemy dead in the eye, as the creature backed away in terror. Young demon Minchul boomed, "Behold the Flame Lord's chosen, rise Lord of Freet." He stared down at the quaking Yunsu, who was paralyzed by sheer dread. Without a second thought, the demon hit the floor, begging for an audience. He identified himself as Verde Cyanel, desperate to serve the legendary Lord of Flame, Lord of Freet. Yunsu's mind raced. How was this possible? In a far-off realm, this being was once a god-tier spirit, until a thirst for power corrupted him into a demon. Now he was a Freet, the Lord of the Damned Flame. He was famous for his absolute brutality. Minchul growled that failing to recognize his master was an unforgivable sin, a crime that could only be cleansed by a brutal baptism of fire. Yunsu let out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror, realizing he was about to be turned to ash. But he wasn't going to go down without a desperate final struggle. He balled his fists as dark, malevolent energy surged through his veins. Minchul just looked at him with pity, saying he actually felt bad for turning him into charcoal. Yunsu was confused, but then Minchul dropped the punchline, apologizing because while he knew mana, the demon still had to pay for ruining his favorite outfit. Cue the awkward silence. Minchul let out a chilling smirk, taunting him that if his regrets were truly that heavy, he'd gladly wash them away in a literal sea of flames. A servant, Yunso, echoed his voice, trembling with disbelief. Minchul didn't even blink, simply dropping a firm, "Exactly." Trading his soul for service was the only way to pay for his crimes without flushing his god-tier potential down the drain. But the sheer audacity of this mercy stung. Meanwhile, the system pinged. Minchul was burning through focus to keep the Hellfire active. His energy reserves were plummeting, draining 150 units, then another 100 in a desperate, flickering heartbeat. Hellfire is pure chaos, born from annihilation. Taming that volatile heat into a stable form demands a level of focus that would shatter a normal mind. Only a monster like Minchul could pull this off. Still, why pick this high-wire act instead of just throwing hands? Honestly, taking on a demon with raw muscle was a death wish. The power gap between humans and their kind is a straight-up abyss. Rejection meant a suicide mission requiring backup. But honestly, becoming a right hand to a high-ranking demon was an offer he couldn't refuse. He needed an answer fast. Minchul had a million questions. He just prayed the guy would bite the hook and fall in line. Suddenly, Verde let out a chilling cackle. A cold sweat hit Minchul. Did this demon just see right through his master-level bluff? Verde gripped his temples, howling that he knew a legend of this caliber would finally see the greatness hidden within him. To have his skills validated by the great Lord Ifrit himself. The mere thought of his own untapped power sent shivers down his spine. Minchul realized he was dealing with a total lunatic. The demon ranted about how the world ignored his genius out of pure jealousy, but a true master would recognize his worth. "I'll do it," Verde declared. "I will be your loyal shadow from now on." Verde of the Demon Clan offered up a soul-binding oath of eternal loyalty. Minchul just stared, wondering if he'd just recruited a massive headache. Ding! The system confirmed the soul-sworn allegiance. Verde was now a puppet bound to Minchul's every whim and command. The only catch: no demon genocide. After the dust settled, Minchul finally revealed his real name to his new supernatural subordinate. Verde bowed low, but Minchul waved it off. He wasn't about that stiff royal protocol life, and didn't care for formalities. "Drop the Lord Act," Minchul ordered. Verde looked scandalized. How could he speak casually to the man sitting on that absolute throne? Minchul shrugged, claiming he hadn't run into any issues so far. Verde stood there speechless at his new master's nonchalant attitude. Pushing the small talk aside, Minchul got down to business. Were there other demonic invaders currently stalking the streets of Earth? Yes, master. Or should I say, Hunter Verde, smirked, finally ready to spill every dark secret he carried. The intel was grim. 5 high-tier demons had breached the human realm, using Korea as their personal breeding ground for an army. To bypass the world's restrictions and conquer the planet, they used a forbidden dark baptism to unshackle their true devastating power. The mastermind behind this black magic was a mystery, but Minchul knew a dimensional lord's fingerprints were all over this mess. One of the remaining 3 dimensional lords had to be pulling the strings behind this corrupted and forbidden ritual. Rosalind Asmodeus's right hand was the prime suspect, though this ritual was likely beneath the notice of the true top-tier overlords. Even the baptism had its limits. According to Verde, he was the undisputed powerhouse among the 5 invaders currently on Earth. If the others were even weaker than Verde, Minchul liked his odds. He just needed to ensure nothing went sideways. But if the heavy hitters in Elysium caught wind of this, Earth would become a front-row seat to an all-out holy war. Heaven and hell had already clashed over the mysterious towers that sprouted in Korea after Damos finally kicked the bucket. Pandemonium was too drained to push forward, while Elysium couldn't commit to a total invasion. It was a bloody, endless stalemate. With the demons down and Overlord, the angels sensed a chance for peace, or at least a very tense, fragile truce. This turned Korea, the tower's ground zero, into a neutral buffer zone, a third-party playground for gods and monsters alike. But the demons had shredded that treaty. With the world's barriers thinning, their eyes were locked solely on the tower's hidden power. Minchul wasn't about to let anyone else snag Damos's legacy. One wrong move, and this whole place was going up in smoke. It was time to prep for the coming storm. Minchul turned to Verde, his voice cold as he laid out the mission. Consider it done, Master Verde chirped, eager to prove he was the ultimate lackey for his new lord. The guy's hype was borderline annoying, but he'd do. From this moment on, Verde would be Minchul's ultimate spy in the shadows. Verde stopped dead, his eyes wide with shock. Wait, me, the personal informant for the legendary and mighty Lord Ifrit. Minchul wanted to grill him about the politics in Pandemonium and the War Clan's next move, but he had to play it cool. Asking too much would smell like a bluff. Even if the soul oath held, he needed Verde's genuine brainwashed devotion. I'll be your most valuable asset, Verde pledged fervently. Your will is now my absolute and only command. He needed to keep that loyalty burning bright. If Verde stayed this hyped, the demon would be the perfect tool for the job. He demanded a full briefing on their schemes while Rosalind's mission was still underway. Verde cheered, vowing to handle everything and push their master plan to the next level. Minchul smirked at the loyalty but wondered how chaotic was the situation back in Korea. World peace, hard pass. He just couldn't stand villains trashing his own backyard. He'd grind their plots to dust. It had been 2 weeks of pure, uninterrupted leveling. Leaving the intel to Verde, he ventured deep into the scorched lands beyond the fire gates. A monster-infested jungle awaited, featuring trolls with insane healing factors that just won't quit. Dark hoods specialized in nasty hexes, constantly launching surprise ambushes from the shadows. A brutal clash erupted, but to Minchul, these beasts were just walking bundles of experience points. His stats skyrocketed and new skills flowed in. 2 weeks of grinding turned him into a beast. Real war is the ultimate teacher. Most martial artists just waste time repeating basic drills. They chase enlightenment through repetition, but that boring grind is useless to a guy like him. Since he was Deimos, he already possesses the vision. Now his body needs combat to catch up. He must bridge the gap, teaching his muscles to flow with the divine logic of his soul. The moment he hits perfect harmony, he'll unlock the true devastating scale of his martial arts. Suddenly, a massive behemoth charged from the shadows, its footsteps thundering like a landslide. Gripping his sword, he complained about the noise before lunging forward with the 5-tiger blade. He cleaved the beast's weapon in half instantly, then followed up with a bone-shattering punch. Soaring into the air, he delivered a vertical slash that painted the ground in monster blood. As the corpse hit the dirt, the experience notification popped. Minchul stared at his glowing palms. Real power, he whispered. Before his energy was a leaky faucet, but now it felt concentrated. Now he channels cosmic energy directly into his steel. His mastery over the universe has peaked. 2 weeks of training solidified his grip on the very fabric of celestial power. His muscles screamed in protest. His physical vessel was still lagging behind his infinite spirit. He needed more stamina, not just raw aura. Soon darkness draped over the battlefield. Minchul, right, the hunter, a voice called out. Minchul spun around, eyes narrowing at the intruder. The teen introduced himself as Cho Yujin, captain of the elite 3rd team from Hwarang Guild. With a handshake, he offered a deal. Every major guild was currently swarming the Palbok Gate. Powerhouses like Dragon's Claw and Horizon were playing nice, raiding the dungeon without any infighting. No one had a boss-slaying squad yet, mainly because the top-tier Hwarang Guild was calling the shots. Living up to their rank, Hwarang formed a strike team and wanted Minchul to join them. Minchul was suspicious. Why would the Giants want to collab with him? What was the catch? You want to team up? Minchul questioned. Yujin just flashed a confident, annoying smile. Exactly. That massive gate had been a threat for way too long, and the locals were freaking out. They needed a quick resolution. The townspeople, Minchul mused. That sounded like a total load. Since when do guilds play hero? This guy definitely had a hidden agenda under that smile. Minchul nodded along, pretending to buy it. He preferred getting the job done fast anyway. If a rank 1 guild couldn't solo this, they'd never ask for help unless something was wrong. Word was, Cho Yujin Hwarang's legendary co-leader was even more cracked than Sung Hee herself. Why would a big shot travel this far just for him? Yujin claimed he appreciated hard workers. I just value talent, Yujin insisted. Minchul laughed in his face, offering a fake apology. He was allergic to such nonsense. Yujin's expression soured. You're being quite disrespectful, kid. Is breaking into a man's home respectful? Minchul fired back, his tone icy. He was having a chill night training his ancient heavenly art until this clown crashed it. He just wanted to mess with him. He tried baiting out their true motives, but it was a total bust, a complete waste of breath. Asking, Ellie would have been way faster. Pivoting sharply, he agreed to discuss the guild alliance with the association. Eugene waited with bated breath, desperately hoping for a green light on their joint operation. Minchul couldn't stand this clown's presence. At sunrise, Ellie cornered him with a dead serious interrogation. Slamming her palms down, she demanded to know if a grudge match against Yu Sangyu was brewing. Minchul went blank. What Ellie gaped, how could he not recognize his own rival? He gave a blunt yes, triggering a suffocating silence. Ellie clarified that this guy was top-tier elite. He was a top-3 finalist who'd clashed with Minchul before. Minchul remembered him, but where was the revenge? What did he have to do with vengeance? Ellie snapped. That Minchul was the reason he failed. Is that all? Minchul scoffed. Ellie explained the Hwarang Guild was just chasing clout and prestige. Korea's first giant gate became the backdrop for a televised rematch between two legendary exam rivals. It was clearly a trap. But our hero just smirked, deciding to accept their invitation. I'm in for the cleanup, he declared. A stunned Ellie pleaded for him to stop this madness. Those snakes were clearly using him as a pawn. He countered, that's exactly why he was going. Stepping out, he grinned. They'd built a stage for him, and he was ready to perform. But they weren't the stars of this show. He'd make them pay for every second of his wasted training. Soon, Minchul touched down on the forest battlefield. The operation was finally moving. The squad thanked him for showing up. They traded looks before Eugene flashed a cocky smirk. Just sit back and watch how real pros fight, Eugene sneered. Try to stay out of the way. Sure thing, Minchul shrugged. He was curious about their elite styles anyway as he strolled off. The 20-man raid team was balanced, tanks, melee carries, and mages. A textbook formation. He'd seen those arrogant stares 1,000 times in his past life. These amateurs didn't faze him. Another hunter approached, acting like they were old pals. He claimed they'd crossed paths before. Minchul thought, who is this loser? Why was he acting so familiar? He quickly shut him down. I don't have friends like you, he noted. The guy exploded. It was Yu Sangyu, his former rival. Oh right, the third-place loser. Sangyu claimed he was thrilled to be hunting together. Minchul asked, why, with total indifference. Fuming Sangyu insisted every hunter who beat him had real skill. The kid was almost cute. His words dripped with venom, yet his bloodlust felt weirdly familiar. It reminded him of the pure chaos from Pandemonium. This guy was clearly full of himself. This is a team effort, Sangyu reminded him. He was clearly riding a massive ego high. I'm looking forward to it, Sangyu grinned. Minchul just thought this was going to be hilarious. They moved out. Suddenly, Sangyu signaled a halt. He held his hand high, stopping the entire unit. A monstrous bark tree erupted before them, letting out a bone-chilling roar. Sangyu commanded Squad S to engage. As the aggro teams surged forward, they prepared to land a devastating lights-out finishing blow. Suppression blades and wind cutters flew. The hunters cycled their spells, bombarding the beast in waves. Minchul analyzed the fight. That bark tree had insane magic resistance, standard spells wouldn't cut it. The melee units struck first to soften it up for the mages. A classic, slow and steady strategy. These Hwarang rookies weren't quite frontline legends yet, but their execution was surprisingly professional and clean. One hunter flawlessly chained a shockwave into a blazing fire spear. Perfect synergy. Everyone from the tank to the support was playing their part perfectly. It was efficient, yet boring. Minchul fought back a yawn. How long is this going to take? This pace was agonizingly slow. This basic routine wasn't his style. Holding back felt like dragging around useless dead weight. He glanced at Eugene, who was just playing spectator. Minchul knew he could have ended this instantly. Finally, Sangyu unleashed a 10-strike combo, shattering the wooden titan into a million splinters. Sangyu landed with a smug grin as the monster crumbled. He turned to Minchul, fishing for a compliment. Minchul gave a dry, impressive, fueling Sangyu's ego. The guild was just getting started, and while these rookies were surprisingly capable, Sangyu was the clear standout. But Minchul knew the truth. This stage wasn't for him. High-power fire and priority detection wouldn't save them. The hunters clashed. One girl unleashed a searing firestorm. Minchul shielded her, then cleaved the beast in two instantly. She thanked him, but the system showed zero contribution. His XP was robbed since others had already tagged it. 5 hours of this felt worse than solo grinding. Soloing was his fate. They reached the boss zone. The air grew heavy as they entered monster territory. Don't expect help, Eugene warned. Minchul sensed a trap. Eugene ordered his deputy to handle things perfectly. The deputy smirked, doubting Minchul would even participate. He didn't think the rookie could handle real combat. They promised rewards, but Minchul saw through their mercy. They wanted a scapegoat. Their eyes locked onto him. Sorry, Minchul smirked. I'm just allergic to your bullshit. We're a team, Eugene barked, his face turning red. Team, your jokes. I'd rather just clear this solo. Solo, they laughed. Minchul just cracked his knuckles. A bet then. Your entire squad versus me. First kill wins. Unless you're scared, the hunters froze in pure shock. But leave Eugene out. I want a fair challenge. You're insane, Eugene fumed. You can't win this alone. 20 against 1. Easy. I'm done playing nice. The squad erupted. This kid was totally disrespecting them. Minchil just grinned. He didn't need their trash plans. Should we take the bet? The deputy asked Eugene. Eugene hesitated, but the deputy wanted to humiliate him. Fine, Eugene agreed. But don't expect a rescue later. I won't need one, Minchil said, charging the boss. Dust trailed him as his eyes of truth activated. It was a race now. Then, something felt wrong. The Huarong weren't moving. They were just waiting. Did they know a secret about this mountain boss? If they provided the intel, they definitely lied. Were they using him as bait for something massive? No matter. He'd strike first. Then the earth roared. Magical pulses shook the ground. Suddenly the world exploded. A massive maw with razor fangs lunged from below. A sandworm. It was closing in with terrifying speed. Its screech was deafening. Minchil covered his ears, reeling. The beast locked on. What is this insane pressure? Without demonic defense, he'd be crushed instantly. It tracks vibrations. The beast lunged again, roaring. It was too fast. His blade struck scales like steel. Its regeneration was god tier. He had to keep hacking. Blood sprayed as he cut deep. He couldn't dodge. It was time for the final blow. Channeling his resolve, he slammed his massive hammer against the beast's ironclad scales. Sensing the Horang crew was plotting something big, while still MIA, he vaulted off the monster's massive carcass. A pang of guilt hit him. By the time the others showed up, this giant sandworm would be nothing but dust. Radiant mana erupted around him as he gripped his blade, driving the steel deep into the beast's core. The creature shrieked, spraying crimson everywhere. The wound was shallow, but it definitely got the job done. Pure skill wasn't his only weapon. Charging his fist with raw arcane energy, he locked his sights onto the target. He aimed for the impenetrable carapace, sending shockwaves of magic straight through the armor to shatter the monster's vitals. Admiring his own surgical precision, Minchil didn't let up. He dove back into the fray, relentlessly hacking away at the beast. As he systematically dismantled the giant, his squad froze. The very ground beneath them began to violently shudder. "You idiot," someone yelled. It wasn't just a shake. A massive landslide was roaring down toward them. Panic erupted as the crew scrambled to flee. They were losing it. Was he actually insane enough to mount that worm? The female knight gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She was the first to witness the impossible sight ahead. Minchil was soloing the Titan. While the others stood paralyzed by confusion, Minchil exuded nothing but pure, unadulterated confidence. He smirked openly, taunting the beast. Watching his god-tier agility, one knight stammered. Is a human even capable of that? Sure, their leader was elite, but soloing a sandworm? Unheard of. Yu Sang-woo watched, gritting his teeth in pure envy. He expected the kid to chicken out, but Eugene held him back. Going CQC now is suicide for the team's formation. The team's safety is at risk, Eugene shouted. Sang-woo screamed in frustration. They were running out of time. The bet was slipping away. Eugene admitted their intel was trash and urged the squad to fall back immediately. We'll get another shot. Just trust my guild experience, Eugene insisted. Sang-woo finally gave a reluctant nod of agreement. Sang-woo felt victory was still his, while Eugene figured the kid's power level was basically on par with Sang-woo's. It wasn't just raw stats, though. His insane reflexes and battle IQ allowed him to read the worm's every twitch. He struck with cold precision, knowing one tiny mistake meant a trip to the morgue. Sang-woo might have handled the beast, but could his current physical specs actually survive this chaos? Dodging that, not a chance. The gap was widening. Would Sang-woo ever be able to close it? If not, he'd just be another fraud. Meanwhile, our hero knelt calmly beside the mangled remains of the beast. Took you guys long enough, he joked. With the threat neutralized, he flashed a victory grin, savoring the win. Their big plan was useless now. Before long, bystanders were swarming, capturing his legendary feat on their smartphones. Gate cleared, the crowd roared. Minchil gave a smug Sang-woo a heavy pat on the back, grinning ear to ear. The cleanup crew was livid, obviously. With this much mess, sleep was definitely off the table for them tonight. Minchil spotted Ellie waiting nearby. As she approached, asking for the deets, he just threw a playful question back. Is she seriously still doubting him? He'd wiped the floor with them. A little later, over coffee, Ellie admitted she was stunned by how effectively he'd managed to boost his own hype. Does this mean more paperwork for you? He teased. She shrugged, saying she lived for the grind, though sometimes. He figured she was just a straight-up workaholic. Ellie fired back. You're the last person who should call me that. When he asked why, she pointed out his literal obsession with the hunt. Ouch, stop spitting facts, he laughed. Low blow, he joked. Ellie warned him to stop hunting for Gates and asked if she'd actually hurt his feelings. Not even close, he countered. His sights were set on something much bigger, the legendary Tower of Trials. Ellie laughed, thinking he was trolling, but his expression stayed dead serious. Every legendary powerhouse he'd faced had originated from that tower. Word is clearing those trials grants insane loot, massive buffs, and rare items. We're talking pure mana and legendary rewards. But the tower doesn't hand out strength for free. He told Ellie to book a meeting with the branch manager for tomorrow AM. Soon after, Marchan was hooting with excitement. Marchan was ready for him. Knowing Minchil was tower-bound, he'd already prepared a very special parting gift. He slid a bag across the table. That was fast, Minchil noted. Marchan just smirked and replied, an elite partner is always 10 steps ahead. The system identified a 500-kilogram spatial bag. Minchil was impressed. I'm a branch manager for a reason, not just luck at cards, Marchan chuckled. This one's on the house. Clear clearing his throat, Minchul cut him off and insisted the costs be deducted from his future payout. Handouts were off the table. He wouldn't sleep without paying his way. A stunned Marchand questioned his sincerity. The Interstellar Union always demands a double return. Lowering his guard meant falling into a permanent debt trap. He refused to be anyone's debtor. Marchand conceded, realizing an equal partnership was the only way forward. Sensing an opportunity, Marchand urged him to drop the formalities and ask for whatever he needed. He required a master architect. The goal: a training sanctuary that rivaled the intensity of a high-rank gate. Since gates weren't always accessible, he needed a mana-rich territory to anchor his complex magic circles. By fulfilling every training condition, the array would activate, skyrocketing the mana concentration to absolute peak levels. This fortress would serve as a mana magnet, boasting massive dimensions and impenetrable magical shielding. Completely off-limits to intruders, Minchul estimated the construction would burn through 700 million won. Checking the accounts, Marchand noted that Minchul currently held just over 600 million won. Minchul ordered him to proceed immediately, planning to settle the remaining balance once the work was finished. Marchand tried to offer a friendly discount, but Minchul shut down the charity with a cold stare. Though Marchand struggled with Minchul's refusal to borrow, he vowed to execute every instruction to perfection. With full trust established, their business was concluded. It was finally time for Minchul to vanish. Marchand stopped him with one final burning question. Minchul turned back, curious about the sudden hesitation. Entering the tower without an invite required a human soul. Marchand asked for confirmation, and Minchul nodded. So how would he get in? Silence followed, as Minchul realized Marchand mistook him for some high-level astral clone. The tower's system was ruthless, barring any clone from ever crossing its sacred threshold. The concern was valid. When asked if he was truly that curious, Marchand nodded with intense enthusiasm. Anyone would be dying to know. Sensing no malice, only pure fascination, Minchul decided to drop a hint. Because he was the real deal, he headed for the exit, waving a hand while delivering a cryptic answer. To find the truth, Marchand would have to die. Dying once was the only way to truly understand. Marchand stood there completely lost. Minchul knew his secret was forged in the shadows of a past life. He could enter the tower because the hero's blade ended his previous existence, reincarnating him as human. Marchand watched him leave, utterly perplexed. Minchul preferred saving the full story until their bond grew stronger. He teased his true identity, but how Marchand interpreted the riddle was none of his business. Overwhelmed by the perceived lack of trust, Marchand actually broke down into a fit of dramatic tears. Heads turned as Minchul entered the lounge. His god-tier visuals left the girls wondering where they'd seen him. Sinking into the sofa, he faced Verde. While they exchanged smiles, the girls obsessed over his sharp features. They plotted to score his number. Meanwhile, Verde bowed, feeling immensely honored to be summoned by him. Suddenly the system flared. A silence field engaged, sealing the duo within a soundproof magical barrier. Verde's mana manipulation was elite. For someone his age, his control over the craft was terrifyingly good. Verde beamed at the compliment, but his joy vanished when Minchul called his smile nasty and unsettling. No new orders had arrived. For now, the focus remained entirely on aggressively expanding the guild's territory. Minchul was genuinely impressed by the progress. Verde smirked, confirming the rise of their demonic guild. They were more than members. They were fanatical servants, guided by the power of the Black Flames. Under Verde's ruthless leadership, the organization had quickly become the most prosperous force in Korea. Minchul realized Verde was built different. His raw stats were light years ahead of any normal player. A true prodigy had been secured. As a loyal pawn, he and his guild would now serve Minchul. Having such a high-tier subordinate was a massive flex. Minchul needed to maximize his utility immediately. Setting down his soda, Minchul's gaze turned cold. Verde swore his very soul to his master's cause. Rising from his seat, Minchul issued a chilling command. Do not move an inch, no matter what happens. He thrust his hand toward Verde's face, dark rays of energy erupting in a swirl of terrifying power. Eerie shadows bled from his palm as dark rays began to emanate directly into Verde's wide-eyed face. Verde trembled, paralyzed by pure terror. As he stammered in shock, Minchul just wore a chillingly calm smirk. Focus, he commanded. One slip in concentration, and your life ends right here. Demons process mana differently. They can't wield Verde's dark arts, let alone teach him any power-ups. Silence hung heavy. Yet, while magic was off-limits, martial arts were a whole different beast. The art of mind-splitting, it's more of a divine energy technique than a standard combat style. It shatters your consciousness into pieces, supercharging your brain's processing speed. But how does that help a mage? Think of magic as complex calculus. If you can solve multiple equations at once, everything changes. Your efficiency goes nuclear. Mastering mind-splitting means you're essentially a living supercomputer. Verde stared at his trembling hands, horrified. He screamed, Lord Ephraim, what kind of monstrous power is this? Minchul explained that this art optimizes your brain, turning magical casting into instant death sentences. He could now crush high-tier demons effortlessly. But this was just a taste, the bare basics. Real training lay ahead. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Verde's eyes welled up as he shouted in disbelief. This god-tier ability was unheard of. Minchul joked that if an enemy had struck, then they'd both be toast. They'd be in a coma for sure, he laughed. Nearby, girls whispered, did he just grab that guy's skull? Is this a fight? Public soul transfers weren't ideal, but luckily the data download was a total success. One touch, and their circuits would have fried. They'd be trending on the news as brain-dead vegetable victims. Messing with a mind is a death trap for both parties. One slip and it's game over. But he's the former Demon King, he's got this. Still worried, Verdi stammered. Wait, shouldn't we have rented a private room? Minchell shrugged. Those places are way too pricey, man. Aren't you loaded? Verdi asked. Nope, I'm broke too. Minchell realized he was still stuck in student mode. Old habits die hard. Verdi shivered, realizing he nearly died over a $5 cup of coffee, risking his life for cheap lattes. Insane. Anyway, time to wrap this up and get moving. Master mind separation to 2 stars while I'm away, Minchell ordered. Verdi's jaw dropped. Where are you going? I'm heading home before I challenge the tower, Minchell replied calmly. You aren't hitting some S-rank gate right, don't sweat it, Minchell grinned. Soon, he was at the station. He told his buddy to be glad he wasn't being dragged along. His friend just scoffed back. This is the only way I know you're still alive, plus when else does a broke student get a train ride? High-speed rail is a luxury, okay, tell your folks, I said. Hi, Minchell smiled. You got it. Meet Kim Kite, Minchell's childhood bestie and fellow student. Kite didn't hold back his frustration. You're a ghost. You train all night, change numbers, and even ditched uni to play hunter. You went totally off-grid to be a hunter. Minchell was stunned, offering a quiet thank you. I'm not done, Kite snapped. Everyone at school is freaking out now that you're a superstar. People keep begging me for your autograph. I even had to stop your mom from storming Seoul. She was panicking since you wouldn't pick up. She was screaming, thinking something horrible had happened. She was ready to pack her bags. I finally calmed her down by showing her your news articles. She was floored. Honestly, after that gate, I thought you were gonna die a lonely hermit. Glad I found you. Around the corner, Minchell's phone exploded with his mother's frantic yelling. Why aren't you answering? She was terrified. He apologized profusely, but she wasn't having it. You got secrets. He mentioned his hunter life, and she gasped. Isn't that job a death sentence? Nah, it's totally safe, he lied. I'm staying far away from anything risky, Mom. Do you even care how scared I was? Kite watched from the shadows, absolutely loving this. Seeing the legendary Minchell sweat under a mom lecture was gold. Loyal friends are hard to find. Who else helps pick out parent gifts? Inside the box was premium fruit and top-tier Korean beef. Minchell paid for it all. I've thanked him enough. Dinner is on me next time. Appreciating the gift from Minchell. He'd already said thanks, but he definitely planned to return the favor next time. Next up was the city's most elite restaurant, so he had to look the part. As they exchanged waves, they parted ways until their next encounter. Minchell realized that claiming he was too busy to call was a total lie. The guilt was real, and he knew it. Ever since, his past life memories came flooding back. He'd been obsessed with the grind for power, ignoring everything else. Now, reality was finally hitting him. It was the ultimate proof of how much he'd changed. Standing before his family's chicken shop, he knew Damos would never experience an emotion like this. Though only months had passed, it felt like an eternity. His folks had run this Nambu market stall for 20 years, famous for their old-school deep-frying style. He'd actually missed that heavy grease scent. It used to make him nauseous, since it was everywhere, but now, well, he couldn't exactly say he loved the smell. Even as a top-tier hunter, certain things never change. There were some truths he just couldn't reveal. His college buddies constantly pried, but how could he admit that the smell of fried chicken made him gag? His peers would literally kill for a family business like this. They'd be thanking the heavens every single day. Suddenly, his hand trembled as he reached for the door handle. He stepped inside, meeting his mother's gaze. She froze mid-task, her jaw literally hitting the floor in shock. His father rushed out, shouting, "Who's there, Mincho?" Just grinned, announcing his return. Soon, a platter appeared. It was peak golden brown perfection, an aroma so divine it overwhelmed every single one of his senses. Mincho grabbed a glowing drumstick, the crunch giving way to pure, juicy bliss. It was a spiritual experience. The flavor was straight up sinful. He nearly lost his mind. Mom scolded him for not calling ahead, wishing she'd prepared his favorites. He usually claimed he hated chicken, but they were just happy he was eating. He insisted it was fine. Nothing in Seoul could even touch his dad's legendary frying skills. Dad laughed, offering to drop another batch. Mincho beamed. After those past life memories surfaced, he'd briefly lost sight of his roots. These people had raised him with pure, unconditional devotion. They supported him through every struggle, even slipping him free chicken coupons as a sign of love. They celebrated his smallest wins with all their hearts. They were the one thing he'd die to protect. They were his entire world. He nudged them to open the presents he'd brought his way of giving back. It was all he could offer for now. Dad joked about the insane hunter money finally rolling in, proud of his grown-up son. Mom just shook her head, insisting he was still her little boy. She looked at him warmly, telling him to stop wasting his hard-earned cash on them. Save your money, okay, she pleaded. He agreed, though they both knew Minjin would be home soon. His sister stood outside a closed cafe, staring at the day-off sign while eavesdropping on the chatter. Minjin wondered why she was even there. Didn't he know she was the shop's evening shift help? She burst inside, announcing her arrival only to freeze at the sight of the expensive gifts. She was totally baffled. Is the shop closed? Did someone die? What is going on? She blurted out. Her eyes locked onto Mincho's and she immediately went nuclear. What are you doing here? She shrieked. I was going to ask you the same thing, he barked back. The sibling war had officially begun. They started insulting each other's hygiene like toddlers, until Mom stepped in to break it up. Will you two ever grow up? She sighed. They just synchronized their final. That is it at once. Mom joked they must have been mortal enemies in a past life. Mincho just thought his sister was an annoying brat. He eyed her suspiciously. Could she be linked to his past? Then Minjin spotted the loot. Where is my cut? She demanded. Mincho deadpanned that there was absolutely nothing for her. She pouted, begging him to be a good brother. He snapped back. I do not even have a sister. Minjin pulled the cute girl card, but Mincho was not buying it. He had 0 gifts for her. Stop, you are making me gag, he groaned. She whined about all the effort she spent buttering him up. Was there really nothing? Suddenly, he reached into his pocket and slapped an envelope on the table. Her face lit up instantly as she snatched the cash. He told her to stay humble and know her place. Minjin just smirked. Keep the money coming and I will act like you do not exist. Silence followed. Around the dinner table, Min Chul pressed for an answer. Was she really going to keep giving him the silent treatment? Suddenly, the TV flickered to life with breaking news that massive Jeonju Gate had completely vanished into thin air. 18 days later, reporter Kim Yoo-jin broke down the specifics, leaving Mom breathing a massive sigh of relief. When Dad boasted about being her shield, Mom turned beet red and shrieked at his cheesy lines. Not in front of the kids, she yelled, while Min Chul recalled his duty to seal that gate near their front door. Their smiles made his struggle worth it, as the screen showed government officials welcoming the victorious hunters. The operation's success was credited to the Hwarang Guild's powerhouse leader, the legendary Yu Jin. Then the bombshell dropped. Min Chul had soloed the boss. Mom gasped, her face pale with disbelief. Is that really our son? Mom stammered, while Min Jung yelled about his own overlooked heroics during the rift. A new alliance was forged between Hwarang and the Interstellar Union, with Yu Jin taking the spotlight for the press. Then a total jump scare, a hideous photo of Min Chul flashed on screen. He groaned at their terrible choice. Seriously, no better shots, he muttered, just as the reporter confirmed the Hwarang Guild's official support. They backed his solo raid on both the rift and the gate, leaving the world buzzing for his next move. As Yujin stood by him, the living room fell into a deafening silence. The family was absolutely floored. Mom locked eyes with her son. He was sweating bullets trapped under her intense questioning gaze. Explain yourself. Is your life in danger? She demanded. All he could do was offer a nervous, awkward laugh. He didn't even know where to start. Later that night, Min Chul sprang from bed, mind racing with possibilities. Nursing a massive headache, he grabbed his phone and decided to completely unplug for 2 whole days. Day 1 was all about family sharing bits of his journey and soaking in the warmth of home. By day 2, he was clinking glasses with friends after Kita made a surprise appearance in town. He chose to just be Min Chul, ignoring the heavy baggage of his past life's haunting memories. He had been sprinting like a hunted man, so this brief peace was exactly what his soul needed. The fun was great, but the fire inside remained. He swore once more he had to level up. His current power wouldn't cut it against the coming storm. To shield his loved ones, he needed god-tier strength. Despite the risks, he headed to the station ready to face his destiny after saying his final goodbyes. They begged him to play it safe. Don't worry, I'm not looking for trouble, he promised, but Mom wasn't convinced. No more soloing boss gates, she warned. He nodded, realizing just how much she worried about her little boy. She pleaded for updates to keep her nerves steady. Dad whispered that she was actually heartbroken to see him go. Mom pinched Dad for spilling her secrets, turning bright red. Then his sister stepped up with her usual attitude. Are you leaving or what? You're holding up the train, she teased. Yeah, I'm going, he laughed back. She acted like she couldn't wait to see him leave as long as he brought back some cash next time. Then she flipped the script, calling him the world's best brother and promising to cover for him at home. Your acting is top tier, he joked before the train pulled out, carrying him back toward the concrete jungle. Stepping onto the platform, he was stunned to find Ellie waiting. Look who's actually on time, she smirked. You're prompt for once, he countered. She scoffed, challenging him to name a single time she had ever been late. It'll never happen, she boasted. Then her eyes sharpened. So is it time? Are you heading to the tower? He nodded grimly. Tell Markian to prep my request. Ellie gave a sharp nod. She was on it. They reached the looming portal. Min Chul stared into the abyss, the entrance to the infamous Tower of Trials. A foreign, crushing energy radiated from it. Just as he prepared to step in, a piercing scream cut through the air. Wait, Ellie cried out. Are you really just going to leave without saying a single word to me? She lashed out, demanding he promise to actually come back alive, instead of just vanishing into the void. Did I miss the goodbye part, he wondered? To him, it wasn't final. He fully intended to see her again. Most who challenge the tower don't return for months, if they even return at all. With a brutal 70% survival rate, his E-rank body felt like a death sentence on paper. He felt the nerves, but with past life mastery on his side, he understood exactly why she was so terrified. He's safe for now. Ellie fades from his view. He never imagined a stranger's concern would hit this deep. A dinner invitation upon his return, Ellie was floored. He just nodded, disappearing through the heavy gates. No business, just a genuine hangout. This is a temporary farewell. A confident smirk plays on his lips. Catch you later. Entering the tower, the abyss swallows him whole. His every sense goes pitch black. Sight is useless here. A notification suddenly flares. Ancient celestial arts have been successfully activated. Min Chul flares his aura to map the void. A mysterious voice echoes, "Welcome to the Proving Tower." Who's there? A sudden welcoming ceremony begins. He spins instantly, locking his gaze onto a presence. Impressive. You can see me, the shadow muses. Min Chul squinted, barely catching a faint silhouette. With a sharp snap, the illusion shatters. Standing there was a massive guy, wearing a bear head. Welcome to the tower's first floor. I'm Lucy, your guide and training officer for this level. A bear mask, Lucy blinked. A bear, wait, let me check. Ah, it's actually a bald lion. A bald lion, Minchell sighed. Quit the clowning. Let's get straight to the business at hand. Lucy teased his short fuse. The name's John Minchell, a legacy passed down from my parents. Lucy let out a laugh. All right, Minchell. Then he vanished. Initiating the zero trial now. A holographic screen flickered to life. His heart raced. This is the exact same interface. It was the same system from his Hunter Awakening. The notification read, Trial Tower Floor 0. Objective trial by combat. Prove your strength or die. The enemy is hidden. Survival is the only exit. Just say status bar to check progress. Minchell grinned. There's no way this is just a coincidence. He felt a surge of excitement. Lucy warned that his stats were being nerfed for this trial. Only one weapon allowed. Once you choose, you're locked in until the very end. No swaps. I won't wish you luck, Lucy chuckled. Something tells me you'll be the one surprising us. He looked capable, but Jin scoffed from the sidelines. Look at those trash stats. He's just another weakling. How could he survive? No challenger has ever had their power scaled down this aggressively before. Minchell's power was capped at 100 points. Jin groaned. Another kid looking for an early grave. Lucy leaned back, watching closely. If he fails here, it's permanent game over. No second chances. He's different from the usual fodder. Lucy wondered how many seconds he'd actually last. Those low numbers didn't bother her. Jin crossed his arms. I'll bet he drops in 10 minutes. He needs to at least survive the stat nerf. Lucy smirked. 10 minutes, I'll bet 10 seconds. Minimum 2 minutes, Jin barked. Don't go crying when you lose. Lucy just laughed it off. A savage werewolf suddenly manifested, snarling with bloodlust. Minchell didn't flinch. He just smiled. Seeing the enemy's stats was a massive advantage. Even nerfed, his adjusted power had actually doubled. This would be a total cakewalk. The werewolf roared, lunging forward with its razor-sharp claws. Minchell summoned a glowing energy spear, piercing the beast. The watchers gasped as Lucy confirmed the kill. Stage 1, cleared. His mana and health surged back to full. Every scratch vanished instantly. 10 minutes until the next round. Or he could just say skip. Minchell didn't hesitate. I'm barely even sweating. Skip. Floor 2 brought a harpy. 1 hit later, skip. Stage 4, a skeleton warrior. Before Lucy finished the sentence, Minchell crushed it. Next, skip. The trials continued. Minchell tore through every monster like wet paper. Were the rumors a lie? Floor 7 approached. He didn't even wait to see what it was. Another strike. Skip. Levels 8 and 9 flashed by in a blur. He was looking for a real challenge. Is there anyone worth fighting here? Jin stared at the screen, questioning his own eyesight. Lucy was speechless. 10 stages in 10 seconds. That's a god-tier world record. High rankers usually struggle here, Jin yelled in shock. Now he understood Lucy's sudden interest. Her intuition was spot on. Tracking his movements wasn't luck. He could actually see her. Usually the tower's registration light paralyzes a candidate's senses. But for Minchell, he was wide awake. Long ago, she'd endured this same agony. This process should have left him numb, yet he shattered every limit imaginable. Where did this monster originate? She muttered. His mere existence threatened the mortal realm itself. Stage 48, dark illusions cleared. To dive straight back in, he just had to say the word. Skip, Minchell commanded. Scanning the horizon, he wondered when this grind would peak. The real thrill only began when the beasts finally outclassed him. As they spawned, he felt his own power surging. Then the system notification flashed. Experience points flooded in 2.53, then 3.5%. Minchell savored these juicy bonus rewards. He prayed the feast wouldn't stop. With 100 stages left, Minchell barked, Stage 49 Vagabond. System alert. The Vagabond boasts 300 strength and 350 agility points. A true speedster. This boss was maxed out, wielding lethal skills like rapid fencing and the terrifying ultimate blade dance. Few have reached my domain, the boss spoke. Whoa, a talking mob, Minchell gasped. The Vagabond smirked. Indeed. Let the trial commence. The Vagabond's blade whistled through the air instantly. Challenging his prowess, Minchell analyzed the movement. This guy's swordplay was blindingly quick and precise. Each strike felt suffocating. To win, he needed to crush that agility with raw, overwhelming power. Alert, he's using the 5 Tiger Blade steel, clashed against steel. Wait, he actually parried, that the boss wondered. You're different, the Vagabond admitted, leaping back. I've faced legends, but never a freak like you. Minchell grinned. Is that a compliment? The highest one possible, the warrior replied firmly. 7 endured this trial too. Minchell nodded. 7. Sounds pretty badass. Launching off the ground, he lunged, but the Vagabond's defense was ironclad. A frustrated roar erupted. What forbidden power lurked within that steel? Minchell just flashed a confident, cocky smirk. Does he think buzzing around like a fly will work? Minchell knew one solid hit was all it took. His blade danced, too. The Vagabond's heart sank. Was he actually being pushed back by this kid? 3. Another bone-rattling strike landed. The boss shrieked, impossible. My stats should be superior. He swung again. The secret was the combo, stacking lightning-fast hits to create an unstoppable flow. Combos trumped raw, messy power. Buff ancient celestial art surged by 40%. Pure energy flooded him. Consecration boosted by 50%. 1 chaos energy outweighed 3 mana levels. With these buffs, he felt invincible. Victory was certain. Stats were just numbers. Only 7. No 8 now. The vagabond whispered in defeat. 7 managed to beat me. The same 7 from before, Minchul asked. Precisely, the vagabond confirmed. They are the Tower Kings. Minchul wondered about the final trial. Man-clashing blades felt incredible. It's been ages since he'd had this much fun. Stage 49 cleared. The finale starts in 10 minutes. To skip the wait, just say the word. Minchul didn't hesitate. The finale, let's skip right to it. Lightning tore the sky apart, nightmare mode. Seriously, knights wreathed in, shimmering mana began to materialize. System, you face the Legion. All stats 100. Mission obliterate 100 elite legionnaires to survive. 100 enemies, now that's a legendary story. Since their stats matched, he knew the real challenge. Were they just trying to swarm him? Blessings buffs, the legionnaires chanted. Minchul's eyes narrowed. Not just numbers. If he hesitated, they'd stack infinite buffs. He had 0 time for standing around. Target 1, the support casters. Suddenly fireballs and water arrows rained down, aiming straight for his head. Boom, the explosion rocked the arena, but Minchul blinked away. Then the legionnaires initiated a sneak attack. Sorrow Strike, Dark Ambush, Seal of Slowness, curses and punishments began bombarding him from every single angle. They were stacking debuffs to cripple him, making escape impossible. The system alerts started screaming in his vision. Slowness, Seal active agility down 10%. God's punishment triggered, sending agonizing pain and itching through him. Blindness curse applied. Everything went blurry. The legionnaires leveled their spears, charging them with lethal mana. A massive ultimate was coming. With his sight gone, dodging was out of the question now. If he couldn't dodge, he'd just have to overpower them. Minchul unleashed a devastating mana wave forward. They were about to swarm him. Perfect, he thought. Now it's my turn. A new window popped. Divine Flame activated, purifying energy healed his wounds instantly. The blindness curse shattered, restoring his sight. The legionnaires hissed. Is the threat neutralized? Minchul mused. Large squads always have hidden gaps. Inexperienced squads overlook openings. But these veterans won't leave a single blind spot for me. Whether the 7 exploited this or not, I'll take it. Minchul charged, blade whistling, knowing one truth. Hesitation equals death. The system pinged 97 legionnaires remaining, then 96, then 94. Lunging forward, Minchul traded defense for pure offense. Why dodge everything when he could deal more damage? I need to bait them, he realized. Before they adapt, the mages shrieked. He's closing in. Form a perimeter. Guard the rear. Minchul clicked his tongue. These bastards were fast to react. Staffs glowed as they roared. Firestorm Ice Spear, Minchul gripped his hilt and leaped toward the chaos. God of War, a legendary title reserved only for the demon who reigned supreme at the combat peak. A title forged through blood. Hold the line, a soldier yelled. Minchul knew he just needed one opening. Break that one link, and the entire formation crumbles. They activated solid shield and unshakable defense. Time to flip the script. He unleashed a flurry of strikes but realized his current attacks weren't leaving a scratch. Just one crack in their armor. Flames erupted, but Minchul blitzed through the heat, striking with lethal precision. Too sluggish, he mocked. In this game, speed is everything. The system window began flashing alerts. The Legion's numbers plummeted. Minchul's blade danced, leaving only 69 enemies standing on the battlefield. Universe energy, 215 out of 1,400. Minchul's eyes narrowed. It was time. With the elite guards neutralized, he aimed solely for their vitals. From here on, it would be a total slaughter. Mages down, regroup, a soldier cried. Minchul grinned. 69 versus 1. You guys scared to move. He chuckled, staying still like mannequins. Fine. He accelerated into a blur, shouting, then I'm coming to you. I'll bring the party to you. The system pinged. 54 remain. The massacre was entering its final phase. Seconds later, only 21 remained. Soon, a lone survivor gasped. This is impossible. One man did all this. Minchul shrugged. What's the big deal? Game over. He swung his blade and a final scream pierced the air. Looking at the fallen, he muttered, nice hustle. The system window flickered with the final count. 0 legionnaires left. Jin's jaw dropped. No way. This is insane. The Invincible Legion. Lost. Did Luce see this coming? How could I? She whispered. She knew he was strong, but this. Wiping out the entire Legion was unthinkable. They're a high-ranking undead swarm bound by a hive mind of pure vengeance. Human armies stumble, but the Legion is flawless. They move like a single colossal monster of absolute destruction. They crush everything in their path. Undefeated, until today. The system window chimed with a world-shattering announcement. Trial of battle cleared. He officially holds first place among every legend to ever challenge the Zero Floor. Zero Floor rankings. Rank 1, Jian Minchul. Rank 2, the Demon King. The power gap was undeniable. 7 emperors. Talk about a mid-name, Minchul scoffed. None of those clowns even made the leaderboard. Even with their flashy titles, the system confirmed Minchul had achieved the impossible. A feat truly without equal. For this legendary feat, his name was carved forever into the tower's eternal history. He was now a myth. Reward 1 million points. Minchul blinked. Wait, 1 million. What are these even for? The system clarified immediately. These points serve as the tower's universal currency. Minchul pondered. Is 1 million a massive bag or pocket change? Given the difficulty, he figured it was a fortune. Suddenly, Luce materialized right behind him like a ghost. Congrats on passing, she chirped. Yeah, thanks WAAH. Minchul jumped out of his skin, letting out a startled yell. He spun around, heart racing. How did he miss her? Was it a tower skill or her own power? Being caught off guard like that seriously annoyed him. Luz tilted her head. Why the long face? You just beat the floor, shouldn't you be happy? I'm fine, Minchul grunted. Luz just giggled playfully. In that case, here's your prize. Brilliant energy surged into his veins. Wait, what's happening to me? He gasped. A mythical rank world stone materialized. This legendary artifact held the literal power of creation within its core. Minchul smirked. A world stone. This gem was famous for its ability to forge entire new dimensions from nothing. It's too small for a full dimension, he mused, but the raw power inside is still absolutely insane. Luch smiled. That is the ultimate reward for conquering the zero floor. Minchul froze. Wait. Seriously. Lucia questioned if the administrator was truly clueless. Isn't he supposed to be all-knowing? This tower is a graveyard of secrets. The manager's vision is limited, especially regarding otherworldly artifacts. Does he even know it exists? Minchul pondered. He had his own secret intel and chose to keep quiet. He wasn't about to reveal his secrets. Lucia gestured wildly. Regardless of that, she began. He knows his prize is legendary, overshadowing the rewards of every other floor combined. She realized, no treasure in existence compares to this stone. Refine it, and you'll forge a transcendental artifact. Or maybe even mythical. Only 15 such relics exist. Transcendental is slightly lower, but only 100 pieces have ever been found. Lucia suggested finding a legendary tower blacksmith to forge a masterpiece, but Minchul cut her off. I don't need a weapon. Lucia gasped in disbelief. Minchul felt his current gear was enough. Instead, he decided to do the unthinkable. He crushed the stone. Lucia shrieked in absolute terror. What was he doing? Her mind screamed. This guy is a lunatic. He destroyed a god-tier treasure. Blinding crystalline shards exploded outward like a dying star. Minchul sat cross-legged on the cold floor. Primordial origin and universal energy are one and the same. This world stone vibrates with that exact cosmic frequency. And now, he was attempting a feat never seen before. He was going to absorb the stone. Lucia stood frozen. Violent winds began to tear through the room. Minchul channeled the stone's raw creation power inward. He poured it into his inner cosmos, forging a new universe. The system pinged. Ancient celestial art mastery has increased by 15%. The notifications didn't stop there. Mastery increased by 10%. Again, another 10%. His power was skyrocketing. He couldn't take it all yet, barely a 1% absorption. This is my current limit, he thought. Any more, and his soul would shatter. But at least he'd successfully birthed a son. Controlling this force meant becoming a god. Phase 1 of his plan was finally complete. The system confirmed it. The ancient celestial art is a cultivation path with no ceiling. It's a breathing technique that constructs a galaxy within the high-dimensional upper meridian. By siphoning the waves of celestial light and primordial darkness, and anchoring them in the mindscape, one commands the universe. 4-star mastery is the key. At 2 stars, your universal energy reserves skyrocket by 30%. 3 stars grants a 40% boost. But 4 stars, that's where the real power lies. Energy consumption for martial arts drops by 30%, and his recovery rate is insane. 9 points of regen. Cosmic power hit 2,500, and total energy reached 4,500. His energy was off the charts. Minchul grinned. He'd just jumped from 2 stars to 4. Lucia stammered, demanding to know what happened. She saw the destruction, but where was the energy? Minchul glanced back. I absorbed it. Well, a small piece anyway. Lucia was speechless. How did he even conceive such a thing? Minchul shrugged. She probably thinks it's just instinct. Even he was flying blind. Lucia watched him closely. He wasn't lying. To clear floor 100, he definitely needed an edge. She admitted she believed him, sensing his monstrous potential. She tossed him a jagged rock. Catch. Minchul grabbed it, confused. It's a token, she said. A sign that he'd piqued her interest. Minchul wasn't looking for attention, but Lucia insisted. Minchul didn't push for answers. Instead, he scanned it. Eyes of truth. System. It's an Oron fragment. Legendary rank variable form with 500 durability. Stolen from the 3rd floor treasury, if used in the right coordinates. It would unlock a hidden vault. Minchul realized this was a key to a secret zone. There was still so much loot to claim, including that shingle fragment. He smiled hungrily. This is getting interesting. Fine, I'll take it as a little souvenir, he remarked. Lucia smirked at his arrogance. What a cheeky brat. Minchul headed for the stairs focused. The peak is his only obsession. Though the destination is a mystery, his legendary journey officially begins now. What terrors lie ahead? Suddenly, a system alert flashes Floor 1 quest, the scorching desert. Survival is the only objective in this hellscape of blistering daylight and bone-chilling nights. Stay alive at all costs. To clear this trial, he must locate the hidden path to level 2. Minchul questioned the tower's cruelty. Throwing him into this wasteland so abruptly felt like a death sentence. Without cosmic energy, he'd be paralyzed. A notification pings, new terrain exploration has officially initiated. Progress crawled by 0.01%. Minchul froze. Only 0.01. Are you kidding me? A beast lunged from the shadows with a deafening roar. Minchul countered instantly, silencing the monster forever. He trudged onward through the heat. After miles of walking, the progress bar had barely even budged. Despair started creeping in. Seeing that tiny number was a mistake. Why is the bottom floor this brutal? He'd rather slay hordes than endure this trek. After clearing another pack, he sighed, feeling utterly drained. He cracked open a fried rice ration for a quick fuel up. One bite in, he realized something surprising. The flavor was actually decent. Modern rations are top tier, yet he still couldn't fathom one depressing fact. Total exploration sat at a miserable 0.2%. Even worse, the objective wasn't even completion. He didn't need 100%, he just needed the exit hidden somewhere in this endless shifting sand. Luck might end this fast, but he couldn't count on it. Scanning the horizon, he spotted suspicious movement. "Stay right there," he barked at the approaching silhouettes. These vultures were already circling for a kill. A man raised his hands defensively. "Relax, friend. No need for weapons. We just want to talk business." "A deal," Minchell echoed. The stranger grinned. "Exactly. You're fresh from floor 0, aren't you?" Minchell nodded coldly. "What if we trade some food for the location of the floor 2 entrance?" He offered the exit coordinates for a price. Minchell smirked internally. These guys were as transparent as glass. "If you know the way, why are you still rotting down here?" Minchell questioned, testing their story. Did they take him for a fool? "We're going." Eventually, the man shrugged. "We're just not in a rush." They were stalling for a reason. Beside the main quest, secret objectives offered much more powerful rewards. Clearing hidden trials maximizes growth before ascending. They claimed to be grinding out those bonuses right now. They needed supplies to prolong their stay. "That sounds plausible," Minchell replied, playing along with their game. "But I don't trust you. You could be selling me lies for a meal." The leader countered quickly. "If it's proof you want, we'll hand over our hand-drawn map of the entire region right now." It contained precise coordinates for the next level. "A map," Minchell repeated, feigning his interest. "Yeah, it reveals the fog of war." "Didn't you know?" the man asked. Minchell acted completely surprised. A map feature existed this whole time. The system really dropped the ball on that one. The stranger scoffed internally. What a clueless rookie. He was certain this scam was going to be effortless. "So, do we have a deal?" the man pressed. Minchell sighed. "Not bad. Actually, it is perfect. I can restock before heading up." "Fine, I agree. Let's make this trade happen right now." Intel was worth more than food. The group smirked as their leader stepped forward to finalize the deal. "Don't thank me yet," Minchell cold-called him. "After all, you're being so generous. Isn't that right, Dikran?" Dikran's face paled instantly. "How do you know my name?" Minchell lunged, striking before they could blink. "What the hell?" they screamed. Minchell just shook his head. These idiots were way out of their league. Thanks to Eyes of Truth, he'd already spotted the rare-grade bloody key hidden deep in Dikran's pocket. It offers escape from the nameless altar trial, but only after being drenched in the blood of victims. Their bloodlust was amateur hour. "You've lured plenty of rookies to their deaths for that key, haven't you?" They charged in a desperate frenzy. Minchell danced through them, cold and precise. "I'm just returning the favor." Surveying the carnage, he felt no guilt. This wasn't about justice, it was about the price of betrayal. They betrayed the warrior's code for cheap tricks. Deceivers don't deserve mercy. Suddenly, the system chimed loudly. First floor participants eliminated. Reward synchronizing all explored map data from the deceased player's systems. Exploration just spiked from 0.2 to a massive 81%. Minchell muttered, his eyes widening in shock. Talk about a jackpot. These stairs lead straight to the second floor altar. Now, where's the lock for this key? Simply hiking up to the next floor feels almost boring, he thought, with a confident smirk. With requirements this steep, the reward must be legendary. He just needs one more soul to trigger the event. He'd find a partner soon enough. But as Minchell reached the ancient staircase, he stopped dead in his tracks. 0 players in sight. Seriously, even after he'd mowed down an entire army of monsters along the way. Well, the massive experience gains should keep him happy for now. Time to head up and scout the perimeter. Minchell realized the key was just an insurance policy. If he conquers the trial, this item becomes totally irrelevant. What kind of trial is waiting? Is that the altar? He asked as the system pinged Trial Tower Floor 1. A hidden quest, the altar of the nameless god. This place radiates a truly savage ancient energy. This site once drank the blood of human sacrifices to summon a deity. It's a ruin now, yet divine power still pulses. Overcome the guardian, protecting this sacred ground, and the relic of a god will finally be his. Objective: conquer the altar's trial. Restriction: this challenge is available only once every 10 days. Rewards 10,000 points and a heart crystal. Once every 10 days, Minchell repeated, his interest peaked. No time limit. Beating the trial beats crafting that key any day. Especially with a 10,000 point bounty on the line. Is the million points from training really that much? Suddenly, a blinding light erupted right beside him. Did someone beat me to the punch? Minchell spun around, coming face to face with a warrior radiating pure power. System ID: Raoul de Goldrian. Race Draconian. Age 111. Specialties: melee and magic. Hidden stats: a Draconian, a literal dragon man. At 111 years old, he's basically just hit his prime. His aura is suffocating. This guy is a total wildcard in this nightmare difficulty scenario. Winning at his current level is a long shot. Draconians replace the blood dragons. Even their youths can stomp demons. They live for honor and raw strength, always obsessed with the glory of a fair fight. In that sense, they're kindred spirits. It's why he played nice with them in his previous life. That's his edge. They're justice-obsessed simpletons, noble sure, but also incredibly predictable and a bit clumsy. They despise anything dishonorable. If he plays his cards right, he can settle this without breaking a sweat. "I am Raoul de Goldrian," the warrior declared. "A proud scion of the golden race. Just a human here. Name's John Minchell." Raoul reached out, offering what he called friendly advice. A bit forward for a first meeting. What advice? Minchil asked. Raoul simply warned him to skip the trial. It's way above an earthling's pay grade, Minchil scoffed. Who did this overgrown lizard think he was? He clearly didn't think Minchil stood a chance. Trying to hog the loot for yourself, Minchil challenged. Raoul insisted his warning came from a place of concern. Surprisingly, Minchil sensed zero deception. If Raoul saw him as a threat, he'd have swung his sword already. Silence would have meant letting him die. This worked out perfectly. If you're so worried, Minchil proposed, how about you back me up if things get hairy? Raoul hesitated. Minchil pushed further, promising to hand over the extra quest once the dust settled. If he buys this, he's a total sucker. If not, he's just a coward, Minchil thought. It was a bold move asking for a free bodyguard. Only a draconian's twisted sense of honor would fall for it. Raoul laughed. Fine. I won't rob you of your chance at glory. You're a clever one, Earthling. Deal. Minchil smirked. This arrogant blockhead actually swallowed the bait hook, line, and sinker. I'm counting on you, Minchil said, triggering the trial. System alert. The bloody key quest remains incomplete. Must be the missing piece. The system flashed. Begin the trial without a sacrifice. Is that even a question? Do it, Minchil barked. With a heavy click, the ancient seal finally broke. System Alter Guardian has emerged. Minchil stared at the beast. That's supposed to be a guardian. It was a creature of pure nightmare, the demonic beast Pandemonium. As it roared, the battle for survival began. Whoever this nameless god was, using a Pandemonium demon as a guard was absolutely insane. But for Minchil, this was the ultimate opportunity to prove his strength. White-knuckling his blade, he plunged into the fray. First form Star Sunderer, our protagonist whispered. The Pandemonium Hound, a literal nightmare from the abyss. Its strategy, pure aggression, and a swarm of whipping tentacles. Some limbs actually track the victim's mana like a heat-seeking missile. Lopping them off is useless because they don't hurt the main core. It is a soul-draining war of attrition designed to bleed you dry. But constant regeneration isn't free. Every time it heals, its ironclad defense finally shows a fatal crack. Seizing the moment, Minchil sliced through the vines. There it is, he shouted, targeting the exposed heart. He lunged with lethal intent. A system alert flashed. The corrupted beast is currently being suppressed by overwhelming pressure. Target paralyzed. It was time for the 7-star sword's second act. Shooting star, Minchil's blade crashed into the beast's skull, sending it thudding down. Raoul stood there stunned. He never imagined the beast would drop so fast. Using the Wise King's mind's eye, a draconian royal exclusive, he could see the very flow and density of a target's mana, gauging their true power levels. He was shook. How did this kid with mid-tier physical stats just absolute zero a Pandemonium Hound? Things just got complicated. Raoul desperately needed that heart crystal. Meanwhile, Minchil eyed the fallen guardian. He'd aimed for a one-shot kill. Was the second form already his ceiling? Honestly, without that world stone, he'd be toast. It doubled his dark energy reserves while slashing his mana cost by 30%. But his weak physical vessel still capped his high-tier martial arts. He had to pivot his strategy immediately. He dealt a few more strikes, ready to end the paralyzed nightmare. Suddenly, a notification pinged that 8.5% experience had been gained. Minchil's hand throbbed, revealing a glowing seal on his skin. Finally, he muttered, as the sigil on the back of his palm flared with blinding radiance. He had finally unlocked level 2 of the Black Star. This artifact wasn't just some tool, its potential rivaled mythic tier treasures. It could shapeshift into any weapon, scaling perfectly with his own growth. Sadly, his output was still hard stuck at C rank. He wasn't sure what triggered the awakening, but he wasn't about to waste it. A stronger Black Star meant his combat bag would be bottomless. That was his ticket to surviving the tower's deadliest floors. The catch, the insane materials needed to unlock its full potential simply didn't exist here on the first floor. Guess that upgrade stays on the back burner. The system confirmed, Guardian defeated. Trial cleared. He cashed in on the side quest, banking 10,000 points and a heart crystal. This trial's on a 240-hour cooldown. His prize, a unique rank heart crystal. With 300 durability, this cursed gem was forged from thousands of souls. A truly malicious spirit dwelled inside. Minchil shrugged. Since he had the world stone, this was just extra loot. Raoul's eyes went wide. Is that the quest reward? Minchil just nodded, sensing the guy's intense thirst. He looked like he was 1 second away from a robbery. Why would a noble draconian need such a dark relic? Historically, demons crafted these as bootleg versions of the world stone, by grinding up innocent souls into a cursed battery. Socketing this into a weapon, or using it as a catalyst could skyrocket your power. But there was a massive catch. Handling it required suppressing the pure malice leaking from those souls. It is a must-have for any dark art specialist. While demonic warriors drool over it, those with pure draconic mana usually find it toxic. Yet Raoul was hooked. Minchil didn't care about his motives though. All that mattered was that he had exactly what Raoul craved. Since he had sworn an oath of protection, a backstab was unlikely. Raoul bit his lip, torn between his desperate need and his warrior's honor. You want this? Minchil asked bluntly. Raoul gasped, clutching Minchil's hand with desperate energy. You'd really hand it over. Name your price. Anything within my power is yours. It's free, Minchil shrugged. Raoul froze. Wait, why? Minchil simply pointed out. You guarded the altar right. Raoul felt a pang of guilt. The altar survived because of you. I just stood there and watched. He had nearly broken his word. but Mincho just smiled. Without Raoul's backup, he wouldn't have risked the fight. Raoul smirked, claiming he always honors his debts. Mincho leaned in. If you're so serious, how about a small favor? I can always walk away if it's too much, Mincho teased. Raoul thumped his chest. Speak, I'm all ears. I want to visit Draconia. Mincho dropped the bombshell. Raoul's jaw hit the floor. Draconia, are you for real? On Earth, your home is the stuff of legendary myths, Mincho explained. Raoul gasped. News of our world reached another dimension. Mincho suppressed a devious grin while playing it cool. Actually, most people don't even think dragons are real. Info on Pandemonium and Elysium is strictly top secret, he lied. We can't have other realms messing with Earth's business. You know, elves, dwarves, even the Interstellar Union. The whole 9 yards. Earth's leaders have locked down interracial diplomacy. The public is kept completely in the dark about other worlds. Draconia is famous for its beauty, but it's definitely not your average vacation spot. Raoul's expression turned solemn. True. Only those who earn the dragon race's respect may enter. Mincho knew winning them over was nearly impossible. So what you're saying is, I've got zero chance. Raoul chuckled. Zero. Not quite. There is a way to bridge that gap. Mincho's mind raced. The Goldrian name was legendary, worth far more than any measly heart crystal. Raoul reached into his pouch with a determined look. So be it. Mincho smirked. Everything was falling into place. Draconians never leave a debt unpaid. Raoul produced a token engraved with his own name. If you truly desire entry to Draconia, take this as a gift. Mincho stared at the object, genuinely stunned. Wait, is this a nameplate? In Korea, this was basically a total guarantee for another person's soul. Items like this were reserved for absolute brothers in arms. They'd barely just met. This is my personal nameplate, Raoul declared. With this, the gates of my world will open for you. Why give me something so priceless? Mincho asked. Raoul's gaze was steady. Because I trust you. Your mastery over weapons and mana is staggering. In the heat of battle, you're a force of nature. Your combat is pure art. I can tell you're destined for greatness, so consider this an investment. This is wild, Mincho thought. His lore, knowledge, and Oscar-worthy acting had worked like a charm. He expected some basic permit, but this guy was on a whole different level of generosity. Raoul laughed heartily. What a legendary day I secured the crystal and gained a true brother. I'll guard this with my life, Mincho promised, hiding his inner schemer behind a warm smile. How is this guy even alive in this cutthroat world? It's a shame we must part ways, Raoul sighed. I'll stay behind to absorb the heart crystal's power. May the stars guide our next meeting. Mincho bid him farewell, hoping he wouldn't get scammed again. System Desert test cleared. Reward 3,500 points. Proceed to the next trial or return to your home dimension. There's only one way forward, Mincho declared. With a bag full of rations, he wasn't going home yet. Floor 2, here I come, but as he stepped forward, his world suddenly turned upside down. Bubbles pressure. He was suddenly submerged in an endless blue. System, welcome to the second floor. Mission Sea Gems. You have entered the crushing abyss, a place where hidden terrors lurk. The sea gems are scattered across the unknown deep. Goal retrieve, 7 legendary gems. From a frying desert to the bottom of the ocean. Who designed this sadistic tower? Depth 30 meters. Oxygen, 3 hours. The creator of this place is a total maniac, he hissed. Ding, safe zone entered. Oxygen consumption paused. Mincho stopped, taking a massive relieved breath. Finally, he could breathe. He pulled out his new tool, the Abyssal Compass. A standard issue item for Floor 2 designed to lead challengers toward the nearest safe haven. The needle pointed toward a strange underwater structure. A house. All the way down here. A monstrous shopkeeper stood behind a counter. Another challenger seeking the tower's secrets, I see. What gave it away? Mincho asked. I don't think I look that special. You've got that out-of-towner look written all over you. Sit down, you clearly have questions. I'm guessing you won't share info for free, Mincho poked. The monster's laugh echoed. You bet I won't. Information isn't free here, but there's a loophole. Buy an item and the merchant spills the tea. Mincho demands the cheapest trash available. Clicking his tongue, the beast demands 5 points and tosses a flask. Do points rule this economy? A system alert confirms he just scored a bottle of crisp, fresh water. 5 points down at Arlok's Emporium. Mincho realizes his 1 million point hoard makes him a literal god. His wealth is broken. Wait, he blinks. You're really selling bottled water. In the middle of the ocean, Arlok snaps back, telling him to drink salt and die. Mincho just shrugs, taking a seat like a boss. Start talking. He probes for intel from the floor's gatekeeper. Arlok laughs at the player's sheer audacity. An administrator. Does this newbie think high rankers have nothing better to do than hold his hand through tutorials? Forget it, he's slammed. Mincho frowns. Busy. He pictures Luce's lazy face and highly doubts that claim. That admin seemed totally chill. Every boss has their own drama, he figures, crossing his arms skeptically. Whatever. Tell me about these quest gems. Arlok sighs, finally getting down to the deep-sea lore. The abyss is split into 7 distinct zones. 7 seas, Mincho echoes. Arlok demands his absolute silence. Welcome to the Sea of Silence. Each domain hides a unique, powerful gem within its crushing depths. Clear the second floor, and the treasures reset. Mincho leans in, hungry for more world-building intel. That's the limit of my knowledge. Arlok grunts. It's enough. Then the merchant remembers one crucial detail. Finding the gem is only half the battle. For 500 points, he'll reveal the secret capture method. He even mentions a top-tier item. Mincho just walks away. Scam someone else. Arlok panics 400. 300 comeback rookie Minchul smirks. He knew this greedy monster was bluffing for extra loot. He already squeezed enough info for 5 points. Did this creature really take him for some clueless noob? Objective: secure the local gem first. If Arlok wasn't capping, the target should be right here. He readies his fist, praying he wasn't played. Suddenly, a strange silhouette flickers in the dark. Is this the prize? The system interface flashes, confirming he's deep in the testing tower's 2nd floor. Mission Ruby Retrieval. Extract the gem from an Atlantic anglerfish's skull. Caution damage triggers a teleport. 5-minute countdown. The anglerfish spots the intruder and bolts through the water like a torpedo. A high-speed underwater chase. Normally, outrunning a fish in its home turf would be a total nightmare. But Minchul isn't normal. He ignites holy fire, his body radiating a divine, blinding golden glow. Massive stat buffs incoming. Speed and power surge by 50% as he pursues his fleeing prey. Let's see who's faster. The anglerfish gapes. A human. Running through the ocean. That's impossible. Wait, you can talk, Minchul gasps, accidentally swallowing a mouthful of seawater. Actual nightmare fuel. This fish has limbs. Another merman variant. The monster shrieks, summoning a swarm of bloodthirsty minions. A wall of scales blocks his path. Really, you think these small fries can stop my momentum? He blasts through the mob. The monster sneers, I'm way too high up for you to reach. Worry about yourself, buddy. Minchul lunges, hand outstretched like a spear toward the glowing crystal. Snagged, the anglerfish screams in disbelief. Too easy, Minchul scoffs. The system chimes with victory. Ruby quest cleared. Rewards 1,000 points and a massive 10-hour boost to his oxygen supply. The monster admits most low rankers drown instantly here. This player, however, is a different breed entirely. Is that it? Minchul mumbles. For a floor boss, this was honestly a bit of a mid-challenge. Communication skill unlocked. The anglerfish mentions a bonus reward for his record-breaking clear time. Wait, there's more, Minchul asks. The creature cryptically points toward the remaining elemental gems. Collect them all to see the truth. A hidden condition reward. Minchul's interest is finally piqued. Even the eyes of truth stay silent for now. Fine. I guess I'll play your game. The current shifts, surging toward the next sea. This isn't just a stream, it's a violent, crushing vortex. Alert water pressure is peaking. Environment difficulty scales from level 3 to a bone-crushing level 4. Every movement feels like dragging lead. Minchul grits his teeth and dives headfirst into the abyss. Screen fade. Notification. Welcome to the Sea of the Abyss. The grind continues. Minchul finally leaves the first sea behind. He's stunned. 6 more massive zones await him. This place already feels way more vibrant than the eerie Sea of Silence. Suddenly, vendors start shouting for attention. Apparently today's the only day to snag rare loot at a massive discount. Swordfish noseblades are going for just 3,000 points. A local trader even tips him off about scoring high-tier healing potions from the nearby alchemists. Minchul notices the safe zones here are packed. It honestly looks more like a bustling hidden village than a simple rest stop. A voice calls out from behind, making Minchul spin around. A man approaches, asking if this is his first time visiting this specific safe zone. Minchul nods. The man apologizes for the intrusion, but asks for a moment of his time. Minchul wonders what this guy is really after. This middle-aged hunter goes by the name Gerard. He originally hails all the way from the United Kingdom. Gerard sighs, admitting he feels like he's just embarrassed himself in front of a fellow hunter yet again. Since they're already chatting, he offers to give Minchul a tour of the abyss. Minchul blinks in confusion. The abyss. Gerard explains that it's the safest spot in all 7 seas. However, most people consider it more of a functional city than a zone. The abyss serves as the heart connecting all 6 seas. If a hunter fails to collect 4 gems, they're basically exiled here on the 2nd floor forever. This city is the only place they can truly feel safe. Minchul realizes the truth. All these people failed their main mission. Gerard admits he's one of those failures. He only managed to grab 3 gems before losing hope and giving up on the remaining trials. The difficulty was just too insane, so he's been stuck living here for 3 long years. Minchul offers some silent sympathy for his struggle. Gerard explains that he now helps newbies by warning them how brutal this floor gets. Minchul cuts to the point. Where's the Central Sea trial? Gerard is shocked. You want to dive in right now? Minchul shrugs. Why wait? He's actually grateful for this kind guy's help. He's saved a ton of time, money, and gathered crucial intel. He can't just loiter in a city when his energy is peaking. As he heads toward the water, Gerard follows. Minchul tells him to stay back, but Gerard insists on just watching the trial unfold. He just wants to witness how Minchul handles the pressure. Minchul thinks it's weird but decides to just ignore the audience. He clips on a specialized brooch that allows for underwater speech. Suddenly, a massive surge of water erupts right in front of him. A faint silhouette appears in the distance. Is that the trial? Minchul asks. Gerard explains it's just the corpse of the last failed hunter. The mission is to survive the whirlpool, but that poor soul choked. Minchul is skeptical. Wait, is it really that easy? Gerard clarifies that while you can't technically die here, it's still brutal. Minchul scoffs. He literally had to crawl through hell on the 1st floor. Here he can restart as much as he wants. However, Gerard warns that the other gem trials won't be nearly as forgiving or safe. He offers to give Minchul some specialized gear to handle the current. Minchul flatly refuses, confident in his own raw power. I've got this, Minchul says, jumping in. Gerard screams for him to stop calling it reckless. Minchul is about to prove him wrong. The system window flashes Garnet Stone task. Objective: Endure the mana whirlpool for the designated time limit. If you're swept away or knocked down, you fail immediately. The timer is set for exactly 10 minutes. The trial begins. Minchul watches the water spin and wonders why he should just stand around waiting for the whirlpool to grow. He needs to survive 10 minutes, but the system never specified a method. A wild idea starts forming in his head. I'll just break the whirlpool, he decides. Minchul begins swinging his weapon with terrifying force, while Gerard watches from a safe distance. Afraid of being sucked in, Gerard stays back but notices something strange. Why isn't the whirlpool raging like it usually does? He decides to investigate. Just then, some other hunters approach. Gerard, what are you doing back at this beginner trial? They assume he's just playing mentor again. Gerard greets them, explaining he's guiding a particularly brave newcomer to the gem. The hunters are curious. A brave one, huh? When exactly did he start this test? Gerard checks the time. About 2 minutes ago. The hunters frown. 2 minutes. It's way too quiet for a mana whirlpool trial. Suddenly, one of them screams in terror. Gerard turns around and his jaw drops. A massive, unnatural whirlpool is forming right next to them. They're instantly pulled into the vortex, screaming as they spin. Gerard panics, wondering what kind of nightmare Minchul has unleashed. System alert quest complete. You've passed the Garnet Stone test and cleared all additional hidden conditions. Reward, your Abyssal Pearl has been upgraded. Minchul spots a battered Gerard and suggests he should probably head back to the city. He honestly didn't expect that smashing the whirlpool would trigger such a violent ripple effect in the surrounding water. Gerard just screams back, how am I supposed to leave when I need to keep a hawk-like eye on you? System notification, Gem Opal Trial. Objective, slay the giant metal shark. Gerard's face pales as he lets out another scream. That thing's bite is instant death, Gerard warns. Minchul just looks back completely unfazed. Fatal wounds. Sounds fun. Gerard prays there's at least some part of the kid left to bury after a trial this insane. One clean strike, ignite hellfire in the wound, and let the fire show begin. Gerard gaped in shock. Fire. Underwater. Was this some cartoon about a sponge? The Emerald trial was supposedly brutal. So, is this the ultimate challenge? Minchul asked. System C-rank Emerald found. Objective. Shut down the volcanic eruption immediately. Hardly, Gerard smirked. Compared to what's coming, this is just a warm-up. The real danger, volatile, exploding lava. Minchul simply shrugged. He'd stay sharp. Handling those tremors was a total breeze. System Emerald trial successfully cleared. Gerard offered a handshake, stunned. He couldn't believe the kid finished that quickly. The next floor was open, but Minchul wasn't moving. He had a mission to finish. He needed every single gem. Are you insane? Gerard yelled. Why do this? Harder tests mean better loot, Minchul countered. He was hunting for a legendary prize. 7 gems grant 2,000 points and a 10-hour boost to breathing time. That equals 2,500 points and 15 hours. Minchul's eyes gleamed at the rewards. Fulfilling every special condition would likely trigger a hidden legendary achievement. 3 years here, and I've never seen a freak like you. Is that a compliment? No, Gerard sighed. I'm just wondering what kind of lab breeds such monsters. A monster, Minchul scowled internally. The old man really needed to watch his mouth. Fine then, Gerard declared. I'm sticking with you until the very end. Why go that far? Gerard shot back. I need to witness your madness personally. Watching him conquer the trials was unmissable. Minchul agreed, counting on his veteran help. With ruby, garnet, stone, opal, and emerald secured, the 5th trial yielded a sapphire. Lapis lazuli followed. Next up, amethyst, hidden within the terrifying sea of death. Catchy name, Minchul joked. Gerard grew serious. No one survives that place. Almost no one. A few legends did, Gerard whispered. They're known as the 7 Emperors. Emperors, they must be beasts. Strange that he'd never heard of such high-level players. If they failed the final hurdle, then the throne was still wide open for him. Strength isn't everything here. Mana sensitivity, reading the world's pulse, is the true key. Minchul gave a casual wave. System entering the Tower of Trials, 2nd floor. Quest, retrieve the C-rank amethyst. A bottomless, terrifying abyss awaited him below. Only those who endure the crushing deep are worthy. Goal, reach the absolute bottom. Sea of Death looks pretty normal. Wait, what? Minchul's world suddenly violently shifted. Warning, water pressure spiked to level 10. New heavy restrictions slammed into him. The mana turned suffocatingly thick. Status paralysis. His limbs felt like frozen lead. Damn it, he roared internally. He had to focus or be crushed instantly. 600, 1,000 meters. System pressure, reaching level 13. The abyss was hungry. Mana density peaked at level 10. One slip in focus and he'd be pulverized. He was literally fighting the ocean's weight. System player is successfully resisting the pressure. This weight, it felt familiar. System 52 units of chaos energy consumed. He remembered the 1,000-scale lake, a place that dragged everything into its grave. Escaping that lake required overcoming impossible gravity. But this place felt different. The Sea of Death wasn't just suction. It operated on a much deadlier frequency. Unlike the lake, there was no forced pull. This was something far more complex. It was a lethal cocktail, dense mana water pressure, and crushing gravity combined. There's always a solution. As he sank deeper, the mana became thick enough to touch. 2,000 meters down, what if I resonate with the mana and absorb it instead? Could he survive the crushing abyss? To endure, Minzu had to fuse his chaos energy with the surrounding mana. He gritted his teeth, focusing hard. He'd bragged about mastering chaos, but reality hit different. He wasn't even close to true control. It was time to go all in. Losing a limb was a small price for absolute power over the energy of chaos. Make it yours, he whispered. His eyes snapped open, sensing the raw vibration of the World Stone's essence. The wild energy finally bowed. It was still a beast, but now it was a beast on a leash. With a flick of his wrist, the system pinged. He was diving deeper into the unknown. 5,600 meters down. Pressure level 50. Minsu scanned the darkness, his voice a low growl. The bottom of the sea of death. It looked like a graveyard. But thanks to his synchronization, the pressure didn't touch him. Yet something felt off. All he saw was a massive, silent mountain. System alert quest CGEM complete. He'd conquered the Amethyst trial, and his Abyss Pearl leveled up. 50,000 points secured. Reward, 200 extra hours of oxygen added to his clock. Minsu frowned. That's it, and why give him so much air? Was there something bigger coming? New record, he'd smashed the tower's speedrun history. The payout, a massive 500,000 points. But the real prize, the legendary Rainbow Ring. A drop so rare, it shouldn't even exist. Legendary stats, 800 durability, and a 20% boost to everything. The rest, still locked in mystery. Minsu's jaw dropped. It wasn't quite at holy fire level, but still. Absolute insanity. It matched the volcano's oath perfectly, but applied the boost to every single stat he possessed. While the oath only buffed strength, this was a total game changer. His gamble was finally paying off. He was right to push through the final trials. Suddenly, a booming voice shattered the deep-sea silence. Centuries have passed since a mortal conquered all 7 trials of the abyssal sea, the voice echoed. Minsu spun around, blade ready, but saw nothing. Look closer, boy, the voice rumbled beneath him. Wait, was the mountain. Breathing, the entire landscape began to shift and coil like a living nightmare. Most mortals crawl here to die. You've done well, young man, the massive serpent hissed. The scale of this thing was terrifying. And that's when it clicked. He knew exactly what this monster was. Jormungandr, the world serpent, the titan that literally swallowed whole dimensions for breakfast. A former lord of pandemonium who walked away from his throne in a fit of legendary rage. He'd been a ghost for eons. Minsu only knew the lore from his days as a dimensional lord. But seeing the legend in the flesh, that was a whole different level of terrifying reality. You know my name, fascinating. I see a demon's soul hiding in that puny human shell. It's a long story, Minsu deflected. What's a myth like you doing at the bottom of the sea? Why wake up now? Was it destiny or just bad luck that he'd disturbed this ancient sleeping power? Internal screaming, please don't let this be another insane secret quest I'm not ready for. I am bound by a covenant, the serpent groaned. A blood oath that even gods couldn't break. A covenant. If the system was hiding the other party's name, this was high-level dangerous business. His only job was to stay put. Minsu breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't getting eaten today. Fighting this titan was suicide. If it were smaller, maybe. But this thing was a literal mountain. In the old days, warriors would have attacked me on sight. Kids these days are soft, the serpent mocked. Is this oversized snake trying to bait me? Minsu had to admit the serpent had some serious flair. He needed more power, fast. In his prime, he would have laid this beast out without blinking. So, Minsu smirked. Who's powerful enough to put a leash on the mighty world serpent? Classified, the snake hissed. I assume you know how these soul-binding contracts work. So even a lord of pandemonium couldn't find a loophole. This contract was absolutely airtight. Take this gift instead, Jormungandr rumbled, shedding a massive layer of scales. My skin, Minsu blinked. It's a scale cape, the serpent explained. Seal it and you'll create the ultimate legendary cloak. Minsu froze. Forget rare ores, this was the skin of a literal myth. This was legendary loot. Such a big heart, he truly treasures the beasts of pandemonium. Master, he roared. That debt of gratitude would be burned into his soul forever, Jormungandr whispered. His time is up. What do you mean? Why did he stop? Minchul demanded, just as a violent whirlpool erupted. Did he just drop a hint and pass out? Minchul groaned. He had a million questions left, but it was useless. Waking him now was a pipe dream, most likely. This deep slumber was a strictly enforced contract rule. Aside from Jormungandr, the silence was chillingly absolute. Plus, the mana density here is cracked, and the pressure is level 50. It totally beats the gate. No wonder they gifted him 200 extra hours of oxygen. He's now stacked with 300 total. He wasn't going to waste a single second. Later, the bartender scoffed. Still babysitting rookies, are we? Look at you. You caught feelings in 2 hours and now you're mourning like it's a funeral. You did what you could. Let it go. Gerard snapped back. I should have stopped him from going. He never expected such a tragic end. Suddenly, the tavern door flew open and Gerard nearly choked. He's alive, Gerard shrieked. Minchul smirked, asking if they were burying him a bit too early. Turns out 12 grueling days had passed in the abyss. He hadn't just survived, he'd thrived. He'd grinded his physical stats to the limit and patched every single weakness in his game. His signature moves like the Boundless Heavens and Triple Hidden Blade were now officially mastered. He even picked up new styles and literally doubled his stats. The system window pinged with power. Strength hit 85, Dexterity 75, Constitution 81, and Endurance climbed to 83 points. Maybe it was time to go home. He just needed to seal his cloak and unlock Dark Star Level 2. He also had to check if Marchand finished his mission. But first, a final talk with Gerard. Gerard admitted he'd lost hope, so he was pouring one out to honor his friend's memory. The relief was insane. Gerard's buddy had already bailed, leaving Gerard sobbing tears of pure joy. If you're so happy I'm back, Minchul teased. How about you finally dry those eyes? A grown man bawling like a toddler, it was a sight. Still, Minchul appreciated the genuine worry, but time was ticking. Gerard wiped his face. Wait, does this mean you cleared the final trial? Bingo, Minchul confirmed. Gerard let out a triumphant shout, hyping up his massive achievement. He'd officially conquered the second floor. Gerard couldn't believe anyone actually survived all 3 tests. In 3 years, he'd never seen such a beast. Minchul realized his clear speed was probably a record. No one in history had blitzed the trials this fast. Gerard sighed. Guess you're moving on then. Minchul wondered about his friend's future. Gerard admitted that watching him sparked a fire inside. Remembering his first climb, he decided to face the tower's trials again, despite the odds. He was chasing his glory days again. Minchul promised to cheer him on as they shook hands. Next time we meet, it won't be on the ground. I'll see you at the very top. I'll hold you to that, Minchul vowed. Suddenly, the system announced his return to his home dimension. His next entry would start on floor 3. Stepping through the portal, Minchul finally left the tower. How long was he gone? 25 days. Strangely, his own world felt a little bit foreign. Suddenly, a shout rang out. Hunter Minchul Marchand bolted from the car, screaming, he did it. He was back from the dead. Minchul noticed the look in his eyes, definitely an unexpected welcome. Ellie beamed, relieved he was safe. Minchul just gave a cool nod. Of course I am. We still have a dinner date, right? He totally ignored Marchand to keep his promise to Ellie. Marchand, we're drawing a crowd, Minchul noted. Let's take this somewhere a bit more private. People were already buzzing about his TV appearance. Marchand nodded frantically. Right? Get in the car. Minchul asked about the training facility. Marchand replied that it was already standing and ready. Wait, what? Minchul blinked. He'd only put in the request a month ago. That speed was insane. Marchand said. They started instantly. Minchul frowned. I hope they didn't cut corners on the quality. Marchand scoffed, clearly offended. After all, dwarves were the ultimate masters of craft. Witnessing his immense pride, I knew the quality would be nothing short of legendary. Marchand then pivoted, asking if I'd considered moving closer to the training grounds. My current rental was useless. I definitely needed a more permanent base of operations. Calling me a genius, Marchand suggested we revise the construction plans immediately. Whether he was a useful slave or a partner, he was certainly delivering results. I agreed. It was time to secure some prime real estate in this area. Marchand gripped his fist, promising to procure every single resource I demanded. I requested 10 kilograms of mithril and 5 of orichalcum. He nearly fainted. Those are mythic tier ores. Finding them on Earth is practically a miracle. I needed them to evolve the Dark Star. Was I stuck waiting forever? Ellie cut in, suggesting I take a shot at the upcoming secret auction. The Interstellar Union's massive event was scheduled in just 2 weeks. There was no guarantee the ores would appear, but the chance was there. Ellie ignored protocol, handing me a tablet containing the classified manifest. Marchand panicked, claiming showing that list to an outsider was a serious crime. He's no outsider, Ellie countered. I began scanning through the rare lots. I realized I could truly trust these partners. Marchand was visibly moved. Ellie thanked him. As I scrolled, my eyes widened at the screen. Along with the ores, a fragment of the single key was listed there. Talk about a massive incentive. Later, I arrived to inspect the new facility. It was perfect. Marchand bragged that this site was his absolute masterpiece. I teased that the architectural design seemed way too sophisticated for him. Just kidding, he killed it. The entire build was beyond the highest standards. From the premium materials to the complex magic circles, it was total perfection. Even for a master dwarf, this was an exhausting, high-tier feat of engineering. Ellie noted the location was conveniently close to their own department headquarters. They were definitely plotting something, but the facility was too good to ignore. The site was a triumph. I skipped gate hunting to focus on training. It'd be a sin not to break in a world-class arena like this. I unleashed my mana flare. It was time to polish my combat techniques. Finally, a private sanctuary to master the forbidden arts of ancient Celestia. The tower was too unpredictable, and the abyss floor wasn't always available. I didn't even need mana crystals or star energy to fuel my progress. This new energy source erased fatigue, making sleep completely optional. I could grind 24/7. I sat down and entered a deep trance. Suddenly, my eyes snapped open. I sensed a chillingly familiar vibe nearby. Dark mana. Meanwhile, Verde was busy flexing his unrivaled talent at another gate. He laughed arrogantly, wondering who'd dare ruin his big cinematic moment. His phone lit up, the greatest goat Crimson Flame, Minchul. He answered instantly, shocked the legend himself was actually calling him. Drop the act, I snapped. What are you doing in Yongsan right now? Verde sounded genuinely lost. Yongsan, I'm in Naju with my guildmates. He offered to fly over instantly, but my mind was already racing. He wasn't lying, but that dark mana, it felt identical to his signature. 4 other demons are currently stalking the earth. Is this just some freak coincidence? He seriously doubted it. Who are these otherworldly intruders? Verde bowed, apologizing for his utter failure to detect their sinister presence. Minchul sighed, letting it slide for now. Fine. Just make sure you handle that gate perfectly. Verde started to speak, but Minchul ended the call. No point waiting, he'd have to solve this puzzle himself. Step 1. Hunt that mana signature. There's no limit to how far Pandemonium will go to claim this world. He couldn't just sit back and watch. Stepping onto the forest path, he felt the heavy atmosphere thickening. Vile energy saturated the mountainside. What kind of suicidal fools would dare unleash dark arts in Heart of Soul? As he pushed forward, a strange, shimmering light suddenly flickered through the dense foliage ahead. A projectile hissed past, he sidestepped effortlessly. An assassin was lurking, already preparing his next lethal shot. Stupid brat, the shooter sneered. You won't escape again. But then the hunter's arrogant expression shattered into pure shock. Minchul's phantom blade materialized instantly. Lunging forward, he whispered coldly, So, who's the real idiot now? It was obvious. That arrow had Dark Elf written all over it. These sinister creatures were notorious for treachery. Their history was stained with blood. As he approached their camp, an elf shrieked, Intruder enemy coming from the south. Minchul scoffed. They were total weaklings, yet their elven pride was still insufferably high. Their mastery of shadow arts and bows made them lethal in dense terrain. Navigating this obstacle course was difficult, but Minchul wasn't average. The elf threw up his hands, channeling corrupt mana. The darkness will swallow you, human. Suffer in agony. A monstrous energy beast manifested, charging with a roar. Minchul merely flashed a confident smirk. He knew their playbooks by heart. Gripping his hilt, he unleashed the devastating slash of the boundless heavens. The strike cleaved through the beast and slammed into the elves. They collapsed, coughing up blood. Minchul looked down at them coldly. Finished already, the elf gasped. Just kill us. We serve the Great One. More Great One nonsense, Minchul rolled his eyes. I didn't expect a straight answer from a fanatic anyway. Fine. I'll grant your death wish. He stepped forward. Threats were useless against these brainwashed zealots. Mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford. Spare them now, and they'd just take up arms again later. Deeper in the woods, he found an elder perched at the heart of an ominous obsidian magic circle. Waves of corrupt energy radiated from the figure. Minchul's brow furrowed. Judging by this oppressive aura, this elf was on a whole different level. Was this massive mana pool really being generated by one person? Something felt off. Dark elves were fiercely protective of their brethren. A high elf of his stature should have blasted him with shadow bolts by now. Minchul narrowed his eyes. Why aren't you attacking me? Locked in a casting state, are we? He guessed. Bingo. Minchul drew his blade, ready to interrupt the ritual. Final warning. What's your business in Korea? He didn't expect the old man to spill the beans. The elder muttered, It is done. Minchul frowned, confused, right before the old man erupted into a piercing scream. By the will of King Damos, the Overlord returns to sow death everywhere. Minchul's eyes sharpened. Damos's fanatical goons, huh? Annoyed, he snatched the elder by his collar chain, dragging him close. Did you really think I'd buy that trash? Suddenly his instinct screamed. This was becoming a total nightmare. The bastard forced a mana overload. Minchul shook the dying elf, violently shouting, Don't you dare die yet. He needed answers. How dare they use his name? Absolute morons, he roared. Later, Yumi checked her phone. Hello, she picked up. A familiar voice resonated from the speaker. It was him, John Minchul. They'd met during the exams. Oh, it's you, Yumi noted. He got straight to the point. Remember our deal? Yumi nodded. Of course, but I've been waiting forever. A lot of time has passed since our meeting. Ever since that card exchange, she'd been waiting. My bad, Minchul replied. Life's been non-stop chaos lately. I've got a question. Yumi teased, getting personal. Minchul's voice turned dead serious. It's about the Dark Elves. Yumi froze. They've invaded Earth, he revealed. When she asked how he countered, is that dinner offer valid? He was still seething from earlier. How dare those insects hide behind his reputation for their schemes? What was their endgame? Before him lay an A-rank resonance circle designed to spike mana at specific frequencies. This single circle was just one piece of a larger machine. Tracking them all down alone is impossible. Manpower and intel are essential. Luckily, his top-tier assistant is usually his ultimate trump card. He tries calling, but silence follows. Then it clicks. Verde's currently grinding in a dungeon. Talk about terrible timing. Verde is MIA right when things get spicy. Clearing high-level dungeons takes forever, meaning zero backup for a while. Plus, he knows the Hunters Association and the Interstellar Union won't lift a finger to assist him. The association would likely misread the situation, and his union clout is limited to just the Yongsan branch. Gripping his head in frustration, he weighs his options against the Dark Elves. Suddenly, a wild plan ignites. Elves and Dark Elves share ancestry, but the radical faction defected to the abyss of pandemonium long ago. That betrayal split their race forever. Now they're locked in a blood feud as ultimate mortal enemies. Then he remembers Shinumi, his secret weapon. As a half-elf with embassy connections, she is the perfect bridge. With one Korean parent and one elf, she understands both worlds. He meets her quickly to lay out the stakes. She doesn't hesitate, instantly deploying an elite elven squad that should be landing on his position right now. A group of elegant figures approaches. Their leader steps forward, asking if he's the famous hunter John Minchul. After he nods, the elf offers a warm, charismatic smile. It's an honor to finally meet you, he says. This is Griff, the embassy's representative. John notices a faint, sweet scent of fruit clinging to the man's presence. That pure spiritual energy confirms it. These are high-tier elves, and they mean serious business. These were elves. Their crest screamed lifeguards, the elite warriors of the elven realm. Prestige is etched into the leaves on their brooch, 6 being the peak. This guy boasted 5. He was a high-tier combatant. Leading them to the slaughter zone, Griff's jaw dropped at the carnage. He couldn't believe Mincho wiped out the Dark Elves solo. Rumors said he cleared the trial too. Buzzing with hype, he challenged Mincho to a duel. Our hero was caught completely off guard. One look at his eyes told Mincho he wasn't joking. It was insane to crave battle now. This guy felt more like a battle-crazed demon than a graceful elf. It was truly wild. Mincho reminded them to focus on the cleanup first. The elf quickly apologized for his outburst. He claimed his instincts flared up, sensing Mincho's insane power. So much for calm elves. They got to work. Griff summoned the spirits to purge the lingering dark corruption. The spirits answered the call, ready to mend the forest's broken soul. A simple task for them. Spectral lights danced through the trees, erasing every trace of the bloody massacre instantly. Watching them, Mincho realized elves really were the ultimate nature support class. Their synergy between nature and spirit magic was flawless, a masterpiece of arcane craft. Dark mana vanished in seconds, a feat that would have taken Mincho forever to manage alone. Work done, Griff announced he'd be Mincho's escort to the young Miss's grand banquet. Mincho hesitated, then realized a dinner date was the perfect chance for some real talk. Time to play both sides. He'd dig up dark elf secrets and elven intel in one go. Anyone using his name for clout was going to regret it. He'd use them, then crush them. At the embassy, everyone bowed as he passed. It felt weirdly surreal to him. In his past life, seeing an elf meant an immediate bloodbath. No questions asked. Back then, the Vanheim Empire was Elysium's lapdog, so they naturally despised pandemonium. Now they were cozy with humans. He wondered if that hospitality extended to him, too. Since the Second Great Cataclysm, the pointy-eared folks had been playing the diplomacy game hard. Humanity now worshipped them. Before he just saw them as fragile, pretty faces. But hey, he didn't mind the view now. Who doesn't like looking at beautiful people? Inside, he ran into Yumi. She flashed a smile, noting how long it had been. He played it cool, asking if this was only their second meeting. She'd been waiting for him. He was confused, but she made it clear she always settled her tabs. But this wasn't just about her debt. Her father was the one demanding an audience today. She warned him to stay sharp. Mincho knew meetings like this were once-in-a-lifetime events. Since her old man called the shots today, her personal promise was still on the table. Mincho didn't care about the details. He just wanted to get this meeting over with. Standing before the massive doors, she noticed his ironclad composure. Not a single flinch. Just like his fight with the Blue Guard, he was unfazed. Why fear beings like humans? She loved that confidence. Pushing the doors open, she presented him to her father. The man stood up instantly. So this was the hunter who tracked down the Dark Elves. Meet Varus Sion, the ambassador of Vanheim. The name immediately rang a bell for Mincho. Was he part of the Imperial bloodline? Mincho's knowledge caught the elf off guard. Varus was impressed he knew their lore. Mincho realized Earth was a high-stakes zone for them. Just like Raoul, these guys were playing a deep game on this planet. His eyes of truth hit a wall, only showing Varus was 325 years old. A master of spirit magic and one of Vanheim's strongest. Mincho's battle spirit began to itch. Varus sensed the killing intent and laughed. Sorry kid, no sparring on the menu today. We'll see about that, Mincho countered. Varus just chuckled and offered him a seat. Varus doted on his daughter, calling her little princess as she sat down. Annoyed, she snapped, telling him to drop the cheesy nicknames in public. He shrugged it off, insisting they eat first. Talk could wait until after the feast. Mincho scanned the lavishly decorated banquet table. He'd anticipated a modest meal, but the elves had clearly gone all out for this spread. Every single dish was strictly vegetarian. Classic elf behavior, exactly what he'd expected. Once the plates were cleared, Varus asked his daughter for some privacy with the hunter. She dipped without a fuss. Once solo, Varus revealed he'd been briefed on the recent chaos. Mincho took down a dark elf squad solo. When he claimed it was just luck, Varus smirked, calling him exceptionally fortunate. Too lucky, Varus added, his tone suddenly chilling. Mincho sensed the vibe shift and prepared for the real talk. It wasn't unexpected, his story was wild. Varus acknowledged him as their savior, but tension hung heavy. Fact was, the elves knew a hit squad was on Earth, but the villains had vanished without a trace. Feels a lot like an interrogation, Mincho grumbled, his patience wearing thin. Varus countered, noting those dark elves rivaled B-rank hunters in raw power. For a mere E-rank like Mincho, surviving such a clash should have been impossible. Mincho knew his background had been scrubbed. Can we skip the awkward background check talk, he sighed. Varus ignored him, finding it highly sus that such a unique individual was cozying up to his daughter. Was this planned since the exams Varus pressed? Mincho just burst out laughing. Varus scowled, confused. Wiping away tears of mirth, Mincho asked if he thought the entire world obsessed over elves. Why would he even waste the effort? Varus doubled down, stating suspicion was the only logical response. An E-rank soloing dark elves, impossible, Varus sneered. I'm right, aren't I? With a sharp snap of his fingers, a spiritual barrier encased them, completely severing all mana flow. Not even an A-rank could shatter this from the outside. Fuming, Mincho glared at the elf. Is this elven gratitude? Mincho spat. He finally remembered why he found these people so insufferable. They treated him like a weakling. Did they honestly think such amateur tricks would work on real threats? If I'm the enemy, just attack, Mincho dared. Varus groaned, rubbing his temples in frustration. He'd decide Mincho's fate only after the investigation team filed their report. Don't resist, Varus warned. I take no pleasure in treating a benefactor like this. Mincho realized he meant the forest scouts. They'd likely use spirit magic to verify his story. Once they saw the truth, he'd be cleared. But right now, Mincho was absolutely livid. He drew his blade, but Varus scoffed. Useless. Your strength can't touch this barrier. Pipe down, Mincho growled, unleashing the demonic sword of the Seven Stars Star Piercer form. A single strike shattered the dome like glass, stunning Varus. Instantly, Minchul had steel against the elf's throat. Where were we? Minchul asked coldly. Terrified, Varus stammered an apology. He'd catastrophically miscalculated. Minchul noticed a magic dagger aimed at his gut. Now he saw why the elf felt so confident. The elf had secretly forged a blade of pure spiritual energy. Impressive, given the circumstances. Varus let out a dry laugh. Just a precaution. Who knew you held such monstrous power? Let's be real, Minchul countered. I never hid anything. You just chose not to believe me. This was maddening. A simple question and answer session had spiraled into a full-blown interrogation. Between hunting imposters and this elven drama, his patience was officially at zero. Minchul sheathed his sword. Surprised, Varus stood up, noting the sudden lack of hostility. He withdrew his own blade. Why stop, he asked. Minchul snapped. If I wanted you dead, you'd be cold by now. A brawl would have just left them both bleeding out for no reason. Plus, threatening an ambassador is a diplomatic nightmare. He wasn't looking to start a race war. If you want smoke, let's duel officially, Minchul challenged. No messy legal fallout that way. Varus smirked. Can't take a joke, I was just trying to break the ice. Minchul's blood boiled. This clown actually thought now was the time for bad jokes. Retreating to the reception room, Varus summoned Griff, hesitating for a moment before authorizing the release of the classified report. The decision was final. Since this intel directly concerned Minchul, he had every right to be in the loop. Griff obeyed, exposing the Dark Elves' sinister plot to resurrect an ancient horror imprisoned within a decaying old dimension. Minchul let out a faint smirk. Could these guys really deduce that much just by analyzing a simple magic circle? They weren't as incompetent as he'd assumed, though the Dark Elves' ambitions were spiraling way beyond any reasonable limit. The multiverse is a vast expanse of countless realms, ranging from newly birthed worlds to those ancient and decaying. Ideally, these dimensions would thrive and develop in harmony, but reality is rarely that kind in the cosmic design. Some worlds are destined for ruin, eventually becoming the hollow, shattered shells known as old dimensions. Varus pressed for the entity's identity. The elf's answer sent a chill through the air. The truth was legendary. The Dark Elves worshipped Deimos, the god of war. Minchul held back a laugh. That ancient deity had perished eons ago. Varus frowned, asking if this was the same tyrant defeated on Earth. His subordinate gave a grim, cold confirmation. It was clear now, those shadows were desperately seeking a way to bring their fallen god back to life. Minchul scoffed internally. They were chasing ghosts. Deimos was dead, and his true reincarnation was literally sitting right here. Griff roared that they were insane certain that these fanatics were masking a much darker, more twisted secret. Varus solemnly declared the need to alert Vanheim and Elysium. The gravity of the situation was finally sinking in. The conversation was starting to grate on Minchul's nerves, but revealing his true identity was out of the question. Griff admitted their failure to locate the remaining Dark Elves, and to make matters worse, time was disappearing fast. The ritual had a 2-day window. If they couldn't find a lead now, the world would face a total catastrophe. Turning to Minchul, Varus remembered something. You can sense dark mana, right? Minchul just smiled, extending a confident hand. They needed his power to stop the Demon King's return and save this world. The stakes couldn't be any higher. Everything finally clicked for Minchul. He knew exactly what he was up against in this twisted game of gods. He was the only one capable of hunting down those Dark Elves before the clock hit 0. To eliminate the fraud, he'd have to play nice with the elves. Rising from the sofa, he threw a cold glare. If you need me this badly, why the hell were you threatening my life just moments ago? Minchul challenged. Varus stammered, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. Minchul remembered exactly how grateful these elves usually were. If he played his cards right, the profit would be massive. He headed for the door, leaving an anxious Varus behind. Varus begged him to overlook their previous friction, but Minchul just tossed back a cold, petty remark over his shoulder. Desperate, Varus grabbed his arm, pleading that humanity's very survival rested on his shoulders. Minchul stopped in his tracks. True, Minchul agreed, but since you've wasted so much of my precious time, you'll have to pay for the delay. Varus was practically begging now, desperate for forgiveness. Minchul put on a show of being deeply offended and hurt. Mending my broken heart won't be cheap, Minchul stated flatly. Varus, terrified, agreed to any price he demanded. Is that a promise? Minchul smirked. The ambassador swore on his very title that he would grant every request. Minchul sealed the deal with a handshake and a warning. This outcome was even better than he had anticipated. In this world, you have to squeeze every bit of value from a situation. Next, stop the training grounds. Pocketing the blank check Varus had signed, Minchul realized he now held the power to demand an astronomical fortune. He stared at the paper, wondering just how many zeros he could add without looking like a total amateur. Honestly, he wanted to bleed them dry. He glanced at the moonlit sky, knowing his window of opportunity was closing. He pushed those greedy thoughts aside for now. There was work to do. He settled into the center of the magic circle. The elves had detected dark energy a month ago, but only through his intervention did they even stand a chance. The ritual was nearly finished. Both the elves and their enemies were acting like absolute fools in this cosmic struggle. He wouldn't show the Dark Elves any mercy. Step 1 was simple: pinpoint that lingering trail of corrupt mana. He'd love to hunt them down one by one, but time was a luxury he didn't have. It was time for synchronization. He initiated a legendary mana manipulation technique forged in the Sea of Death synchronization. Massive waves of energy surged from his body, blanketing the city. These pulses, they are my eyes now, he whispered. He would hunt down every trace of dark mana, Even if he had to scour all of Seoul, there was no escape. Dawn broke. He lay paralyzed within the ritual circle, drenched in sweat. Death had truly knocked on his door. To hunt the dark elves, he flooded the air with chaos energy, pushing his sensory range to the absolute limit. His skull felt ready to shatter under the pressure. Seoul was massive. Luckily, his mind stayed intact despite the strain. 10 anomalies flickered on his radar. Their mana signatures were identical, masking the location of the true primary circle. He pinged the coordinates to Varus instantly. The response was immediate. The operation was officially a go. Minchiel noted the lightning-fast reply with a smirk. It was clear they had been poised, just waiting for his signal. Fine. He would let the elves handle those fools. He craved the kill himself, but the search had drained his battery. Operating at a mere 20% capacity recovery was mandatory. Nothing centered him like the rhythmic pulse of energy flows. Channeling ancient Celestia arts, he dissolved the world stone, meticulously siphoning the dual energies locked within its core. Light and shadow diverged. The system chimed, confirming his chaos stats and Celestia mastery were slowly but surely climbing. Each tick added 0.1%. He bathed in the power until his exhaustion finally began to evaporate. How long had he been under? Suddenly, a stray chaos signature spiked nearby. Had a detail slipped through his net. His focus on dark mana made this vibration unmistakable. He tracked the signal until a shimmering portal materialized before him. A gate breakthrough. It was happening again, right in his backyard. His eyes snapped open, blazing with newfound intensity. This felt exactly like the Black Gate incident. Back then, the kobold hordes were dripping with that same corrupted chaos. They were infused with chaos. Was this another sick joke orchestrated by those scheming dark elf bastards? Proof was scarce, but motives did not matter. He could not let this prime opportunity to harvest chaos energy go to waste. Those monsters were walking batteries. He vaulted from the training hall, blurring across rooftops like a shadow toward the gate. He raced toward the source. Elsewhere, the Dark Elves' ritual reached its climax. Their twisted work finished right on schedule. The prophecy was unfolding perfectly. Minchiel slowed his pace as he neared the gate, the air thick with impending doom. The barrier held for now. He stepped through the portal, scanning the desolate horizon of the realm beyond the rift. So, the belly of a dark gate, he mused. The atmosphere was dead, completely devoid of any natural mana. Zero signs of life. It felt like a graveyard world wiped clean by some cosmic eraser. Then it finally clicked. An extinct dimension. A casualty of the ancient divine wars, where even the stars had been shattered into cosmic dust. Centuries ago, the gods had turned this place into a wasteland. He smirked. If his instincts were right, bingo. The Dark Elves' scattered rituals across Seoul were just keys designed to unlock this specific nightmare gate. A pack of snarling wolves closed in. Wow, quite the welcoming committee you have here, he drawled unfazed. He had not expected such a crowd. Beyond the beasts, dark elves lurked in the shadows, eyes gleaming with murderous intent. Brave for a low-born trash, one sneered. His partner cackled the sound, echoing harshly through the hollow dimension. I was dying of boredom guarding this dump. Let us play. With a lazy wave, he unleashed the ravenous wolf pack. Drowned in despair, the elf spat. Minchiel just grinned, cracking his knuckles. Correction, today is your funeral. He unleashed the Emperor's lightning fist. A single thunderous palm strike pulverized the lead wolves into crackling dust. Steel flashed next. He sliced through the pack with surgical precision, realizing these dark wolves were just fodder. C-rank trash with B-rank muscle. Just like the kobolds. Dealing with these mutts was barely even a warm-up. Using chaos arts on these weaklings would be a total waste. The elves watched in horror as their pets fell. He was a one-man army. Terrified, the remaining wolves tucked their tails and bolted, abandoning their masters in a heartbeat. The elves screamed at their retreating cowards. Meanwhile, Minchiel ignited his body, cloaked in the radiant glow of holy fire. None of you leave alive, he roared. He descended upon them like a god of wrath, raining down brutal, fiery blows. They shrieked about Lord Damas's coming vengeance, but their prayers were useless. He silenced them all in a blurred frenzy. One zealot scrawled a bloody tribute to Damos with his final breath. Seriously, these parrots never know when to quit. He seized a stray wolf, draining its essence dry. The system chimed, his chaos reserves were surging to new heights. Chaos jumped to 280. His total energy pool swelled past the 4,700 mark instantly. Thanks for the snacks, he chuckled. Despite the brawl, he felt zero fatigue. These guys were surprisingly juicy energy sources. Combining high-tier martial arts with holy fire was a game changer. The synergy was terrifyingly effective on the battlefield. He felt weightless, surging with power. He owed his guests a big thanks. How should he return the favor? He'd been barking at the dark elf in the magic circle center, but the man just ignored him, slamming the wolf onto the dirt. Stalking forward, he demanded an answer. Stop whatever you're planning, he warned, while you still have the chance. Unless you want to join the corpses. The elf just cackled, even as a cold blade pressed against his throat. He growled, asking if the fool realized his situation. His entire squad was already wiped out. What's so funny? The elf sneered, claiming his fallen allies had mastered the forbidden path of the legendary Damos. He insisted their deaths were a glorious sacrifice. Thanks to them, the ritual was complete, making the hero's struggle totally pointless. Minchiel spat a curse. Looks like he'd have to break some bones just to get this guy to shut up. You're talking trash like it's gospel, he scoffed. Why worship Deimos when the guy's been rotting in the ground for ages? The elf hissed that he knew nothing. They weren't following a ghost, they were serving the god of war right here, right now. Suddenly, the heavens roared. Minchul flashed a tense grin, thinking, talk about the worst timing ever. A jagged crack split the sky. Blinding radiance bathed the dark elf as he threw his arms wide in worship. He begged his lords to wake from their eternal sleep and drown the world in pure chaos. Then he glared at Minchul. He mocked that a mere insect like him couldn't stop a god. But then Minchul asked, don't you think something's weird? Where's your big boss? He pointed upward, and the elf watched in horror as the celestial rift began to snap shut. Minchul followed up with a brutal face smash. Shaking it off, the elf shrieked that this was impossible. They'd followed every instruction for the ritual. Minchul just smirked. You mean those pathetic magic circles? He'd smashed every last one of them. The old elf went ghost white. Minchul figured his work was finally paying off. The elves really overdid it, but it was worth the effort. Turning back to his prisoner, he suggested they finish their chat. Who's the puppet master? When the elf blurted out Demon Lord Damos, Minchul's voice turned dangerously sharp. One finger for every lie he threatened. The old man clutched his head, letting out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. What a pathetic loser. Dark elves clearly lacked the honor of their light-skinned cousins. This coward only cared about his own skin. Minchul fought the urge to just erase him right then and there. But if he wanted to unmask the true mastermind, he had to keep this worm breathing a little longer. Suddenly a roar rocked the heavens. Looking up, Minchul spotted a pair of massive, terrifying eyes peering through the crack. Those glowing orbs meant big trouble. The sky shattered like glass, raining sharp fragments that impaled the earth below. The elf wept with joy, crying that the prophecy was true. Minchul shut him up with a stinging backhand to the jaw. What did you do? He barked, staring at the sky. Just what kind of monster had been locked away in there? A colossal black wolf exploded from the rift, slamming into the ground. Minchul smirked. These idiots actually pulled it off. They've summoned a nightmare. Standing before him was the mythic titan itself, Fenrir, the God-Eater. A divine beast with stats soaring past 500. But since the ritual was botched, most of its godly powers were sealed away. The shock of the summons had driven the beast insane. Fenrir stood there, a mountain of black fur and burning rage. With piercing green eyes, this mythic slayer was the brother of Jormungandr, the legendary god-killer. He'd wiped out the Aesir for their sins, a harbinger of doom who'd already devoured entire worlds. Fenrir's howl shook the world. The dark elf sprinted toward him, cheering that his savior had finally awakened. He bowed low, begging the beast to end the world, but the wolf just swiped him away like a fly. Not a trace remained. Minchul watched in awe. One simple paw swipe, and yet something felt completely off. That power was insane, defying all logic. Was Fenrir actually weakened by the dimensional jump? He'd manifested even without the magic circles. Still, something wasn't quite right here. If he weren't nerfed, the eyes of truth wouldn't have worked. Minchul locked eyes with the beast. He was prepping an attack, and since the gate was too far, Minchul had no choice but to throw down. A top-tier boss fight in a place like this. He tightened his grip and let out a wild laugh. The beast was a total slave to instinct and bloodthirst. Now this was getting interesting. Victory was within reach. After all, he was Minchul, the true god of War Damos. He vaulted into the sky, raising his blade high, while trash-talking Fenrir like a common stray dog. In that moment, he knew he was the baddest warrior in history, past, present, or future. Mincio blurred into motion, circling the beast like a predator, and mocking its massive frame for being riddled with fatal blind spots. Unleashing a devastating palm strike, he connected squarely with the monster's lower jaw, sending shockwaves through its skull. He vaulted back, realizing this was no cakewalk. The gap between his offensive power and the wolf's ironclad defense was staggering. Even his high-tier skills barely scratched the surface, making it clear that this mythical beast was just built different. As Fenrir shook off the daze, Mincio lunged with the blade of the 5 tigers, aiming a lethal slice at its massive paw. But that thick hide was like armor plating, forcing the blade to barely graze the skin before Fenrir's counterattack exploded toward him. Narrowly dodging the blow, he marveled at the wolf's insane speed. One clean hit, and it would be game over. A stinging burn flared across his cheek, but he brushed it off, knowing he couldn't afford to sweat the small stuff. Survival meant dodging the one-shots and striking during the frames between attacks. So Mincio lunged, drawing a thunderous roar from Fenrir. The searing heat of hellfire bit deep, prompting Mincio to taunt. Did you seriously think I'd just be a punching bag? Despite his powers being nerfed by seals, Fenrir remained a mythical tier nightmare, shrugging off hellfire like it was a mere campfire. As energy swirled within the wolf's maw, Mincio realized a devastating breath attack was about to wipe the map. He charged head-on, shocked by the beast's desperate move, and slammed his palm upward to force Fenrir's jaws shut mid-blast. While the wolf sputtered, coughing up wasted energy, Mincio flickered through the air, reappearing right behind the beast's blind side. If one strike wouldn't cut it, he'd just unleash a flood of them, his sword becoming a blur of cold steel. The blade finally bit through fur and flesh, fueling his resolve to keep chipping away until the mountain finally crumbled. Fenrir bucked violently, tossing him aside, but Mincio whipped out a weighted chain dagger, shouting that the wolf would never pin him down. He launched the tether, mocking the beast's clumsy swings as he zipped toward the wolf like a high-speed grappling hook. Closing the distance, he channeled the Lightning Emperor's destroying fist, surging millions of volts directly into the monster's spine. The wolf convulsed in sheer panic, but Mincio gripped the fur tight, realizing he was finally reaching the same weight class. With half his mana drained, he grinned. This was the high-stakes thrill he craved, where one mistake meant an early grave. Suddenly, reality itself groaned, as the heavens fractured and began to fall apart in spectacular fashion. Activating Eyes of Truth, the system flashed a dire warning. Their insane energy output was literally tearing the dimension's fabric to shreds. Dimensional integrity was failing fast, and the world was spiraling toward a total, irreversible collapse. 42 minutes remained until the end, and any more power spikes would just speed up the countdown to oblivion. He spat a curse, wondering if they'd gone a bit too hard, and accidentally broke the entire stage. Fenrir lunged with a world-ending bite, but Mincio caught the snapping jaws barehanded, stalling the beast's lethal hunger. Straining against the pressure, he realized their leaking aura was the fuse lighting this cosmic powder keg. As if the world ending wasn't enough, Fenrir stayed on the offensive, forcing Mincio to chip away at its health in a desperate grind. He sidestepped just in time as the wolf's teeth clashed like a guillotine, sensing the beast's chaos energy was finally hitting empty. The monster roared, its chaotic aura flickering as its reserves finally began to bottom out. Suddenly, green hellfire ignited on Fenrir's claws as he slammed into the earth, shattering the ground beneath Mincio's feet. Realizing the beast was trying to trap him, Mincio's nerves flared as the system blared. Another alert destruction was accelerating. Only 37 minutes left. The wolf's attacks were getting smarter, but every clash shaved precious seconds off their survival. Noticing a chilling smirk on the beast, Mincio realized Fenrir was gaining clarity, prompting him to taunt. "Is that the best you've got?" If the wolf thought this would pin him, he was dead wrong. Mincio thrived in the void, and the race against time was on. Triggering the seven-colored blessing, he blinked through space as the system announced his energy reserves were back at 100%. Every debuff was purged and his wounds sealed instantly, leaving him refreshed and ready for the final round. Even dimension-ruling deities had a glass chin, and he was betting Fenrir was no different. Flashing a cocky grin, he told the beast to chill before they both got erased, but Fenrir only responded with a low primal snarl. With a burst of speed, Mincio launched himself forward, shouting, "Time for round 2, you overgrown mutt." Under a shattered sky raining debris, the countdown hit 15 minutes, signaling the final act of this apocalyptic showdown. As the duel raged on, Mincio lunged again, but a wave of pity washed over him at the sight of his foe. The legendary god devourer Fenrir was reduced to fighting like a cornered animal stripped of all its ancient majesty. With eyes clouded by primal madness and soul-shattering despair, the fallen beast's gaze mirrored Mincio's own darkest moments. Attempting to descend to Earth by splitting his divine form, he met a tragic end at the hands of a human hero. Trapped without a way back to his original self, he was reborn as a human, just as this dimension faced total ruin. Letting Fenrir drift through the void of a dead world was too cruel, so he decided to end him personally. Slipping behind the beast, he targeted the jagged gash on its neck, the only spot vulnerable to his relentless blades. Convinced the neck was the ultimate weak point, he lunged as a strange glint caught his eye within the open wound. Unleashing the first form of the Seven Stars demonic sword, he carved deeper into the flesh, confirming his hunch was right. A jagged crystal was embedded deep inside. Recognizing the core weakness, he prepared one final devastating strike to finish it. The crystal shattered into 1,000 shards. Fenrir's agonizing howl shook the earth as Mincio touched down nearby, breathing heavily. That reaction was surprisingly intense. Was the crystal truly the key? Regardless, this life-or-death battle had to end now. He prepared to take the beast's head, but then Fenrir spoke. The sudden human voice made Mincio freeze in his tracks. Had the monster regained its mind, Fenrir's eyes finally cleared, looking around as if waking from a centuries-long deep slumber. Dazed, he asked for his identity and location. When Mincio named him, Fenrir's eyes suddenly lit up with sharp recognition. Muttering about Ragnarok and warring with gods, he seemed lost. Mincio scoffed, wondering what kind of nonsense he was spouting. The beast claimed to have devoured the strongest gods and erased worlds. Mincio stood there, completely baffled by these grand claims. He insisted it wasn't lies swearing he'd battled deities. Mincio looked him in the eye and asked if he looked divine. Fenrir admitted Mincio was just a lowly mortal. After a tense silence, the wolf told him to listen very closely now. He revealed the gods slaughtered his kin, while his brother Jormungandr ascended as one of the 72 lords of Pandemonium. Hearing his brother joined the demon lords shocked Fenrir. It was strange, as his memory was a complete fractured mess. Seeing the doubt in Fenrir's eyes, Mincio produced the snakeskin, causing the wolf to instantly sense his brother's dark power. The familiar energy hit him hard. Fenrir shut his eyes tight, struggling to accept this twisted and painful new reality. He thought they were preparing for a divine war together. Now every single thing he knew had vanished into thin air. Mincio realized the beast's mind was broken. Was shattering that mysterious crystal, the cause of this sudden massive amnesia. As Fenrir tried to claw back his memories, a searing migraine took hold, leaving Mincio waiting for an answer in silence. Massaging his neck, Mincio sighed. It was useless to talk, yet he couldn't just walk away and leave this mess behind. Drifting through the dimensional void for eternity was a fate worse than death. Ending him now was actually an act of mercy. As Mincio unsheathed his blade, a panicked Fenrir asked if he was offended by being called a lowly lower being. Mincio denied it, but Fenrir begged him to stand down and talk. The warrior just looked on, sounding very unimpressed. He'd rather die by claws than disarm. In a total state of panic, Fenrir actually called out to him as brother. The wolf cried out as the blade drew near, but Mincio coldly reminded the beast that they weren't kin at all. The legendary wolf just wanted to live. Mincio apologized. He couldn't risk letting such a massive powerhouse roam free right now. Fenrir wailed that the gods had said the same, while they chained and tortured him for absolutely no reason at all. He didn't want to die. He was just fighting to survive. Mincho tightened his grip, refusing to believe the sob story. When the wolf offered his eternal service, Mincho hesitated. A mythical entity, rivaling the angels of Elysium, wanted to follow him. Fenrir even offered a binding oath of obedience. Mincho wondered how he remembered such a ritual if his mind was wiped. Tears streaming, Fenrir explained. The gods had grilled the oath into his mind through endless, brutal, and forced sessions. Mincho saw he'd resisted them before. Fenrir cried out that he never ever wanted to serve as their mindless puppet. The gods had even pierced his jaw in spite. Looking at those weeping eyes, Mincho reconsidered the ancient broken beast. These primordial beings were usually too proud to kneel. They'd choose a glorious death over ever licking a master's boots. Having faced such legends in his past life, Mincho found this sudden, desperate submission almost impossible to believe. The moment he gave the nod, Fenrir's tail started thumping against the ground in pure, unadulterated, and joyful relief. Gratefully thanking his new master, the wolf promised total loyalty. He actually looked happy, wagging his tail like a dog. With that, the ritual began. Fenrir, the legendary son of Loki, prepared to pledge his very soul to his new master. He swore an eternal bond on his soul, vowing to serve Mincho as his master until the very end of time. A system alert flashed the mythical beast of legend had successfully sworn a soul-binding oath of absolute and total loyalty. Fenrir went right back to wagging his tail, showering his master with thanks. Mincho couldn't believe this total personality flip. From sworn brother to master in a heartbeat. Fenrir winced, complaining about the agonizing pain in his neck. Desperate for a breather, the beast pleaded for rest. Mincho stepped up, channeling holy fire directly into the gash. Vitality surged through the wolf's veins. Relieved, Fenrir let out a joyful bark, basking in the soothing, radiant warmth. The relief was instant. Zip it, Mincho snapped. Unless you want that nasty wound to get a lethal infection. Is this legendary beast turning into a puppy? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Mincho glanced up as the light intensified. The dimensional tier was expanding rapidly. Can you move? Mincho asked. Fenrir groaned, his body still racked with pain. Moving was currently impossible without recovery. Mincho warned him if they didn't clear out now, they'd be checking into the afterlife. Permanently. Fenrir panicked. You're saying we're toast if we stay, but my legs are totally shot. Mincho clutched his head in frustration. He'd been so locked into the fight, he completely forgot to plan an exit. Desperate, he asked if the wolf could downsize. To his absolute shock, Fenrir gave him a confident nod. In a flash, the massive beast transformed into a tiny poodle. Mincho just stood there, completely dumbfounded by the sight. Did he really almost die fighting something that barely reached his ankles? No time to roast him, they had to move. Reality was literally falling apart. Tucking the poodle under his arm, Mincho sprinted like his life depended on it. As chaos erupted behind them, Fenrir barked in protest. Hey, I'm not exactly down with being carried by a dude. Stay and rot then, Mincho hissed. The wolf's attitude flipped instantly, whining out a frantic apology. Stumbling toward the exit, exhaustion finally hit. He'd burned way too much mana back there. That was way too close. He watched the world crumble into nothingness. So this is it, the terrifying cold face of the true apocalypse. Elsewhere, in a shadow-drenched chamber, two figures monitored the fallout through a crystal ball. One of them spat a curse. The mana was surging with violent instability. Their visual link was flickering out, the feed was completely dead. His partner stared at the dying embers in disbelief. Suddenly, their master's terrifying visage materialized within the sphere. What's so hard to believe? He hissed. They'd promised a perfect ritual, yet everything had gone up in smoke. Trembling, the man begged for one more chance, swearing they'd fix this if given just a little more time. His hand ignited in fury. Your excuses are nothing but a death sentence. Failure is not an option in my world. Stuttering, he promised it wouldn't happen again. The master sneered, calling them incompetent fools before shifting his tone. There's a reason I sent the professor. He summoned Zahit, barking orders for him to rendezvous with their new asset. Assist him with the next phase. Fail me again, and you'll wish the dimension had swallowed you whole. With a shaky grin, he vowed total success. The master cryptically added that their hard work would soon be rewarded. As the master vanished, the man turned to Zahit, declaring that his word was now law. Zahit scoffed, repulsed by the idea of taking orders from such a weak, pathetic excuse for a leader. Take it up with the boss, then, he retorted. Back at the gate, Mincho finally stepped through the portal. Yumi's frantic voice greeted him instantly. He blinked, surprised to see her backed by an entire elven tactical squad. All this just for me, he teased. Yumi shot him, a look of pure confusion. Are you actually serious right now? The gate was collapsing when they arrived. His signal had vanished, leaving them blind and desperate to find him. I felt it, he admitted, picking up the pace. He started down the trail with Yumi trailing close behind. Did things go south in there, she pressed. He gave a nonchalant shrug. Do I look like I'm struggling? She sighed, admitting they'd been braced for a total disaster since he decided to play the solo hero. Were you actually worried? He smirked. Yumi's face flushed deep crimson as she frantically denied ever caring that much. It's just that your death would be a PR nightmare for my father, she blurted as they exited the woods. He filled her in on the chaos. So they were actually trying to summon the demon lord, she asked. Doubt it, he replied. Then what's the endgame, she wondered. He simply shook his head. The truth was still hidden. The ritual tanked once the magic circles were trashed. Yumi frowned, calling it a wasted opportunity for intel. Crucial data was lost forever. Mincho stayed silent about the wolf. Keeping Fenrir a secret was definitely the move. Either way, she whispered, we'd be in deep trouble if you hadn't shown up to save the day. He flashed her a confident grin. If you're that grateful, how about a reward that's actually worth my time? That finally made her laugh. He gave his word to speak with her father, but a sudden realization struck her as she eyed the poodle. What breed is this? She narrowed her eyes. He prayed she hadn't realized this dog was actually the legendary Fenrir. Luckily, that thought was far from her mind. She just scoffed, annoyed he'd drag a tiny puppy through a dangerous gate. Minchul exhaled in relief, claiming he found the stray nearby. She gasped, calling his reckless actions absolutely insane. How could he bring such a defenseless little cutie into a literal death trap? He explained the pup seemed abandoned, and he couldn't just walk away. Fenrir, however, let out a very offended bark. Nobody dumped me. Fenrir fumed internally while the girl kept badgering Minchul with a million questions. She kept lecturing him, but Fenrir wouldn't quit yapping. Man, things got exhausting the moment those gates slammed shut. Elven embassy officials scoured the area for dark elf tracks, but they came up completely empty-handed. They nabbed a few thugs while smashing the magic circles, but the rest vanished, erasing every trace of their escape. They were like ghosts. Left with no choice, Vera Sion personally reached out to Minchul for backup. After draining the creature's chaos energy, he uncovered proof that the dark elves weren't actually serving Deimos at all. Grabbing Fenrir, Minchul declined the request, doubting they had anything worth his time. Varys simply nodded, accepting the rejection. Varys admitted they couldn't just treat him like a permanent 24/7 cheat code. Minchul made it clear he expected a massive payday for his heroics. A single blank check wouldn't cut it. Right. Varys promised a reward that wouldn't disappoint. He might not look flashy, but he is loaded. Being royalty has its perks. Money is no object. Before heading out, Minchul requested a direct heads up. He wanted to know the second they unmasked the puppet master behind the Dark Elves. With that, they parted ways. Since Deimos wasn't their god, Minchul knew a mysterious new player was pulling the strings from the shadows, and the moment he identified this demon, he would personally make sure they didn't live to regret it. He grinned, picturing himself spinning that demon by the horns like a propeller. Fenrir just yawned, complaining about hunger. Back home, Minchul collapsed with a heavy sigh, craving rest. But wait, wasn't that dog starving? Why was this mutt such a diva? Fenrir had already sampled several bowls, leaving a total mess everywhere. Fenrir barked in disgust at the subpar meal. Finally snapping, Minchul's patience evaporated into a loud shout. When asked earlier, the wolf claimed he'd eat anything. Fenrir just doubled down on his annoying complaints. He ranted about hating anything sour, spicy, or salty, blaming Minchul for serving such inedible trash. Then what can you eat? Minchul snapped. Fenrir looked puzzled. Back in the day, he was always just full. Exhaustion hit Minchul hard. He had to remind himself this fluffball wasn't some basic neighborhood poodle. He was a literal god-eater. No wonder his palate was a bit more sophisticated than a regular canine's. Maybe a werewolf diet was the key. As he brainstormed, a certain girl popped into his mind. She would definitely have the answers. When Ellie arrived, she instantly scooped up the poodle, cooing over the cutie. Minchul was shook. He'd never seen this side of her. She leaned in, asking the pup about his lineage. Minchul explained the dog had amnesia and was stuck in this form, unable to transform back. She beamed, sensing an ancient, powerful aura radiating from him that put noble families to shame. This scent was legendary. Minchul gave a shaky smile as she admitted he had truly caught her off guard. When he called asking about werewolf diets, she was floored. After all, she is a werewolf dog herself. She never expected him to seek her expertise. Wait, you're actually a werewolf? He asked, totally stunned. Talk about a wild coincidence. She asked for the poodle's name, and Fenrir proudly introduced himself. But Minchul cut in, calling him Pengu, claiming his amnesia caused some serious delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's Fenrir, Minchul lied. Ellie's eyes welled up with pity for the confused little pup. Fenrir was fuming at the disrespect, yet his tail wouldn't stop wagging as she pulled him close. He looked nothing like Jormungandr. Amidst the fluff, Minchul warned Ellie not to fall for his act. Don't let the curls fool you. This is a 1,000-year-old monster trapped in a pint-sized body. Why did it feel like he'd just been outplayed by a dog? Next stop, the Interstellar Union office. Time to get Fenrir a proper feast. Minchul sighed, realizing he'd basically become a glorified dog sitter. He never imagined she would serve him ruby meat. For 200,001, monsters from the mythic era are notoriously difficult to satisfy. Ordinary noodles or canned rations would have sufficed. Ellie leaned in, her gaze intense, as she asked when their next encounter would be. Minchul was completely lost, forcing her to clarify. Hadn't he promised to treat her to a proper lunch date? She wasn't expecting a stiff business meeting like this. That was the moment the crushing realization hit. He had totally blanked on his promise. She leaned closer with a playful smirk, testing him. He played it cool, lying through his teeth that he remembered every detail. She confessed she had been observing him for quite some time. His heart raced, failing miserably to hide his obvious surge of excitement. He eventually had to own up to his forgetfulness. Just as she pressed for a specific date, Marchand suddenly burst onto the scene. He felt like he'd been granted a divine reprieve. The dwarf rushed toward Minchul, beaming with joy at his unexpected arrival. He asked to join them, and Minchul agreed. However, as the dwarf immediately reached for the booze, Minchul questioned if he should be drinking. After all, he was the department head. The dwarf laughed it off, claiming that for his kind, beer is basically just sweetened water. Minchul took his word for it and decided he needed a drink as well. Once lunch concluded, they retreated to Marchand's private office. Minchul admitted he required his unique expertise. He promised his full support, and that's when Minchul revealed the legendary snakeskin. He inquired about enchanting the material. Marchand's eyes nearly popped out of his head. This item was clearly beyond priceless. When told it came from the tower, Marchand admitted that his own people could never have secured such a legendary prize. He reached out with trembling hands, eager to begin. But as he attempted to use his skill, a look of pure confusion washed over him. The skin completely repelled his recognition skill. He warned Minchul that unlocking this item's true potential would be an immense challenge. Minchul revealed it was a cloak forged from world serpent scales. Marchand gasped in absolute shock, reeling from the revelation. This was his first time touching something so divine. Minchul wondered what use it had if it remained permanently locked. Marchand looked visibly shaken by the challenge. He wondered if there was truly nothing his legendary skills could do to help. He suggested that only his master could handle such a divine request. The cloak was currently a heavy, useless burden until unlocked. It seemed he couldn't even wear it yet. This treasure was far more significant than he imagined. Could they actually find a master craftsman? He assured him that he knew a few elite artisans who would be obsessed with this offer, and promised to contact them. But there was one more request. Minchul presented a unique dagger, stating he needed 10 identical replicas, forged immediately. Marchand perked up, examining the blade's fascinating design. The balance and center of gravity were unlike anything he had ever seen. He asked if it was intended for throwing. Minchul confirmed his plan, intending to use the blades as high-tier consumables. He planned to attach unbreakable threads to the hilts, allowing him to pull the daggers back to his hands instantly. Marchand studied the edge carefully. For a tactic like that, he recommended using arachnid silk for its superior strength. Minchul knew the triple hidden blade technique was an elite art, requiring exactly 10 daggers to execute. It was vital to complete the full set. Suddenly, Marchand received a frantic call from the contractor building the training facility. He was pulled away from the dagger, while Minchul stepped out to rejoin Ellie and Fenrir. After the call, Marchand shouted out. He called Minchul over in a state of pure excitement. The builders were baffled by the magic circle drawn on the training ground. As soon as his partner saw the design, she became desperate to meet the creator. Minchul noted she certainly had an eye for talent. He wondered why she was so interested. Marchand explained she wanted to buy the formula, sparking a look of intrigue in Minchul's eyes. Soon, the CEO of Linswood Construction arrived. She aggressively burst into the office and slammed her business card onto the desk. Calling him a titan, she demanded he remember her name. She is Haran Linswood, and Minchul introduced himself in return. Marchand explained she founded her own firm because she refused to be a puppet for the Interstellar Union. She sternly told him to keep those private details to himself. Minchul watched her closely, wondering if she was actually a gnome. Her manner of speech was incredibly unique. Gnomes, like dwarves, were a race that lived and breathed for the art of creation. However, there was a key distinction. Dwarves were engineers by instinct, while gnomes operated like obsessive, brilliant scientists. Haran stared at him with eyes full of wonder. She needed to know if he was truly the one who drew that impossible magic circle. She claimed no human on Earth possessed such forbidden knowledge. The circle was composed of 18 perfectly balanced words. Upon closer inspection, she spotted runes, used exclusively by celestial beings. She was completely captivated by his secrets. She couldn't fathom how a human could wield runes meant only for angels and demons. He simply asked for her honest assessment. She traced the runes and sighed in pure admiration. It was a masterpiece of magical engineering that shattered all common sense. She was obsessed with how a mortal could use the language of heaven and hell. Minchul waited, asking what she truly thought of the circle. She explained that the runes were all clustered on one side, creating a high-density mana vacuum. Essentially, the circle drinks surrounding mana. Smirking, our lead admitted he finally saw why Marchand hired her. Chin held high, she bragged about being 10 times more capable than that bearded old man. Then she begged for the celestial runes, but he shut her down instantly. They were way beyond her. Mastering these runes requires a rare spiritual frequency that most people simply don't possess. She countered, pointing out he was human too. He knew celestial script was for higher beings only. This was a divine power reserved for elite souls. Even if he wanted to help her, she couldn't handle the weight. Still, he respected her hustle. Suddenly, he unsheathed his blade, flooding it with aura. The pressure made them sweat. Spotting hidden celestial marks among 18 common runes was no small feat. It was actually pretty cracked. Plus, her dedication was real. She'd bolted here the second she saw them. But those runes terrified her. She genuinely thought he was about to end her right there. Realizing he wasn't human sent her into a panic. As he stepped closer, she broke down crying. Instead, he brushed past and sketched a magic circle. He told her to fuel it while she was shaking. She obeyed, muttering about how weak dwarves follow orders. Suddenly, thick smoke blasted her in the face. The room vanished in the haze. Everyone panicked in the blindness, Mincio, suspecting a deadly ambush. This was the legendary Six Formations technique, a secret heirloom from the continent's most prestigious bloodline, the renowned Cheagle family. This trap deletes your senses entirely. Right now they were just blind. Soon all 5 senses would shut down. He wiped the circle just in time and sight returned. He asked Haran for a breakdown of the circle's logic, but she was completely stumped. He revealed it was an elite trap. When she asked why he'd show her, he just smirked. She was a mirror of his younger, power-hungry self. He knew exactly how to handle someone that desperate. He decided to grant her wish. If celestial runes were too much, he'd find another path. He needed her help. Dwarves usually lived in chill harmony, relying on their insane magical intellect. Most traded ambition for safety, but Haran Linswood was built different. Hungry for knowledge and gold, her peers saw her as a total weirdo. Her home planet felt too small. Driven by greed, she used her artifact expertise to land a gig with the Interstellar Union. That's where she linked up with Marchan, crushing a massive union project together. Fame and fortune weren't enough. Then a disturbance from a far-off dimension caught her eye. It felt like a raging storm. A massive testing tower had risen to settle the war between Elysium and Pandemonium. Earth became the perfect neutral zone, and she couldn't resist the draw. Always down for a risk, she quit the Union to follow her gut. Earth was primitive compared to her tech. Stranded among humans, she dropped her Union savings to launch her own corporate empire. She fused magic with construction, making building speeds absolutely insane. Her magic circles let ordinary people taste the wonders of the arcane. She was winning, but then massive rivals like the Interstellar Union started closing in. While grinding with Marchan, she stumbled upon a magic circle that defied logic. She had to find the genius behind it. She was desperate for the runes, but then she got an offer she couldn't refuse. A master of artifacts Haran was staring at, tech that blew her mind. She had zero reasons to say no to Mincio. They shook on it. With this power, she'd leave her competition in the dust. The contract was signed. Financial stress gone. Step 1, the royalty fee. He'd grant her the secrets of a legendary trap circle. In return, she'd pay up for every project using his exclusive god-tier technique. The martial arts continent was short-lived despite its masters wielding devastating internal energy. Yet they flopped in every other sector. Plus, they were basically interdimensional hermits. To step foot here was a straight-up miracle for an outsider like him. Implementing trap circles into construction is genius. They pack a magical punch, but run on a unique wavelength. Rule 2. Total secrecy. His identity stays locked down while Linswood construction levels up. He stacks cash as they grow with zero risk if it all crashes. Meanwhile, Minchel moves. He offers Heron a deal. She recognizes him, the guy who blocked her exit from the Interstellar Union. She'd reject any union meddling in her craft. But he clarifies his past intentions. He thought she was acting rashly. This time it's his personal capital on the line, not theirs. Heron signs on, sealing the pact with a handshake. Minchel glimpses a familiar spark in her. He'd seen that burning gaze before. She's charging toward her destiny with relentless confidence. That raw ambition ensures she'll keep rising no matter how many times she's knocked down. She's a dreamer who won't take no for an answer. He's just giving her a little nudge. Deal done. He rises, confirming the contract. Her focus snaps back to him instantly. Eyes gleaming, she begs for a crash course in trap circles. She wants that power right now. After the auction, he insists. She's not happy about the wait. Why the delay? He ignores the pout, grabs Fenrir, and heads out for some high-stakes business. It's time to master ancient Celestia's arts. He takes his place in the training circle. He finally utilizes this expensive arena. Honestly, it's been a glorified storage room until now. At least it brought him Fenrir. But the energy he's tapped, just a drop. He needs total focus to drain the stone dry. One slip and he loses everything. 10 days to the auction. He must refine the stone's power through ancient techniques. Mastering this energy will perfect his inner world. Fast forward 10 days, the grind continues. He checks his status window. Damn. His stats have literally doubled in just 4 weeks. He's officially A-rank material. He stands bones cracking after a 10-day meditation marathon. Mixing Celestia's arts with holy fire creates a chaotic, unstoppable power. He could solo 3 A-rankers simultaneously without breaking a sweat. His level is still lagging though. It's time to fix that and power up for real. Fenrir senses the shift. His aura is massive. Can you feel that? The wolf asks. I've got a dog's nose for power, Fenrir quips. Minchel deadpans. Well, you are a dog. Fenrir's stats are still nerfed. He expected a recovery, but the seal is stubborn. He needs to break those chains. He pets Fenrir, who grumbles about the stink of effort. He keeps petting the wolf. He's powerful, sure, but there's more to it. He'll restore the legendary God Eater. Fenrir snaps, go bathe before you touch me. Snapping back to reality, Minchel heads for the showers. He needs to clean up. The auction requires class. He heads to the rendezvous point and settles in. Why the detour? Then Ellie appears looking absolutely stunning in her formal wear. He's stunned. No work today. Did you just hit the salon or something? A playful wink follows. She's here for her VIP. Fenrir is straight up starstruck. She's a total 10, a complete 180 from her usual look. Then she sees his fit. You're wearing that, she gasps. He's confused. What's the problem? He thought he looked sharp. She just grabs him. Move it. We're going. Global elites are attending. He can't show up looking like a background character. She won't let anyone disrespect her partner. Not on her watch. Total girlboss Fenrir cheers. Minchel wonders where the wolf learned that slang. She drops him off with the stylists. Fix him. The makeover squad moves in. Surrounded by creepy grins, our hero panicked, begging for a moment since makeup was a total first. Once finished, Ellie beamed, declaring his new polished look a perfect match for a decent man. He questioned his past appearance, but she insisted he looked absolutely elite in that moment. Baffled by the flawless fit, he wondered when she'd even prepped that formal suit. She revealed she'd secretly tailored the outfit to his exact measurements just to be safe. Stunned, he wondered how she'd scouted his sizes, without him ever saying a single word. Suddenly, she bolted for the exit, leaving him blindsided as he expected they'd arrive together. She confessed she was slammed, having barely squeezed in enough time to see him at all. Watching her vanish, he realized the Yangsan Union auction was clearly a massive deal. As Marchand's top lieutenant, her schedule was packed, yet he managed one final compliment. He praised her dress, making her smirk about how she slays in absolutely any outfit. With a final wave, she disappeared, leaving him mesmerized by her breathtaking transformation. Stepping inside the auction hall felt more like a high-stakes glamorous banquet. Fenrir gasped at the massive crowd, while his master warned him to stay on his best behavior. The beast snapped back in anger, while our hero noticed the room was crawling with legends. From A-list stars to politicians, the venue was stacked, much to Fenrir's nickname-fueled rage. He tried to flex his god-eater status, but was instantly silenced as a new voice cut through. A bubbly voice chirped from behind, asking about the cute pup. As a stranger approached, she immediately closed the gap, handing him a business card for someone named Ji-hyun. He introduced himself, haunted by the nagging feeling that he'd seen her face somewhere before. One glance at the card confirmed it. He was standing before the legendary Divine Guild leader. They were Korean royalty, one of the top 3 guilds backed by a massive corporation. As the Divine Group chairman's youngest daughter, her influence was practically absolute. Facing the legendary founder in person, he could only offer an awkward head scratch. He admitted he didn't recognize her, sparking a playful laugh at his blunt honesty. While the Divine Group was a local titan, he knew global powers still held more sway. Despite her massive status, he saw zero reason to be intimidated or act disrespectfully. Why worry? He'd already dismantled Hwarang, the top-tier guild everyone else feared. Ji-hyun admitted they'd been scouting him, and was hyped to finally corner him today. She'd reached out multiple times, but he looked back with a completely blank stare. She mentioned the post-exam period, and he suddenly recalled the mountain of 300 missed calls. With 500 texts blowing up his phone, he'd simply tuned out all that digital noise. Realizing he'd accidentally ghosted a VIP, he tried to make a quick, awkward escape. He tried to bolt, but she urged him to stick around and look at the bigger picture. Scanning the room, he finally noticed the sea of eyes locked directly onto him. The spotlight was heavy. Were all these power players really there just to talk to him? Ji-hyun noted his cluelessness, explaining he'd become the Hunter world's newest storm. His legendary performance had completely eclipsed every other contender to snatch first place. He'd dominated the exam even with elite guild prodigies breathing down his neck. He'd sent shockwaves through the community, yet he firmly refused to join any guild. She respected his stance, but warned that other vultures wouldn't be nearly as patient. Questioning her motives, she clarified she simply wanted to forge a powerful friendship. He doubted his exam victory alone was enough to earn this level of corporate interest. Ji-hyun dropped a bombshell. She'd seen the footage of his brutal Blue Guard clash. That fight alone proved he was destined to be Korea's absolute strongest hunter. He recalled his rookie days, barely a novice in the martial arts. Had she truly sensed his latent potential even then? Could she actually deduce everything from a single clip? This woman was no mere mortal. She simply smirked, her eyes sparkling. Befriending Korea's strongest hunter was her ultimate goal. In her eyes, no ambition was more worthy than that. Minchul countered with a smirk. She'd be Korea's best, sure, but he was destined to be the world's undisputed #1. She paused, then let out a lighthearted chuckle. "You're not mocking me, are you?" He grinned. "Not a chance," she shot back. "Fine, then she'd settle for being besties with the world's top hunter." As he studied her face, he realized her instincts were razor sharp. Her gaze burned with absolute confidence and a fierce pride in her own power. No trace of fear or fake flattery stained her words. Suddenly, the speakers crackled as the host chimed in. The main event was starting. A stone-faced guard marched toward Jian to escort her straight to the VIP lounge. She bid Minchul a graceful farewell, hinting at a future reunion before vanishing into the crowd behind her escort. Fenrir drooled, calling her a total smoke show like Ellie. Our hero sighed. "Is her looks really the only thing you notice? Talk is cheap, but actions show the truth," he countered. "Besides, you're always surrounded by legendary beauties anyway. Total lady killer, just like your old man," Fenrir teased. That jab hit a nerve, and Minchul decided it was time for some discipline. A 2-week meat ban, Fenrir's soul practically left his body as he desperately begged for forgiveness on the spot. With the wolf humbled, they strolled toward the grand auction hall. He flashed his exclusive invitation to the stern-faced guards. Security was tighter than a drum. While they scanned, Fenrir Minchul noted the heavy-duty tech protecting this high-stakes event. Approaching the entrance, a guard signaled him to halt. Masks are mandatory before stepping into the arena, he commanded. He scanned the selection. It seemed the Interstellar Union had spared no expense to keep this auction top-tier and mysterious. A quirky mask, a bald lion, caught his eye. The moment he slipped it on, he knew it was the perfect fit. A system alert popped up, a lion's illusion now shrouded him. After masking a grumpy Fenrir, they stepped inside. "Seriously," Fenrir grumbled. "Why the getup? I hate tight stuff." Minchul ignored the whining. "Keep it on, or your face will be all over the news." Safe behind his illusory disguise, he walked to his seat, relieved his privacy was bulletproof. Why even bother with makeup earlier? The mask's vibe felt strangely familiar. It reminded him of that intense training instructor from back in the day. Back in the tower, that guy had handed him the legendary key to the hidden treasury on floor 3. He settled in. Fenrir's eyes widened at the massive crowd, just as a stout dwarf took center stage. It was showtime. Marchand stepped up, introducing himself as the big boss of the Interstellar Union's Yongsun branch. He thanked the elite crowd for gracing their modest event. Minchul couldn't help but burst out laughing at the irony. Why's he so twitchy, he wondered. Fenrir scoffed. Did we seriously come here to watch a nervous dwarf choke on stage? Not even close, Minchul replied. Marchand beat a hasty retreat, scratching his head in utter confusion as he left. The dwarf was convinced Minchell was trolling him. Ellie glided onto the stage, flashing a radiant smile to kick things off. She's a total 10, Fenrir barked. Minchell gave him a sharp thwack. Quiet wolf. No talking until the final gavel drops. He activated Eyes of Truth. He'd already scouted the loot list long before setting foot in this high roller's den. The lineup featured a rare guardian bracelet, some nameless sword, and a cockatrice egg. Pretty standard stuff for most hunters. But for him, pure garbage. Nothing here could touch the masterpieces Marchand crafted back at the workshop. Custom-made gear from Marchand was a far better investment than this overpriced junk. He was ready to bail. Suddenly, Ellie unveiled a mysterious fragment, a mythical drop from a brutal B-rank gate that piqued everyone's curiosity. His Eyes of Truth flared. It wasn't just a fragment, it was a legendary rank key hiding in plain sight. Without his god-tier appraisal, it looked like worthless rubble. Nobody else moved. Seeing his chance, he instantly dropped a bid. Sold to guest 55, Ellie chirped. He was the lone bidder. Next up, 10 kilos of mithril and 5 of orichalcum. Minchell's eyes narrowed. This was the main course, the rare ores he desperately needed to evolve his dark star. The bidding war ignited. Guest 79 kicked it off, but guest 101 immediately countered with a massive 50% hike. Another 10% bump came from guest 32. Minchell smirked. Why waste time? He raised his hand, doubling the previous offer. Guest 55 just doubled the bid, Ellie shouted. 79 countered again. Minchell glared through his mask, his patience wearing thin. Who is this blue dog, he thought. Checking my pockets, he raised his hand again, but the stranger instantly outbid him. Now he was officially annoyed. Minchell cranked it up by 50%, but that persistent blue dog just wouldn't quit. Ellie's voice beamed as she announced the bid hit $13 million. Minchell scoffed, wondering if she was celebrating his bank account's funeral. Channeling the spirit of Varys, he whipped out a blank check and slapped a 10% increase onto the table. The blue dog let out a heavy, defeated sigh. Ellie finished her count, slamming the gavel down with authority. Sold to bidder number 55. Minchell's lips curled into a wicked smirk. That mutt should have stayed on his leash. Bidder 79 threw an icy judging glare in his direction, clearly salty about the outcome of the auction. As the event wrapped up, Minchell strolled into the banquet hall, mentally checking off his legendary loot list. Total victory. It felt just like the old days when everything in the world was his for the taking. The games were over. Now he just wanted his prizes. But his exit was blocked by a man named Alfred Graff. The American practically begged for a moment of his time. Minchell stared back, wondering who this random NPC was. He tried to brush him off, but Alfred's grin widened as he mentioned the mithril and orichalcum stash. Minchell froze. How the hell did this guy know those secret purchases belonged to him? You bought the divine metals, Alfred repeated, his eyes twinkling with a terrifyingly calm certainty. Wait, is this the blue dog guy? Alfred nodded casually, admitting he just really has a thing for canines. I don't care about your hobbies, Minchell snapped, though his internal alarm bells were screaming. That mask was shrouded in high-tier illusion magic. If his Eyes of Truth failed, how did this man see his identity? Activating his Eyes of Truth, he saw the real target Tennille, a 450-year-old celestial being. An angel with S-rank black baptism. Minchell's mind raced. What was a divine entity doing in a place like this? They retreated to the helipad for privacy. So you will have $20 million in 30 days, Minchell questioned. He wanted a buyback deal. Alfred smiled warmly, claiming they were destined to be the best of business partners. He promised riches, but Minchell wasn't biting. His eyes were fixed solely on the prize, the divine metals. Why the rush for the metals? And that black baptism energy, it felt eerily similar to Verdi's dark power. But there was no mark of the fallen. He was still pure, meaning a bigger player was pulling his strings. To probe his motives, Minchell addressed his annoying habit of mixing English and Korean in every sentence. Can't you just use translation magic? Your speech is giving me a headache, Minchell groaned. Alfred gave a sheepish grin. I don't know that spell, Alfred admitted. Minchell blinked. Is not that literally first-grade magic for your kind? Alfred stiffened, as divine radiance erupted from his skin, his human facade melting away into his true angelic form. How do you know what I am? Alfred whispered. Henry tensed, ready to strike. Master, is it time to hunt? Not yet, Minchell replied. I need answers, not a corpse. Honestly, this angel was a total clown. Old Minchell would have taken his head by now. Reincarnation had softened him, so he'd let this insolence slide. Open your eyes, kid, Minchell muttered, unleashing a massive wave of 100 units of pure divine energy. Holy fire was the ultimate litmus test. If this guy was a real angel, he would feel the weight of true authority. As the flames roared to life, Minchell gazed down at him. Do you really not recognize me, little one? Alfred's heart nearly stopped. That aura. It was the soul-crushing presence of a supreme being from the heavens. He slammed his forehead against the ground, trembling. Lord Michael, I am unworthy of your presence. One of the legendary 7. Minchell snapped his fingers, extinguishing the holy flames with effortless grace. I barely got a word in before he spiraled. I told him to chill his aura and look up, but he wouldn't budge. Lacking the right to meet my gaze, Minchell stayed quiet. This stubbornness is exactly why angels get on my nerves. Zero flexibility. I asked if he was curious how he ended up in this realm, and Alfred instantly dropped to his knees. Still too terrified to look up, he cried out that it was not true. How could a lowly being like him care? I told him to zip it and listen. The cold truth. Infidels have already crawled their way into Elysium. His head snapped up in shock. I pushed further, explaining that his own baptismal energy was the smoking gun. Panic flared in Alfred's eyes. He slammed his head back down, desperately begging for some kind of mercy. He was just following orders and knew nothing of the ritual. So I demanded to know who gave him that black baptism. Who sent him to Earth? He whispered, the name of a pillar, Adol. Min Cheol frowned. He had never heard of the guy. Figures he is just a bottom-tier 6th rank. I pressed him for his mission and he spilled everything. Apparently a massive ritual is brewing in America. He needed mithril and orichalcum for it. I rubbed my chin, puzzled. Dark elves and angels working together on a ritual? Something definitely smells fishy here. This operation is way above a 6th rank's pay grade. A pandemonium monarch is likely pulling the strings. However, this guy is clueless. Just like Taniel, he is a mere pawn being moved by a shadow puppeteer. To flush out the boss, I need Taniel on my side. I patted his head, calling him a pure soul. I bestowed a blessing of holy fire upon him. I warned him that when chaos erupts, vultures always target the innocent. The warmth hit Taniel, and he broke down in tears, thinking I had absolved his sins. He stared with pure awe. I gave him a reassuring pat and told him I had a job for him. He vowed to give it his all. From now on, he is my inside man. I have been a solo player until now, but today, I finally found someone I could use. That is how Taniel became my mole. He waved goodbye with a huge smile. He shouted that he would follow my every command, even if it meant walking through hellfire. He is determined to prove his worth. Thanks to Taniel's blind loyalty, I have finally got a grip on the situation. I sent him to dig up the ritual's dirty details. I have a feeling he can pull it off. I won't let anyone run wild on Earth, no matter who is in charge. Elysium's spies are none of my business, but playing the Holy Angel was almost embarrassing. I flashed a wicked smirk at Fenrir time to go pick up the goods. I am definitely no saint. When I finally linked up with Marchin, I dropped off the hall and he grinned, seeing I had snagged every single item on the list. I shot back that he was probably only helping me to line his own pockets. He acted offended, but then his eyes nearly popped. Wait, what kind of insane blank check is this? He asked. Where did you get this? He gasped. Top secret, I replied. He stared at Virasilent's signature, realizing his debts were history. I asked if he was in a hurry to meet his ancestors. The dwarf laughed it off, so I asked if the payment cleared. So the metal is mine now, he nodded. I reached out, pressing the black star against the pile of rare ores. I had been waiting for this forever. I gave the mental command, absorb everything. Pure energy surged from the ores instantly. Marchon had no clue what was happening and started freaking out. He was hyperventilating, but I just smirked. Relax, old man. Just watch and learn. The black star was starving, devouring the metal like a beast. Fenrir is a foodie, but this thing is on another level. At least the black star isn't picky. I dropped a fortune on this, but as the absorption finished, the dwarf's jaw hit the floor. The metal was gone in a blink. Meanwhile, I grinned at my gauntlet. Level 2 unlocked. I finally held a weapon of absolute power. Forged from a dying star's heart, it can manifest legends. I can morph its form into anything I imagine. I can even dual wield now. Every time the form shifts, my stats adapt to its unique power. This thing is indestructible. If I can recreate any weapon from my memories, then I just need to master them all. Level 2 only boosted Black Star to unique rank, but still, that is plenty. With a weapon for every style, my power is about to hit a whole new level.